Cultivators could move mountains and fill seas, their status exalted, while mortals were as lowly as ants, their deaths unworthy of regret. Chu Mo was the young master of the Chu family in a mortal town, yearning for the path of immortality, but finding no way in. On the eve of the decisive competition that would determine the family's survival, the rival family invited a peerless immortal maiden to their aid, bringing imminent destruction upon the Chu family. At the critical moment, Chu Mo awakened the all things intelligence system, learning the maiden's fatal weakness. Holding a secret too dangerous to speak aloud, he resolved to turn that untouchable immortal maiden into a puppet under his mortal control. A chill originating from the depths of his soul climbed up his spine, vertebra by vertebra, striking the back of his head. It was not due to the weather. In this sweltering summer in the mortal town of Qingshi, the air was as stifling as a steamer. The true chill came from the solitary white figure standing across the square. Her moon-white dress moved without any wind, and her entire being seemed enveloped in a faint halo, isolating her from the noise and filth of the mortal world, a beauty that shook the mundane realm. Though she released no terrifying aura, she made even the breathing of Chu Mo's clansmen around him heavy and labored, as if a 1,000-pound rock pressed upon their chests. It was absolute suppression from the level of life itself. A cultivator. That single title was enough to pronounce death upon Chu Mo and the Chu family behind him. In Qingshi City, the Chu and Su families had been locked in strife for ages. The two clans were hereditary enemies, with the current generation even more bitter, having erupted into large-scale conflicts that once alarmed the prefectural government. To stabilize Qingshi, the prefectural government issued a decree: the Chu and Su families must determine future control through martial competition. The loser would be brutally uprooted, left to the victor's mercy, and erased from the river of history. In the past, the Chu and Su families had traded victories and defeats. But this time the Su family had somehow managed to invite Luo Zhiyin of the Void Spirit Sword Sect, a lofty cultivator, to represent them in the competition. On the Chu side, the strongest were merely martial artists at the postnatal realm. Even Chu Mo himself, the eldest son of the Chu family, had only just touched the threshold of postnatal and could not yet shatter iron or stone. And cultivators could move mountains and fill seas. Before them, they were like ants. How could they fight? Despair like icy tide drowned every person in the Chu ranks. The Chu clan elders' faces turned deathly pale, their eyes dim, as if they already saw the clan's destruction and rivers of blood. Chu Mo stood at the front of the crowd, his expression as calm as water, though unprecedented pressure weighed on him. His spine remained straight as a spear. On his still youthful face, not much panic could be seen. Only his jet-black eyes, deep as a cold pool, reflected the transcendent, aloof figure of Luo Zhiyin. No one knew he was a transmigrator. Even fewer knew that years ago he had witnessed with his own eyes the cruel sight of cultivators wielding great power to slaughter mortals at will. Life and death depended only on their mood. They regarded mortals as weeds. The laws of the mortal world held no sway over them. That scene was deeply engraved in his soul, transforming into the most primal, most frenzied craving for power. Luo Zhiyin seemed to sense the gaze. Her cold, clear eyes swept over the crowd, briefly pausing on Chu Mo for a moment, then indifferently looked away. That gaze carried pride, disdain, and mockery, as if she had merely glanced over an insignificant speck. The Chu Clan patriarch, a fat, middle-aged man with a face full of brutish flesh, scurried up to Luo Zhiyin like a lapdog and flattered with a sycophantic smile. "Immortal maiden, please come to the manor for a feast. We have prepared thorough hospitality for you." After speaking, he shot a venomous glance at the Chu family crowd, then sneered and led the way away. His expression seemed to say, after tomorrow there will be no Chu family in Qingshi town. The Su disciples gathered around their patriarch also cast cold, mocking, and sarcastic looks. Arrogant, overbearing. The Su family's triumph contrasted sharply with the Chu family's despair. Many young Chu disciples had already turned ashen, and some even felt their legs go weak, nearly collapsing to the ground. Chu Mo clenched his fist, his nails digging deep into his palm, bringing a sharp sting that made him even more awake. Just then, ding! A cold, mechanical, yet utterly clear sound abruptly exploded deep in Chu Mo's mind, detecting host's intense sense of crisis and desire for power. The all things intelligence system is now activated. Chu Mo's pupils suddenly contracted. System. Having transmigrated and grown up over years, he had almost given up such impractical fantasies, never expecting it to appear at such a desperate juncture. Before him, a pale blue virtual interface slowly materialized, visible only to him. The interface was simple and clear, with only one core function: intelligence peep. Below was a line of small text explanation: consume designated currency money spirit stones to peep into the intelligence of all things. The higher the intelligence value, the greater the consumption. Chu Mo's heart raced uncontrollably. After a moment, he forcibly suppressed his excitement and quickly scanned his surroundings. His gaze fell on the money pouch at the waist of a Chu clan uncle nearby. Target: Chu Minjiwan's money pouch. Peep required 10 copper coins. Peep. Chu Mo willed it and selected yes. He clearly felt a few coins disappear from his pocket. Intelligence contains 320 copper coins, 1 xian of silver, and a 3-day-old roasted cake voucher expired. It worked. Though it was trivial intelligence, it confirmed the system's reality. Chu Mo's breathing quickened slightly, but his gaze grew even calmer and sharper. This modest ability was not enough to change the current situation. He needed more critical intelligence. His gaze shifted again to the figure across the square like an iceberg snow lotus. Luo Zhiyin. Could he peep into her? As soon as the thought arose, the system immediately gave feedback. Target Luo Zhiyin peep required 1,000 taels of silver, 100 inferior spirit stones peep, 10,000 taels of silver. Chu Mo's heart jolted. That was nearly half of the Chu family's liquid assets. But this was the only chance. Chu Mo's expression became resolute. Without a change after tonight, the Chu family would be gone, and he himself would not escape death. No amount of wealth would matter anymore. Peep. He issued the command without hesitation in his mind. He didn't have that much silver on him, but he knew the family treasury held plenty. Could the system deduct the silver remotely? Automatically linked to host identity, Chu family eldest son, determined to possess payment potential. Expenditure of family reserve 1,000 silver taels. Initiating peep. Ding. Intelligence acquisition successful. Name Luo Zhiyin, identity inner disciple of Spirit Void Sword Sect, cultivation late foundation establishment, sword cultivator technique, Spirit Void Ice Heart art, incomplete, physique, Taiyin mystic vein, extremely rare critical intelligence. Due to conflict between the Taiyin mystic vein and her technique around midnight on full moon nights, her spiritual energy completely dissipates, meridians temporarily seal cultivation. Vanishes, she becomes immortal for 2 hours. In this state, she is extremely weak and cannot use any divine abilities or Dao techniques. She has powerful enemies within the sect who covet her. By coincidence, she once owed a favor to the Su family's ancestors. To prevent assassins from striking during the full moon night, she used the excuse of repaying the Su debt to take refuge in a remote mortal place, like Qingshi, seeking a safe haven to endure her weak period. Interpersonal, her master is in secluded meditation, a powerful enemy faction within the sect. A massive flow of information flooded into his mind. Chu Mo held his forehead and lowered his eyes, feeling a sting on his scalp. But more than that, it was an indescribable shock and ecstasy. Taiyin mystic vein. Cultivation vanishes on the full moon night. Becomes mortal. If he remembered correctly, tonight was the full moon. Kill her while she's weak. No. Chu Mo suddenly recalled a strange technique he had obtained by chance years ago from an ancient book. Its name was Soul Contract, and the ancient book had been burned by Chu Mo. Soul Contract was bizarre and unfathomable. It could plant a contract on a target without their willing compliance, making life and death subject to the caster's control, compelling obedience without defiance. Once the soul contract had been of little use to Chu Mo. After all, who would willingly allow you to plant a soul contract on them, let alone use it on a cultivator? But now, the dark cloud of despair that had weighed on Chu Mo's heart was completely torn apart. He lifted his head and looked again at Luo Zhiyin in the distance. Now, this aloof, proud, immortal maiden who regarded him as an ant was no longer an invincible deity in his eyes. She was a prey about to fall from grace, bearing a fatal weakness. I will not only resolve the crisis of the family's survival, but also obtain what I have always desired most. This noble immortal maiden in the hands of this insignificant mortal will face the greatest nightmare. The Su family mansion was ablaze with lights, music, and dance filling the air with festivity. Luo Zhiyin sat at the head of the table, yet the sumptuous delicacies and fine wines before her went completely unnoticed. The patriarch of the Su family, his fleshy face beaming with an ingratiating smile, was all flattery. Around him, the Chu Clan members wore expressions of awe and eager anticipation. A flicker of disdain passed through Luo Zhiyin's beautiful eyes. A group of mortals. Repaying that trivial debt to the Su ancestors was nothing. She only needed a perfectly safe place to endure the hours when her cultivation would vanish at midnight. These lowly mortals were unworthy of sharing the same air with her. After a long moment, Patriarch Su, Luo Zhiyin set down her jade chopsticks, cast a sidelong glance, and spoke in a clear, pleasant voice. This place is too noisy and polluted, hindering my cultivation. I need a quiet place to prepare for tomorrow's duel. The smile on the Su Patriarch's face froze for a moment, then he hurriedly said, "The immortal speaks wisely. It was my oversight. There is a meditation chamber prepared for the immortal, guaranteed to be undisturbed. No need." Luo Zhiyin stood, her moon-white dress moving as if stirred by an unfelt wind. "I will find a place outside the city. Meet me at the square tomorrow at dawn." Human hearts are treacherous, especially when one's power is gone, and even an ordinary martial artist could defeat you. To be absolutely safe, she could not stay here tonight. The Su Patriarch tried to speak, but meeting Luo Zhiyin's icy, piercing eyes, he swallowed his words. He could only force a smile. Yes, the immortal may do as she pleases. We await the immortal's good news." Luo Zhiyin gave a slight nod, then her figure blurred into a streak of light, vanishing into the sky. Watching the streak of light fade, the Su patriarch's flattery faded, replaced by admiration and longing. The Chu family mansion ancestral hall. Chu Mingyuan, Chu Mo's father and patriarch of the Chu family, sat in the main seat with a grim face. Candlelight flickered, casting shadows on the ashen faces of those below. The atmosphere was dead silent, suffocating. Suddenly a figure burst in. Bad news. The third elder in charge of the treasury said in a hoarse, terrified voice, the treasury. 10,000 silver taels have vanished into thin air. Boom. The news hit like a stone thrown into stagnant water, stirring up a huge commotion. What a 10,000 taels. Misfortunes never come singly. Heaven is destroying the Chu clan. Despair spread like a plague, many elders' faces turning deathly pale. Just then Chu Mo's calm voice rang out clear and distinct. I took the silver. In an instant, all noise ceased. The ancestral hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared blankly at Chu Mo. Chu Mo rose from his side seat, meeting Chu Mingyuan's incredulous gaze, his tone steady. With this 10,000 taels I can win the duel tomorrow and give our clan a chance to survive. Nonsense. An elder couldn't help but interrupt. What chance can 10,000 taels buy? That's a cultivator. How can we win? You're not the one fighting, young master. You're talking from a position of ease. If there's no certainty, don't. Chu Mo clasped his hands behind his back and glanced at the elder. Have I ever done anything without certainty? The other fell silent, eyes wide. Chu Mo continued, don't forget. Who has been managing the family's business these years, who recovered the lost markets from the Chu clan's pressure, and who multiplied the silver in the treasury several times over. At Chu Mo's words, the elder's momentum deflated, and the rest of the hall fell silent, no one daring to. Chu Mingyuan looked at his son, who had always been calm, sharp, and exceptionally intelligent since childhood. His eyes gradually brightened from their gloom. Moer, what's your plan? Chu Mo said, with this 10,000 taels, I bought information that will let us turn the tables tomorrow. Tonight at midnight, I need to go out and act on that intel. Please grant me permission, father. Chu Mingyuan stared at Chu Mo for a long time, then nodded heavily. Could I trust you? Do you need men? No, we'll go alone. Moer. His mother stepped forward, taking his hand with concern. Be careful. If it's too dangerous, don't push yourself. Mother, rest assured. Chu Mo held his mother's cool hand, his tone soothing. He'll return before dawn. Near midnight. The night was as dark as ink, the round moon eerily bright. Chu Mo changed into a tight black outfit, left the Chu residence, and vanished into the silent, deep alleyways with a few leaps. Luo Zhiyin was in a hidden cave among the rocky slopes of the western mountains outside the city. This was the intelligence given by the system, including the target's subjective plan. Under moonlight, Chu Mo's figure darted swiftly through the forest, far faster than an ordinary martial artist. His heart pounded, not from fear but from the thrill of about to seize control of everything. If he succeeded, this would not only be the clan's salvation, but also a perfect springboard for him to step onto the extraordinary path. Finally, he stopped not far from a cave entrance concealed by vines and rubble. Extremely hidden, without the system's intel, it would have been impossible to discover. Chu Mo concealed all his aura, creeping forward like a stalking leopard. Suddenly, he frowned, a thoughtful expression on his face, and stopped. Something was wrong, too quiet. He wondered if he could scout the area around the cave. As the thought arose, an interface appeared before his eyes. Target situation around the cave. Inquiry cost 10 taels of silver. Inquire. It worked. Yes. Intelligence. There is a prelaid automatic array around the cave with concealment and killing functions. Any mortal who trespasses will surely die. Spend 100 taels of silver or 1 low-grade spirit stone to analyze the array's weakness. Just as he guessed. If he were in her place, he wouldn't have made no contingency while powerless. Good thing he wasn't blinded by excitement. Analyze. Instantly, in Chu Mo's eyes, a safe route to the cave entrance emerged among the perilous surroundings. Precise at an ingenious angle. It exactly avoided all deadly traps. Chu Mo stepped forward, his trajectory perfectly aligned with the path, arriving at the cave entrance. The elaborate formation laid by a foundation establishment cultivator was rendered useless before a mere mortal. Inside the cave, a faint, erratic aura came to him. He gently parted the vines. Moonlight filtered through a crack in the cave roof. Inside the cave, Luo Zhiyin sat cross-legged, her face normally cold and exquisite, now deathly pale, beaded with cold sweat that soaked her temples. Her eyes were tightly shut, long lashes trembling violently. She was in the weak period of cultivation, lost no spiritual energy detectable, her aura as faint as a gravely ill mortal woman's. She knew how frail she was now. Not to mention cultivators, even a strong mortal martial artist could overpower, so she chose what she thought was a foolproof hideout. Yet, a clear footstep abruptly sounded in the silence, calm but unhurried, yet each step pounded against Luo Zhiyin's heart like a drum of nightmare. Who? How could anyone be here? She had chosen such a remote spot, and set up the array. Luo Zhiyin's eyes snapped open, her phoenix-like pupils instantly filled with shock and terror. At the cave entrance, a black-clad youth, his silhouette devouring the moonlight, walked in slowly. It was him. With the cultivator's exceptional memory, Luo Zhiyin recognized Chu Mo. He was one of those Chu Clan members from earlier that day. Back then she had viewed him as nothing more than insignificant dust. But now, coincidence, luck. She had no time to think how he bypassed the array and found her. Luo Zhiyin's heart nearly leaped from her chest. A primal fear seized her, cold sweat streaming. But she forced herself to calm down after a moment. Must not panic. He cannot know my true state. He doesn't know I've lost my cultivation. A cultivator's deterrent to mortals is powerful. If I can scare off this ant, I'll be safe. Mortal. Luo Zhiyin's voice remained cold and imperious, but she couldn't suppress a tremble. Trespassing on my meditation ground, do you seek death? Chu Mo stopped, standing not far from her. He looked at her pale face and those eyes, trying to feign composure. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold, mocking smile. His voice was teasing. Fairy Luo, what makes you think you can say such words? Chu Mo's emotionless eyes looked at her like an interesting toy. Isn't it obvious that right now your spiritual power is gone, your meridians are sealed, and your cultivation is completely lost? Chu Mo's words struck Luo Zhiyin's mind like a thunderbolt. Her pupils shrank to pinpricks, and the blood in her veins seemed to freeze instantly. A bone-chilling cold surged from his soles to the crown of his head. How could he know? This is impossible. An unprecedented terror like a cold abyss instantly engulfed Luo Zhiyin completely. She stared fixedly at Chu Mo's face, her mind blank. She felt that his seemingly warm, yet utterly cold smile was more terrifying than the most dreadful nightmare in the world. No, stay calm. I must stay calm. She forcibly suppressed the tumult within her heart. He must be trying to kill me while I am weak, allowing the Chu family to win. But he is just a mortal. As long as I pretend that my cultivation hasn't been lost and intimidate him, there will still be a chance to catch him off guard and kill him. You? Luo Zhiyin struggled to maintain her icy pride. Where did you hear such nonsense? She stood up and said coldly, my cultivation has not disappeared. I believe someone wants you to find me and send me to my death, hence fabricating lies to deceive you. Luo Zhiyin secretly gathered her remaining strength, speaking as she approached Chu Mo. Without spiritual power, she exerted all her might to project a sense of pressure. Who told you this false information? She pressed closer. That person who disturbed my quiet cultivation deserves to die 1,000 deaths. If you tell me, I can spare your life. At this moment, Luo Zhiyin was merely 2 steps away from Chu Mo. A cold light suddenly flashed in her eyes. A dagger slipped from her sleeve, glinting coldly as she lunged at Chu Mo's heart with all her strength. However, ding. A soft sound. The dagger, infused with all her hope, was easily caught between 2 fingers that Chu Mo had casually extended, as if he had anticipated her move. Not a single inch could advance. The fierce expression on Luo Zhiyin's face froze instantly. The playful arc at the corner of Chu Mo's mouth deepened. With a slight exertion of his fingers, the dagger slipped from her grasp and clattered to the ground. In the next moment, slap! A resounding slap struck Luo Zhiyin's pale, exquisite face. The immense force sent her flying, crashing against the stone wall. Her cheek burned with pain, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, half of her face rapidly swelling. Luo Zhiyin was completely stunned. Humiliation. An indescribable humiliation. She had actually been slapped by a mortal. Before she could regain her senses, a shadow loomed. A cold, powerful hand gripped her slender neck like an iron claw. The sensation of suffocation surged. Luo Zhiyin's face flushed red as she futilely tried to pry away the hand that was like a tree crushing an ant. She was lifted by Chu Mo with one hand, her feet dangling in the air. The shadow of death felt so real. Luo Zhiyin was utterly panicked. All her pride and pretense shattered in an instant. Let me go. She struggled to squeeze out her voice. You cannot kill me. I am a cultivator, a disciple of the Qingshi Sword Sect. If you kill me, my master, the sect, will not spare you. They will flatten your Chu family. Exterminate your entire clan. This was her last resort. She did not believe a mortal would dare offend a sect of cultivators. Upon hearing this, Chu Mo loosened his grip slightly, allowing her to catch her breath. A glimmer of hope lit up in Luo Zhiyin's eyes. But she heard Chu Mo chuckle softly, his tone chilling. So what? Bang. A dull thud. Chu Mo's fist slammed into Luo Zhiyin's soft abdomen. Puff. Luo Zhiyin was struck as if by lightning, instantly curling up like a shrimp. A mouthful of stomach acid mixed with blood spewed out as she fell heavily to the ground, coughing violently, with tears uncontrollably streaming down. The excruciating pain made her tremble, but what plunged her into deeper despair was Chu Mo's next words. After all, the Chu family was bound to perish. I, a mere mortal, can kill a cultivator and drag the Chu family down with me. How does that sound? Chu Mo looked down from above, his gaze icy. Not a bad deal. Don't you think so, Fairy Luo? This madman. Luo Zhiyin's heart sank into an ice pit. really dares to kill her. All means lost and icy fear seized her, leaving her feeling cold all over. After a fierce internal struggle, finally, no, please don't kill me. Luo Zhiyin's voice trembled, no longer with any room for negotiation. I beg you. I will agree to anything you want. She was afraid. In the face of death, there was no difference between immortals and mortals. Chu Mo looked at the fairy who had just moments ago viewed him with disdain, now reduced to a pitiful state, begging for mercy from him, a mortal. A twisted pleasure rose within him. He looked down from above, his voice deep and oppressive. Wanna live? Luo Zhiyin nodded desperately, her eyes glistening with tears. Then do as I say. Chu Mo raised his index finger and pointed down. Kneel and bow to me. Luo Zhiyin's body stiffened, her pupils dilated in disbelief. Kneel and bow. Let her, a dignified cultivator, bow to a mortal whom she despised. Resistance. A strong wave of resistance. Her pride and dignity fought against her with all their might. But not kneeling means death. The intense struggle changed her expression. In the end, the fear of death overwhelmed everything. Luo Zhiyin bit her lip tightly, blood seeping out as her body trembled uncontrollably. Then under Chu Mo's gaze, she slowly, humiliatingly bent her knees. Thud. Her knees hit the proud fairy lowered her head. Her forehead slowly pressed against the dust-covered ground. This bow seemed to drain all her strength and utterly crush her pride. At that moment, a foot carrying an irresistible force stepped on the back of her head and gently twisted. Luo Zhiyin trembled all over. In the midst of extreme rage, shame, and humiliation, her tears spilled uncontrollably, soaking the ground. Very good. Chu Mo's voice carried satisfaction. Fairy Luo is quite sensible. He withdrew his foot, looking at the prostrate Luo Zhiyin. Now I will give you a chance. Let go of your mind and do not resist in any way. I am going to plant a secret technique on you. If you obey, Luo Zhiyin lowered her head, her eyes flashing with deep resentment. Secret technique. A mortal without spiritual power, what powerful secret technique can he exhibit? It must be a watered-down version that barely controls mortals. Once she regains her cultivation, she will return today's humiliation 100-fold. Let him be unable to live or die. With hatred surging in her heart, she dared not show it on the surface, and replied in a mosquito-like voice. Yes. Chu Mo took out a black dagger etched with bizarre runes. This was a one-time medium for the soul contract. It was paired with the original text that recorded the soul contract's strange technique. Chu Mo cut his fingertip and let his blood drip into the rune's groove. The runes on the dagger instantly flickered with a demonic red light. Chu Mo held the dagger and walked in front of Luo Zhiyin, half squatting. Look up. Luo Zhiyin raised her tear-stained and dirt-covered face in humiliation. Up close, even in this state, her breathtaking beauty could not be concealed. Chu Mo held the dagger, pointing it at her forehead. Remember, do not resist, or you will die. The cold tip of the dagger pressed against Luo Zhiyin's brow. Luo Zhiyin shivered all over, the will to survive forcing her to suppress any thoughts of resistance. She tightly closed her eyes and released her mind. Sizzle. The dagger pierced slightly into her brow, blood seeping out. Chu Mo began to chant a cryptic incantation. The blood from Chu Mo on the dagger transformed into thin red lines, merging into the wound on Luo Zhiyin's brow, disappearing without a trace. Buzz. The black dagger emitted a light sound, then crack, shattered into powder. It worked. Chu Mo thought. The one-time medium needed to be refined after cultivating. Fortunately, he had already grasped Luo Zhiyin, the channel to the path of cultivation before him. At this moment, Luo Zhiyin suddenly noticed the increasingly aggressive gaze from Chu Mo. You? If you dare to touch me, I will kill myself. Luo Zhiyin's voice suddenly trembled, filled with determination. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow. Since she was willing to submit earlier, he didn't believe Luo Zhiyin was a chaste and virtuous woman. Reason. Before I reach the golden core stage, I absolutely cannot lose my primordial yin. Otherwise, my cultivation will collapse, and I will be unable to advance. The soul contract sensed that Luo Zhiyin was not lying, and that she indeed had a strong suicidal intent. Chu Mo pondered for a moment, suppressing any alluring thoughts. Although he could control Luo Zhiyin to prevent her from committing suicide, this woman still had great utility. She was at the late stage of foundation establishment, and for him, who had no self-protection ability in the cultivation world, a henchman who could soon promote to the golden core stage was of great value. Killing the goose that lays the golden eggs is unwise. Chu Mo's thoughts shifted, and the power controlling Luo Zhiyin's body instantly vanished. Luo Zhiyin felt as if she had received a great reprieve, quickly pulling up her clothes to tightly wrap herself, her body trembling violently from fear and humiliation. The gaze she directed at Chu Mo was filled with fear and hatred. Chu Mo stood up, straightening his black clothing. I will personally participate in the competition tomorrow. He commanded from above. At that time, I will give you instructions through my mind. You will cooperate with me in acting. Do you understand? To prevent Luo Zhiyin from appearing, the Chu family and Su family originally had a 50-50 chance. If she appeared in a fake match, the Chu family would win, without a doubt. Hearing this, Luo Zhiyin lowered her head in humiliation, her teeth nearly biting through her lip. Understood. Very good, then I will take my leave for now. Tomorrow you must arrive on time. Chu Mo used the binding power of the soul contract in this sentence, not fearing that Luo Zhiyin would disobey. After speaking, he turned and left, striding into the moonlight. Luo Zhiyin curled up alone in the cave, her clothes disheveled, tears still wet on her cheeks, her eyes filled with shame and despair. That damn lowly mortal. Not only humiliating her like this tonight, but tomorrow he would also make her a high-status cultivator display her humiliation before all the mortals in the city. He would play both the role of a despicable villain and a savior. Truly detestable. After more than an hour had passed, Luo Zhiyin sat cross-legged in the cave, clearly sensing that the reassuring power was gradually returning. Her dried-up meridians, like parched earth after a long drought, were replenished with spiritual energy. She slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and a cold glint flashed within her eyes. That mortal had merely taken advantage of her weakened state, using some secret art to temporarily control her. But no known secret art could truly dominate a cultivator's soul across the insurmountable chasm between the Foundation establishment stage and a mere mortal. Once she fully recovered, that so-called secret art would inevitably fail due to the vast disparity in their power. At that moment, she would tear that ant to pieces, extract his soul, and refine it to vent this unprecedented humiliation and quell the fury burning within her heart. This was precisely why she had chosen to stoop and endure for the time being. A stick of incense is timed quietly. Luo Zhiyin suddenly opened her eyes. Two sharp beams of light flashed through her gaze, and an imposing aura involuntarily radiated from her. Her cultivation base was fully restored. She rose abruptly, her spiritual energy surging, her moon-white robe rustling violently, as a bone-chilling, icy, murderous intent arose. She would immediately fly to the Chu residence and tear apart the mortal who had dared to defile her. Yet the very instant that thought emerged, buzz, an indescribable pain, as if her very soul were being torn apart, erupted ferociously from the deepest recesses of her sea of consciousness, like countless red-hot steel needles stabbing into her. Oh! Luo Zhiyin let out a piercing, agonizing scream. Her once beautiful face, now restored to color, instantly twisted in torment. Her delicate body trembled violently, and her vision went black as she collapsed straight back onto the cold ground. Bang! She clutched her head, desperately writhing and convulsing in agony on the dusty floor. Veins bulged at her temples, and large beads of cold sweat instantly soaked her hair and robes. Luo Zhiyin found it impossible to believe. For the moment she harbored the slightest murderous intent toward Chu Mo, or any hint of rebellious thought. That soul-rending pain would descend with perfect precision, leaving her in unbearable torment, as if her spirit were being ground to dust. No, impossible. Luo Zhiyin clenched her teeth so hard that blood seeped from her gums. She suppressed the bone-deep agony and furiously drove the newly restored spiritual energy within, attempting to break free from the invisible shackles. The result was that the pain intensified as if it would tear her soul into powder. Ugh! She curled up on the icy ground, her body trembling, uncontrollably suppressed, and painful groans escaping her lips, her consciousness beginning to blur. After an unknown interval, the seemingly endless agony receded like a tide. Luo Zhiyin lay collapsed on the ground in exhaustion, gasping heavily. Her entire body was drenched in fragrant sweat, her hair stuck messily to her pale cheeks, as if she had been pulled from water, utterly disheveled. In her eyes there was no trace of the earlier coldness or murderous intent. Only boundless terror and bewilderment remained. She finally recognized the cruel, suffocating truth, the bizarre secret art planted by that mortal. Even at the peak of her cultivation, it clung to her like a parasitic worm, firmly controlling her life or death, her will. She, an inner disciple of the Qingshi Sword Sect, a sword cultivator prodigy, a cultivator revered and admired by countless people, had been completely dominated by a mortal she regarded as dust, as an ant. The thought that from now on she would be at the arbitrary command of that mortal, perhaps suffering humiliation 100-fold, 1,000-fold worse than last night. Luo Zhiyin's heart fell into an abyss of ice, filled with desolation and biting cold. Regret, endless regret, and terror gnawed at her vitals like poisonous serpents. If only she had known, she would rather have fought to the death last night, even if it meant her body perished and her soul scattered, than suffer this living death and total loss of dignity. Luo Zhiyin's eyes gradually grew numb, her spirit utterly broken. The next day at dawn, the vast training ground at the center of Qingshi City was already seething with noise and crowded with figures. The scorching sun had heated the bluestone pavement until it was almost hot to the touch, and the air was thick with a tense, excited, sweltering atmosphere. Almost all the mortals in the city had gathered here, craning their necks and looking forward eagerly to the start of this grand competition that would determine Qingshi City's fate for decades to come. In the center of the training ground, a platform about 1 zhang high had been erected. A middle-aged official in a green official robe with a solemn face and an imposing air sat upright on a grand armchair at the center of the platform. He would serve as the referee for this duel between the Chu and Su families, responsible for recording the result and reporting it to the prefectural government for filing. The rules had long been announced simple and brutal. Each family, Chu and Su, would send one combatant. They would sign a life and death pact. The loser forfeited everything, the victor reigned supreme. The one representing the Su family was Luo Zhiyin, and the one representing the Chu family was Chu Mo. Except for the Chu family core members who had been informed in advance that the match would be fixed, everyone else jeered and booed at Chu Mo, showing no confidence in him. The Su family, believing the Chu family had already given up, sneered and taunted without restraint. Yet as the referee official announced the start of the match, Chu Mo drew a short blade from behind his back, managed to dodge several exchanges without being struck, and even engaged Luo Zhiyin in close combat. Finally, Chu Mo tripped Luo Zhiyin and leveled the blade at her throat. Everyone stared in stunned disbelief. Luo Zhiyin's hair was disheveled, her robes slightly rumpled, and her icy, peerless face bore an expression of utter disbelief. I concede. And silence descended upon the arena. And no, impossible. How could this be? And did my eyes deceive me? How could a cultivator lose to an ordinary martial artist? And Chu Mo, just how did he accomplish that? Damn it, refund my money. And after a brief suffocating stillness, a thunderous wave of shock and clamor erupted, so fierce it seemed the entire martial arena might collapse beneath its weight. Chu Clan Patriarch's smile froze solid on his face, as if doused head-to-toe with ice-cold water, chilling him to the marrow. His legs buckled, and with a dull thud, he collapsed into his chair. The other Chu Clan disciples stood dazed and bewildered. Even the provincial official seated at the center of the dais remained stunned for a long moment before abruptly snapping back to awareness. He drew a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the tempest raging within his chest, then declared in a ringing voice, "Victory goes to Chu Mo of the Chu Clan." And from the Chu Clan section, a deafening roar of jubilation erupted. Madame Chu wept tears of overwhelming joy, pressing both hands tightly over her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. Chu Mingyuan too trembled faintly with emotion, gripping his wife's hand with quiet intensity. Chu Mo rose slowly, sheathing his short blade. His gaze swept calmly across the crowd below, over those who had once scorned him, mocked him, dismissed him. Now only awe and incredulity remained upon their faces. That very day, word spread like a hurricane across Qingshi City. Chu Mo, an ordinary mortal, had defeated a celestial cultivator. Countless commoners who had not witnessed the duel stood dumbfounded upon hearing the news, stunned beyond measure. Qingshi City blazed with unprecedented fervor, ignited entirely by Chu Mo's name. Simultaneously, the provincial official issued judgment. The Chu Clan was to be formally erased from Qingshi City and all its assets transferred without reservation to the Chu Clan. The Chu residence overflowed with visitors, merchants, dignitaries, and influential figures arriving in unbroken succession to offer congratulations, gifts, and pledges of allegiance. In stark contrast stood the Chu Clan's tragic downfall. Those who had once fawned upon the Chu Patriarch now shunned him like venomous serpents, terrified even of the faintest association. Overnight, the Chu Patriarch plummeted from celestial heights into the mire, abandoned by kin and allies alike, utterly bereft of recourse. Nightfall. Chu Mo returned to his private chamber. There Luo Zhiyin sat motionless in the corner, draped in a moon-white gown that lent her an even more ethereal glacial grace in the dim candlelight. Her beautiful phoenix eyes burned with palpable fury, fixed unblinkingly upon Chu Mo. The humiliation of being trampled beneath his foot inside the cave, and the public defeat upon the martial platform before thousands of witnesses. And each memory pierced her heart like a razor-sharp dagger. Her hatred for Chu Mo surged to an unprecedented zenith. Were it not for the binding constraints of that accursed secret technique, she would have lunged forward without hesitation, to tear this contemptible mortal limb from limb. Immortal Luo, your performance in the match was flawlessly staged. I am thoroughly satisfied. Chu Mo poured himself a cup of tea, his tone unruffled. Now I have another request. Request? Luo Zhiyin's expression remained impassive. You mean command. And your pragmatism is truly invaluable, Immortal Luo. Chu Mo paused briefly. Then I shall speak plainly. I require you to teach me cultivation. Teach you cultivation. And Luo Zhiyin drew a slow, steadying breath, suppressing both murderous intent and searing humiliation, and replied with forced patience, cultivation demands formal admission into a sect. A sect? And precisely, Luo Zhiyin continued. The spiritual veins, spirit mines, and rare heavenly materials across this realm are all tightly controlled by major cultivation sects. Rogue cultivators stand no chance of survival. and moreover gaining entry into a sect is no sin. Ordinary mortals, unless born prodigies bearing official recommendation or backed by imperial authority capable of delivering immense strategic value to the sect, cannot even lay hands upon its mountain gate. Chu Mo furrowed his brow slightly. It was akin to mortal aristocrats monopolizing every vital trade, leaving commoners with virtually no path to ascend. To obtain resources, one must either wield influence or join their ranks and serve them loyally, receiving only scraps in return. A rigid hierarchy forged through entrenched interests and mutual dependencies had calcified the world into absolute strata. And to dismantle such inequitable distribution demanded resistance and the assertion of rights. Yet in the cultivation world, supreme power suppressed all dissent. Our rebellion was destined to fail. And countless ants could never topple a towering ancient tree. You mentioned recommendation. Can you secure my entry into a sect? Chu Mo asked. And he had already resolved to join Qingshi Sword Sect, the sect to which Luo Zhiyin belonged. I am an intersect disciple of Qingshi Sword Sect, Luo Zhiyin replied, a subtle note of pride coloring her voice. I do hold the privilege to recommend one candidate for outer sect admission. What qualifies one for such recommendation? In Qi induction, Luo Zhiyin answered. I shall transmit to you a foundational conduction scripture. You will attempt to sense the ambient spiritual energy, draw it inward, and circulate it throughout your meridians. The duration required to successfully complete this process serves as a rough gauge of your innate aptitude. Generally speaking, success within 1 month indicates marginal potential for cultivation. To qualify for my recommendation into Qingshi Sword Sect's outer sect, however, you must succeed within 5 days. Success within 3 days marks exceptional talent. Should you achieve it within a single day? Luo Zhiyin glanced at Chu Mo, her tone laced with barely concealed condescension. You possess transcendent talent, worthy of becoming a true disciple of the sect. Having spoken, she recited the obscure scripture to Chu Mo, then settled cross-legged beside him, closed her eyes, and entered silent meditation, utterly dismissing him. In her estimation, a young master from a mundane town, devoid of noble bloodline or years of tutelage, could not possibly achieve Qi induction within 5 days. It was pure fantasy. She believed Chu Mo would struggle for 10 days, or even weeks, perhaps failing forever. And Chu Mo, seated himself cross-legged, calmed his mind, and steadied his breath, and began attempting to sense the spiritual energy permeating the heavens and earth. Time slipped away grain by grain. Just as Luo Zhiyin grew bored and considered rising to stretch her limbs, and suddenly, in her exquisite eyes snapped open, whirling toward Chu Mo, her face alight with raw, uncomprehending shock. Before her, wisps of ambient spiritual energy swirled toward Chu Mo, as though drawn by an invisible force, converging visibly above his head into a tiny, swirling vortex. This is no sign of successful Qi induction. And how much time had truly passed? Luo Zhiyin's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. She stared intently at the visible, swirling spiritual energy above Chu Mo's head, her mind shaken to the core. From the moment she taught the technique to this mortal, to him channeling the spiritual energy, it barely took less than the time it takes to burn half a stick of incense. In her early years, she was hailed as a prodigy in sword cultivation, and when she first attempted to draw Qi into her body, it took her a full 10 hours. That was the foundation for her to become an inner disciple of the Qingshi Sword Sect with hopes of advancing to true inheritance. But before this mortal, her talent seemed like a firefly beneath the bright moon, hardly worth mentioning. He was simply a genius. Chu Mo slowly opened his eyes, carefully sensing the energy within his body. A wave of unprecedented comfort flowed through his limbs. He hadn't expected that his talent was quite good. What do you think, Luo Zhiyin? Is my humble talent sufficient for recommendation? Luo Zhiyin took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the tumultuous shock in her heart. Her fair and delicate face regained its usual coolness and aloofness. Just barely enough, she commented, stiffly, betraying no hint of emotion. In fact, with Chu Mo's talent, he was more than qualified to become a true disciple of the sect. The Qingshi Sword Sect releases a quota periodically where those recommended can skip the outer sect stage if they possess exceptional talent and directly enter the inner sect to apprentice under the elders. If nothing goes wrong, Chu Mo is bound to secure this spot. Strangely, a bit of the disgust and shame Luo Zhiyin felt faded away. It seemed that being driven by a genius in cultivation was much better than being controlled by a lowly mortal. In that case, we shall set off tomorrow for the Qingshi Sword Sect, Chu Mo decisively declared. He added, before we go, I would like to kindly request you to teach me a cultivation technique first. Upon hearing this, Luo Zhiyin silently took out an ancient-looking jade slip from her storage ring, reluctantly handing it to Chu Mo. This is the basic cultivation technique of the Qingshi Sword Sect, the Qi drawing technique. Take it and familiarize yourself with it first. Chu Mo received the jade slip and flipped through it, his fingers touching the cool jade. Inquiry. Objective Qi Drawing Technique Information. The basic technique of the Qingshi Sword Sect, only the Qi Drawing section can cultivate up to the 9th level of Qi Drawing. Its advantages are that it is balanced and gentle, does not harm the meridians, and is conducive to later transitioning to other advanced techniques. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow slightly. Luo Zhiyin, does your Qingshi Sword Sect not have any more formidable techniques? Luo Zhiyin suppressed her emotions, her voice still maintaining its coldness. Though this Qi drawing technique is not a powerful technique, it is the best foundation for foundation establishment, ensuring that it will not irreversibly shape your meridians. After you establish your foundation, you can switch to any other technique you desire. Various techniques are available in the sect's technique repository. Chu Mo sensed through their soul contract that Luo Zhiyin's words were not false, so he did not press further. He quietly studied the Qi drawing technique. Luo Zhiyin watched Chu Mo's calm profile, her feelings growing increasingly complex and difficult to understand. This man was shrouded in an enigmatic aura. He could accurately find the hiding places she had meticulously chosen and navigate around the formations she had personally set up without her noticing. He could also discern the fatal weakness from the time she had lost all her cultivation during her full moon, her greatest secret. Most importantly, he possessed an unheard-of, exceedingly domineering secret technique that could directly control her soul. This made her feel like a mere puppet easily manipulated before him. Now he had also showcased such a monstrous talent in cultivation. If not for Chu Mo's utter ignorance of the common knowledge in the cultivation world, appearing like a novice, she might even suspect that this guy was a reincarnation of some great figure, controlled by someone with such mysterious methods and terrifying talent. She feared that she would truly never have the chance to turn the tables again. As this thought crossed her mind, a deep sense of powerlessness and bitterness surged within Luo Zhiyin. However, that bitterness lasted only for a moment before she forced herself to regain her composure, lightly clenching her slender hand. No, she couldn't give up. She had to find a way to turn the tables and break free from his control, at any cost. The next day, as the morning light broke, Chu Mo bid farewell to his parents. When Chu Mingyuan and his mother learned that their son had not only successfully drawn qi into his body, but also possessed exceptional talent for cultivation. Moreover, he received a recommendation from the Exalted Fairy and was about to head to the legendary elusive sect to learn the arts. Both were filled with surprise and joy, unable to contain their excitement. Good, that's wonderful. Chu Mingyuan exclaimed, his face flushed with excitement, clapping Chu Mo's shoulder with pride and satisfaction in his eyes. My son Chu Mo truly is a dragon among men, not just a creature in a pool. Go, mower, boldly pursue your dream of immortality. As for the affairs at home, I will take care of them, you need not worry. With the Chu family now having the upper hand in Qingshi City, no rivals could threaten them, and Chu Mo could indeed leave with peace of mind. Chu Mo's mother tightly grasped his hand, her eyes brimming with emotional tears, repeatedly advising him. Mower, the journey ahead is long, and the path to cultivation is perilous. You must be very careful and never act recklessly. Be sure to take care of yourself, and do not worry us. Saying this, she stuffed a heavy pouch into Chu Mo's hand. This contains some travel expenses, keep it on you. When you are out, do not let yourself suffer. If you have some free time, do not forget to come home for a visit. A warmth surged in Chu Mo's heart as he solemnly accepted the pouch his mother handed him. He deeply bowed to his parents, then turned to face the rising sun, stepping away with a resolute and determined figure. As the morning light appeared, the mist had yet to dissipate. Chu Mo left the familiar Qingshi City alone. Outside the city, at the 10-mile-long pavilion, Luo Zhiyin had long been waiting. She still wore a simple moon-white dress, carrying the long sword Autumn Water on her back, cold as snow, like a fairy who does not partake in the mortal world, standing in stark contrast to the mundane scenery surrounding her. Let's go, Chu Mo said. Hearing this, Luo Zhiyin lightly raised her hand, summoning her flying sword. Get on. She stepped onto the flying sword, first glancing sideways at Chu Mo. Chu Mo unceremoniously stepped onto the flying sword. The flying sword made a humming sound, carrying the two of them soaring into the sky. To stabilize his position, Chu Mo extended his arm and embraced Luo Zhiyin's slender waist. Luo Zhiyin's body tensed. Chu Mo refused. Luo Zhiyin, you do not understand. I am immortal and must ensure my own safety. If by any chance I were to fall from here, it would mean certain death. You are utterly shameless. Luo Zhiyin gritted her teeth in anger, her delicate body trembling slightly. She wished to stab this audacious scoundrel with her sword immediately, but the deep-seated constraint made it impossible for her to resist any affectionate gestures from Chu Mo. She could only endure the unprecedented humiliation in a state of anger and shame, her hatred for Chu Mo deepening. The flying sword sped along like a streak of light. However, it flew a bit crookedly, jolting up and down, clearly reflecting the unstable state of its owner. During the flight, Chu Mo, feeling bored, tried to activate the system to see if he could retrieve the spirit stones Luo Zhiyin carried, just like he did in the Chu family storeroom. As a result, the system's cold prompt echoed in his mind. The target's loyalty trust level to the host is insufficient for remote withdrawal operations. Chu Mo pondered thoughtfully. It seemed that the ability to withdraw funds from the Chu family's storeroom was not solely due to his status as the eldest son with the corresponding privileges. More importantly, he had gained the trust and recognition of the entire family. Whereas Luo Zhiyin was tightly bound by the soul contract and could not be said to trust him in the slightest. Though cultivators can fast and eat the wind, and Chu Mo had only just drawn qi into his body, remaining within the mortal realm, and unable to fast, he still needed to eat and rest on schedule. According to Luo Zhiyin, a cultivator must at least be at the mid-stage of qi drawing to go without sleep for extended periods. And to reach the late stage of qi drawing, one can meditate to replace sleep, but still requires periodic rest to recover energy. As the sky darkened, the afterglow of the setting sun painted the horizon in a magnificent orangeade. Luo Zhiyin descended the flying sword in a secluded mountain forest. Go catch some game, Chu Mo said as he leaped off the flying sword, stretching lazily before casually issuing his command. Luo Zhiyin's beautiful eyes widened in shock, trembling slightly from both shame and anger. To have her, a latest-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, do such crude hunting work was simply a profound humiliation. In the end, Luo Zhiyin bit her silver teeth and turned to enter the forest. Before long, she returned holding a plump rabbit that had been cleaned. Her pretty face was icy as she angrily tossed the rabbit at Chu Mo's feet. Chu Mo was indifferent to her attitude, skillfully starting a campfire. He skewered the rabbit with a branch and slowly roasted it over the fire. He then took out some jars and bottles of secret spices from his pack, evenly sprinkling them over the rabbit meat. These spices were specially researched by him, using memories from his past life to revitalize the family business, and once sold out in Qingshi City, bringing significant profits to the Chu family. The conflict that broke out between the Su family and the Chu family was also because of this matter, which had profoundly touched the interests of the Su family. Want to eat together? Chu Mo turned his head to ask Luo Zhiyin. No need, I have already fasted. Luo Zhiyin coldly turned her head away, her tone rigid and devoid of emotion. Soon the rich smell of meat mixed with the aroma of the peculiar spices spread through the quiet forest, whetting the appetite. The enticing fragrance that kept wafting into her nose made Luo Zhiyin involuntarily swallow. Once Chu Mo finished roasting, he tore off a rabbit leg and began to feast without a care. Luo Zhiyin cast glances at him several times, but ultimately held back. Only at such moments could she maintain a shred of dignity. But it was so torturous. Luo Zhiyin struggled to support herself with her arm, her delicate body trembling slightly. Luo Xinzi, could you come and massage my shoulders? I've been holding you for a whole day and am a bit tired. While Chu Mo chewed on the delicious rabbit leg, he casually instructed, his tone extremely nonchalant. This bastard. This was simply too much. Luo Zhiyin lost her composure, anger surging within her, her jade hand showing veins, as she nearly plunged her sword into Chu Mo's heart. In the end, Luo Zhiyin, in a fit of rage, just responded with a brief show of anger. She walked to Chu Mo's back in humiliation, extending her delicate hands. With a mix of reluctance and deep loathing, she fell on Chu Mo's shoulders, massaging back and forth. Chu Mo sighed in satisfaction. Suddenly Luo Zhiyin seemed to sense something, her willow brows furrowed slightly. Her gaze swept toward the dark and deep forest nearby. As the sky darkened and the moon climbed high within a hidden mountain stronghold, a one-eyed, burly man sat confidently on a tiger-skin chair. He was the leader of the bandits in this stronghold at the peak of the innate realm, a top-tier mortal. A scrawny bandit scout with a sharp face and beady eyes bowed and reported the situation. Reporting to the chief, I just discovered a man and a woman in the forest to the west. That woman. Tisk, the scout revealed a lewd expression, gesturing as he spoke. In all my years of wandering, I've never seen such a stunning woman. She is even more beautiful than the fairies in the sky. Oh, the one-eyed man became interested. But then he thought that the other party might be a cultivator. Out of caution, he asked, what was the woman like? The scout replied, that woman acted like a little wife, carefully serving the man roasted meat. The one-eyed man's eyes flashed with interest, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Does that man have any other guards with him? No, just the two of them, the scout answered affirmatively. Upon hearing this, the one-eyed man let out a sinister laugh and suddenly stood up from the tiger-skin chair. All of you, grab your weapons. Follow me to the forest. In his view, since the woman could serve a mortal who had not yet fasted, she was probably just a beautiful maid not to be feared. As for the man being served with no guards accompanying him, he probably relied on some martial prowess. But so, he was a genuine peak, innate martial artist, the king of bandits who no one dared to provoke within 100 miles. A mere mortal martial artist, no matter how capable, could not stir up a storm. Tonight, this heavenly beauty was destined to become his captive bride. Everyone get your spirits up. Follow me, and let's have some fun tonight. The one-eyed man waved his hand, and left the stronghold with a group of fierce-looking thugs wielding weapons. In the stronghold's storeroom, silver ingots were piled high. In a dusty corner, a glowing silver thread lay quietly bathed in the moonlight seeping through the window, shining with an otherworldly brilliance unlike any mundane object. Chu Mo finished the last rabbit leg, smacking his lips. He casually hinted, "It would be nice if someone could wipe my mouth for me." He liked to periodically test the subordinates' obedience and initiative. Luo Zhiyin's movements momentarily paused, her slender fingers tightening slightly. As if she hadn't heard, she continued to mechanically massage. Chu Mo added, "If no one is willing to help me wipe it off, I might have to ask someone to do it mouth to mouth." This statement made Luo Zhiyin's body tense up. A flash of shame and disgust crossed her eyes, only to be forcefully suppressed. Taking a deep breath, she pulled out a snow-white silk handkerchief from her storage ring and slowly made her way in front of Chu Mo. The handkerchief gently touched the oil stain at the corner of Chu Mo's mouth, the action seemingly meticulous. In reality, however, the force she used was almost enough to scrape Chu Mo's lips off. "Be gentle. If you use more strength, my lips will peel off." Chu Mo seized her slightly cold wrist, his faint smile somewhat piercing. Luo Zhiyin had to ease her grip, her voice cold enough to freeze water. "Is it done?" "Almost." Chu Mo lazily stretched the joints in his body, cracking lightly. "I'm tired. Let me lie down for a while. After eating sleep, are you a pig?" Luo Zhiyin thought to herself, but felt as though she had been granted a reprieve, preparing to quietly step back and distance herself from him. However, she heard Chu Mo's voice tinged with mockery echo again. "But I'm used to sleeping with a pillow, though I probably won't sleep well without one." "Luo Xinzi, give me a knee pillow, would you?" Luo Zhiyin bit her lip tightly, ultimately kneeling before Chu Mo in humiliation, adjusting her posture to present a standard knee pillow shape awaiting the head she despised to rest upon her. What kind of posture is this? A group of mountain bandits huddled among the bushes, stealthily observing the two in the clearing. Everyone was dumbfounded. They knew what a knee pillow was, but they had never seen anyone kneel like this. Only in the city can one play like this. No wonder we can only be bandits. Attack! Finally, a voice rang out, snapping the mountain bandits back to reality. Chu Mo heard the sound and stood up to look. He saw a dozen burly men wielding various weapons emerge from the darkness, led by a one-eyed strongman, whose imposing figure radiated a fierce aura. Mountain bandits. Chu Mo stared at the one-eyed strongman. "Target Huang, who cost the spy 50 silvers. Do you wish to spy?" "Yes." Information leader of the mountain bandits at the peak of innate cultivation, the strongest martial artist within 100 miles. The bandit lair has over 20,000 taels of silver and many rare items. Chu Mo's eyes brightened. Over 20,000 taels of silver and a plethora of rare items. The evaluation is akin to a treasure box monster. Huang He's single eye sparkled with greed, his gaze brazenly sweeping from Luo Zhiyin's flawless, beautiful face down to her slender waist that could hardly be grasped, saliva almost dripping from the corner of his mouth. "Kid, be smart and hand this beauty over to me willingly." He pointed his large curved blade at Chu Mo, his tone arrogant and domineering. "If I'm happy today, maybe I can spare your life." The bandit minions behind him burst into laughter, their eyes filled with naked lust and possessiveness as they looked at Luo Zhiyin. Chu Mo stood up unhurriedly, lightly brushing off the dust on his clothes, his tone as relaxed as if to just leave one alive. This statement was directed at Luo Zhiyin. Upon hearing this, a sharp, killing intent flashed in her clear phoenix eyes. Finally, she could do something productive. She slowly stood up, a chilling aura as frigid as ice from the ninth heaven suddenly poured down, enveloping the entire forest. Huang He's smile froze instantly, his face changing drastically. He felt an invisible mountain pressing down heavily on him, making it hard for him to breathe. Before he could react, Luo Zhiyin's flying sword transformed into an extreme cold light, ghosting through the crowd. The sword light fell like rain, beautiful yet deadly. "Ah!" The shrill screams echoed one after another, piercing through the quiet night sky. Blood blossoms quietly bloomed under the cold moonlight. In just a few breaths apart from Huang Hu and a few minions left deliberately alive, the rest of the mountain bandits all lay dead in pools of blood, with none surviving. The fierce sword energy crisscrossed, even the hard ground was cut open with deep gashes visible to the bone. Huang He's legs went weak, and he collapsed to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut, trembling all over. He looked incredulously at the white-clad woman radiating murderous aura before him, then glanced at the composed Chu Mo beside her, his voice trembling violently from extreme fear. "A cultivator? How is this possible?" Chu Mo leisurely walked to Huang He's side, looking down at him. Huang Hu found the situation utterly absurd. How could a high-ranking cultivator serve a mere mortal who hadn't even begun cultivating? Chu Mo looked at Huang Hu, a feeling of indescribable pleasure suddenly surged within him, spreading like a tide. Once the top martial artist of the mortal realm, who could easily crush him, now seemed as insignificant as an ant before him. This feeling of control of being above all was even more intoxicating than the sweetest honey in the world. But this was not enough. Now he needed to leverage Luo Zhiyin's power. In the future, he would personally grasp the absolute power that would make anyone bow in submission. Please, spare my life, my lord. Huang Hu finally reacted, pressing his forehead firmly against the cold ground, repeatedly knocking his head in desperation, his voice filled with terror. This lowly one was blind and offended the esteemed immortal. Please spare this lowly one's life. Take me to your lair and present all the things you've stolen. Chu Mo said indifferently. Yes. Please, this way, my lord. He'll lead you right away. Huang Hu felt as if he had been granted a reprieve, hurriedly getting up from the ground and crawling ahead, fearing that a moment's delay would anger this harbinger of death. In the mountain bandits' lair, the storeroom was piled high with silver ingots along with plenty of gold and jewels. Huang Hu stood beside Chu Mo, rubbing his hands anxiously. Help me collect these, Chu Mo said to Luo Zhiyin. With these items, his assets for spying would be even more abundant. With Luo Zhiyin's presence, he could thoroughly check her 5 times or more. Luo Zhiyin waved her hand, and the gold and jewels were sucked into her storage ring. Who is the real bandit? Watching the years of hard work being emptied, Huang Hu felt like crying, but dared not complain. Just as Chu Mo planned to leave with the spoils, his peripheral vision caught a glimpse of a shimmering silver thread quietly lying in the corner of the storeroom. The thread glimmered under the weak moonlight filtering through the window, radiating a strange and mysterious glow. What is this? Chu Mo pointed at the roll of silver thread facing Huang Hu and asked. Huang Hu hurriedly stepped forward, examined it carefully, then scratched his head, uncertainly replying to my lord, this was something I robbed from a passing merchant a few days ago. This thread is incredibly tough, but can't be cut by a knife or damaged by fire. I also don't know what it's used for, so it has just been sitting here. Upon hearing this, Chu Mo's mind stirred, and he immediately mentally recited the spying command. Target silver thread, cost to spy 500 silvers. Do you wish to spy? From his experience with multiple spying attempts, Chu Mo knew that the funds required for item information were far less than those for character information, even less than a fraction. But the value of this silver thread was 10 times that of Huang Hu, the peak innate warrior. It must not be an ordinary item. Chu Mo chose yes. Information: the silk of the 4th-tier demon beast prison ghost spider is incredibly tough, and below the nascent soul stage, cultivators find it hard to destroy. An excellent material for refining weapons, usable for creating protective armor. Chu Mo's heart surged violently. The silk of the prison ghost spider, indestructible below the nascent soul stage. He hadn't expected such a surprise. He discreetly tucked the prison ghost spider's silk into his bosom. Late at night, in the most luxurious room of the bandit lair, candlelight flickered. This was originally Huang Hu's room, but now it had been taken over by Chu Mo. With a bed to sleep on, he naturally had no need to return to the wild to camp. At this moment, Chu Mo sat at the table, taking interest in playing with the shimmering spider silk in his hand. Luo Zhiyin sat beside him, her cold gaze sweeping over the roll of silk, unable to help but ask, her tone laced with a hint of disbelief. It's just ordinary silk. What's so special about it? Luo Zhiyin did not believe that in the lair of mere mortal thieves there could be anything precious for a cultivator like her. Upon hearing this, Chu Mo raised an eyebrow. Is that so? If that's the case, Luo Xinzi, why not try using your sword to see if you can cut it? Luo Zhiyin snorted coldly, her face showing a trace of disdain. As a latest-stage foundation establishment sword cultivator, her long sword was a top-quality artifact bestowed by her sect, capable of slicing through iron like mud and cutting hair with ease. How could an ordinary thread withstand her sword? With a graceful motion of her hand, she unsheathed her sword filled with fierce sword energy, and without hesitation struck at the roll of spider silk with all her might. Clang! A clear sound of metal clashing echoed. The sword energy surged, yet it failed to leave a mark on the seemingly delicate and fragile silver thread. Luo Zhiyin's cold phoenix eyes widened in disbelief, her face filled with incredulity. She looked incredulously at her still sharp sword, then at the intact spider silk, which bore not even a scratch. How is this possible? Seeing this, Chu Mo smirked and said, this is the silk of a 4th-tier demon beast, the prison ghost spider. Cultivators below the nascent soul stage find it hard to destroy. Luo Zhiyin's shock was beyond measure. She couldn't comprehend how Chu Mo, a mere mortal with little knowledge of the cultivation world, would know such hidden secrets. No, considering the many strange things Chu Mo had displayed earlier, it didn't seem too odd for him. With no time to explore Chu Mo's secrets, Luo Zhiyin's focus returned to the prison ghost spider silk itself. If such a treasure could be refined into a piece of protective armor, it might even withstand a full-force strike from a golden core cultivator. Thinking of this, a strong greed surged within Luo Zhiyin. However, she couldn't bring herself to ask Chu Mo for it. Firstly, she had no standing, and secondly, she had just regarded this silk with disdain. For a moment, she could only struggle internally, her eyes occasionally stealing glances at the roll of spider silk in Chu Mo's hand, her heart in turmoil. Chu Mo noticed her desire to speak, but hesitance, the smile on his lips deepening. What's wrong, Luo Zhiyin? Do you want it? He extended his hand, holding the prison ghost spider silk. Luo Zhiyin, caught out by his words, shivered slightly. On her cold, beautiful face, two unnatural flushes suddenly appeared. I just feel that this item is quite extraordinary. She looked at the spider silk in Chu Mo's hand, squeezing out her words. Biting her red lip, lightly struggling for a long time, she finally blushed, lowered her face, and spoke with difficulty. I want it. No. Chu Mo decisively rejected her, retracting his hand. As a servant, you should present good things to your master proactively. How is it right for me, the master, to reward you? Especially since I discovered it first. Luo Zhiyin's chest heaved violently, nearly unable to catch her breath from anger. Oomph. She forcefully suppressed the churn of anger and humiliation within her, silently moving to a corner of the room, sitting cross-legged, closing her eyes to meditate, avoiding seeing or hearing. Ignoring the sulking Luo Zhiyin, Chu Mo took the prison ghost spider silk back into his hands, examining it closely as it reflected a sharp light in the candle's glow. From the information, he learned that the silk of the prison ghost spider could be used to create protective treasures at the nascent soul level. However, he currently had no means for refining, and the amount of silk in this roll was clearly insufficient to stitch a complete armor. Wrapping it around his waist would likely be the limit, not to mention covering the chest, shoulders, and arms. Chu Mo did have an idea on how to utilize this silk. If he could realize this idea after formally cultivating, he would possess an extremely powerful offensive means. It could serve as a trump card. Chu Mo pinched the ends of the silk with the thumb, index, ring, and little fingers of his left hand, while extending his right index finger, attempting to apply slight pressure in the middle. Soon blood began to ooze from his fingertip. The next day, as dawn broke, Huang, who led a group of bandits to respectfully send Chu Mo and Luo Zhiyin out of the mountain stronghold. Only when the figures of the two completely disappeared at the end of the forest did Huang, who dared to straighten his back and wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. At last they had seen off these two masters. Having turned to banditry for many years, the treasures he had plundered were all taken away, and half of his brothers had died. This mountain was no longer a place to stay. Another day, he might as well try to return to the city to make a living. Huang, who was already shadowed by the act of plundering. Little did Chu Mo know that his unintentional act had become an opportunity for a bandit leader to turn over a new leaf. Outside the forest, Luo Zhiyin once again summoned her flying sword. Chu Mo still unreservedly wrapped his arms around her slender waist, even tighter than the day before, his palm almost sinking into the soft fabric beneath. Warm breaths occasionally brushed against her delicate white neck, causing her long hair to flutter slightly. Luo Zhiyin stiffened for a moment, her cheeks turning slightly red, but she said nothing more. When things happen frequently, people grow accustomed to them, and can even be shaped by them. Just like a tree-lined path. The more people walk it, the wider it gradually becomes. It may even be trimmed by some observant individuals. If trimmed exceptionally well, it could be marketed as something. Later generations might end up liking this path immensely. The flying sword cut through the air, and the clouds rolled beneath. After flying for an unknown period, a continuous, magnificent range of celestial mountains appeared on the horizon. Amidst swirling clouds and mist, immortal cranes soared, and auspicious energy flowed abundantly. Countless majestic and beautiful peaks shot up into the sky like sharp swords. On these peaks, palaces and towers stood in a splendid array, intricately designed and masterfully crafted. Moreover, rainbow bridges spanned between the mountains, radiating with colorful brilliance. An overwhelming, grand, and solemn atmosphere surged forth, shaking the hearts of those who beheld it. That is the Qingshi Sword Sect. Luo Zhiyin's cool voice came softly. She turned to look at Chu Mo, saying, "The Qingshi Sword Sect has a protective formation prohibiting flight. We must enter through the main gate. With your talent for drawing qi into your body, if you perform, well, you might have the chance to be directly recommended to the inner sect, avoiding the delays of the outer sect." The flying sword gradually descended onto a broad bluestone platform. Chu Mo dismounted the flying sword, gazing at the magnificent and boundless Qingshi Sword Sect. Gradually his heart surged with excitement. He couldn't help but extend his hand, grasping at the air as if to encompass this colossal entity within his palm. For over a decade, the Chu family and Qingshi City were merely the beginning of his journey in this world. Once he could only look up at the cultivators. But one day, even in this place, he would stand at the pinnacle, overseeing everything, commanding everything. Just like those cultivators who once seemed untouchable, ruling with impunity in his eyes. No, even among cultivators, he would become that unparalleled existence, trampling others beneath his feet, freely, with no one able to deceive or humiliate him. Chu Mo and Luo Zhiyin walked side by side towards the massive mountain gate, which soared 100 feet high, carved from solid white jade, exuding an extraordinary aura. Qingshi Sword Sect. Four gilded characters elegantly inscribed radiated an ancient and powerful. Several disciples wearing uniform Dao robes, their presence solemn, stood at either side of the mountain gate, with long swords in hand, their gazes sharp like eagles. Luo Zhiyin stepped forward, taking out a jade token engraved with a sword-shaped mark and handing it to one of the guarding disciples. Inner sect disciple Luo Zhiyin returning from outside. Upon hearing the words inner sect, the sharpness in the disciple's eyes faded, completely replaced by eagerness. He respectfully accepted the jade token, carefully inspected it, and after confirming its authenticity, turned his gaze to Chu Mo. Welcome back, senior sister Luo. And this is the new disciple I am recommending as I descend the mountain. Luo Zhiyin said calmly. The guarding disciple nodded and asked no further questions. It was normal for inner sect disciples to recommend newcomers. Senior sister, please. This junior brother, please follow me. Oh, I will take you to the deacon hall for your entry assessment. The guarding disciple gestured for them to proceed. Chu Mo followed the guarding disciple, passing through the mountain gate and stepping into the sect. Luo Zhiyin intended to take this opportunity to separate from Chu Mo, temporarily escaping from this tyrant and not being casually manipulated. However, Chu Mo turned around, a faint inorganic smile appearing on his face as he said to her, senior sister, together. Upon entering the Qingshi Sword Sect, their titles naturally had to change. Now they were senior sister and junior brother. Luo Zhiyin stopped in her tracks, lightly biting her silver teeth, unwilling to refuse, and followed Chu Mo. Within the Qingshi Sword Sect, there was a world of its own, the spiritual energy, so rich, it almost became tangible, refreshing anyone who inhaled it. Pavilions and towers, immortal herbs, and spiritual flowers were seen everywhere. Occasionally disciples flying on swords swept through the air, their garments fluttering, exuding an aura of immortality. After about the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the guarding disciple brought Chu Mo to a rather grand junior brother. This is the outer sect deacon hall used for assessments. The brother in charge of new disciple assessments, Zhang, is inside. Chu Mo thanked him. Upon entering the deacon hall, there were already several people waiting inside. 3 men and 1 woman who appeared to be new disciples as well. Among the 3 male disciples, one stood out remarkably. He wore a luxurious brocade robe, had a handsome face, but there was an air of arrogance that lingered between his brows, his chin slightly raised, and his gaze looked down on others, as if no one mattered to him. Zhang, the brother in charge of assessments, who was dressed in a management uniform, was currently smiling warmly, engaging in small talk with this person, his attitude exceedingly attentive. Junior brother Lin, after such a long journey, are you accustomed to it? If you need anything, feel free to tell your brother, oh, do not hesitate. He merely responded with a dismissive his nostrils slightly raised. Zhang, however, was not annoyed and continued to smile. Chu Mo looked at the arrogant young man, a thought flashing through his mind. Target Lin Wu Jia, cost to spy 500 silver taels. Do you wish to spy? Yes. Name Lin Wu Jia, identity disciple of the Qingshi Sword Sect, cultivation, early stage, Qi, refining sword, cultivator, technique, spirit, drawing method, physique, Yang Yao, body, relatively rare. Important information: Lin Wu Jia is the illegitimate son of Elder Lin Zhang of the Qingshi Sword Sect. Elder Lin Zhang had only this son in his later years, thus doting on him greatly and investing abundant resources into his cultivation. This time he had specially brought him back to the sect for careful training. Elder Lin Zhang holds considerable power within the sect and is also influential outside the sect, resulting in Lin Wu Jia's arrogant and overbearing nature. Regarding this entrance assessment, Elder Lin Zhang is confident in Lin Wu Jia's talent and strength, having drawn Qi into his body in just 1 day, thus did not make excessive arrangements beforehand, believing he would certainly secure a recommendation for the inner sect on his own. Lin Wu Jia himself thought the same. It turns out he is a connection. Unfortunately, it seems he will regret not giving prior notice soon. At this moment, senior brother Zhang's gaze swept over the recently arrived Chu Mo and the quietly standing Luo Zhiyin beside him, initially revealing a hint of astonishment. Upon recognizing Luo Zhiyin, he quickly rose and clasped his hands, saying, "So it's senior sister Luo. Long time no see, you still look as graceful as ever." Luo Zhiyin merely nodded slightly in return. "Who is this?" Senior brother Zhang looked at Chu Mo. "This is the new disciple I recommended, Chu Mo. You may assess him normally." Luo Zhiyin spoke succinctly. She seemed to maintain her aloof demeanor even within the door. Looking at Luo Zhiyin, Chu Mo felt a surge of wicked amusement. Senior brother Zhang nodded, indicating Chu Mo to stand with the other new disciples. Once everyone had gathered, senior brother Zhang cleared his throat and spoke. "Dear junior brothers and sisters, welcome to the Qingshi Sword Sect. The first item of the entrance assessment is to test the time each of you takes to draw Qi into your body, conducted by the person who recommended you. This pertains to your talent assessment, so be sure to answer truthfully." He paused, his gaze landing on a disciple on the far left. "You go first." The disciple appeared somewhat nervous and bowed, saying, "Reporting to senior brother, I am dull-witted and took 5 days to successfully draw Qi into my body." Senior brother Zhang nodded, non-committal. "Next." I took 4.5 days. When it was the turn of the female disciple, her voice was clear. I took 2.5 days. This result is already considered quite good. A hint of approval appeared on senior brother Zhang's face. Finally, it was Lin Wujie's turn. He smirked proudly and declared, the disciple accomplished it in 1 day. What? 1 day? Upon hearing this, the crowd in the hall erupted in astonishment. The earlier disciples showed expressions of shock and envy. To draw qi into the body in 1 day is undoubtedly the mark of a true disciple. Senior brother Zhang's face was filled with delight. Great. Very good. Indeed, junior brother Lin possesses extraordinary talent and is a future pillar of our sect. His gaze towards Lin Wujie became increasingly fervent and flattering. Lin Wujie enjoyed the attention, his pride swelling. In reality, he had taken a day and an additional half hour, but such a minor detail was naturally disregarded. Senior brother Zhang's gaze finally fell on Chu Mo, though the warmth in his eyes had cooled somewhat. After all, with such a jewel before him, he did not believe this composed and restrained youth would achieve anything remarkable. Junior brother Chu, what about you? Luo Zhiyin, who had recommended Chu Mo, stood nearby. Senior brother Zhang dared not neglect Chu Mo, speaking gently. Chu Mo maintained a calm expression, replying softly, half a stick of incense. Upon these words, the entire hall of affairs fell into a dead silence. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. All eyes were fixated on Chu Mo, as if he were a monster. Senior brother Zhang's smile froze. Lin Wujie's triumphant expression also solidified. After a moment, he broke the silence with a derisive laugh filled with disdain and mockery. Half a stick of incense. Are you joking? Do you think drawing qi is as simple as eating and drinking? I see you are just spouting nonsense to attract attention. He was born with a silver spoon and had received abundant resources for cultivation. He was meant to be extraordinarily talented. No one could outshine him or steal his thunder. Such a claim was utterly outrageous. The other disciples also regained their senses, looking at Chu Mo with suspicion. Drawing qi in half a stick of incense. How is that possible? It's unheard of, simply a fantasy. Senior brother Zhang furrowed his brow, saying, Junior brother Chu, drawing qi into your body is a serious matter. It cannot be taken lightly. Are you certain you are not lying? I can vouch for him. A cold voice rang out as Luo Zhiyin stepped forward, calmly looking at senior brother Zhang. He indeed succeeded in drawing qi into his body within half a stick of incense. Luo Zhiyin's testimony once again startled everyone. Lin Wujie's expression subtly changed. Senior brother Zhang also hesitated a bit. Luo Zhiyin was an outstanding disciple among the inner sect with a respectable status, so she shouldn't openly lie about such matters. However, half a stick of incense. This was simply too unbelievable. Words alone are not sufficient. Lin Wujie snorted coldly. Who knows if you two have colluded? Upon hearing this, Luo Zhiyin's eyes turned cold, ready to retort. Senior brother Zhang quickly stepped in front of Luo Zhiyin, whispering, Senior sister Luo, he is the son of elder Lin Zhang. Upon hearing this, Luo Zhiyin frowned, hesitated for a moment, and snorted coldly, relinquishing her intention to pursue the matter. Lin Wujie revealed a satisfied and provocative expression. To resolve the current situation and appease the grievances of Luo Zhiyin and Lin Wujie, senior brother Zhang took a deep breath and said, I have a proposal. Our sect has a treasure for assessing talent, the assessment stone, which can directly reflect one's aptitude. Though the number is limited and there are restrictions on usage given today's circumstances, we can only activate it. Senior brother Zhang took out a stone about the size of a human head, entirely black and covered in strange patterns. Seeing that both Luo Zhiyin and Lin Wujie agreed to proceed, senior brother Zhang turned to Chu Mo, saying, Junior brother Chu, place your hand on it and inject a trace of spiritual energy. Chu Mo complied, stepping forward and gently pressing his hand on the cold assessment stone. He summoned the faint spiritual energy that had just awakened within him and slowly infused it into the stone. In the next moment, buzz! The assessment stone trembled violently, suddenly erupting with dazzling 7-colored radiance. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The 7 colors of light intertwined and soared, almost lifting the entire ceiling of the hall. The rich and pure spiritual energy waves spread out like a tide. Everyone in the hall was left dumbfounded by this sudden spectacle, mouths agape, unable to close them for a long time. Senior brother Zhang was even more shaken. He stared intensely at the glowing assessment stone, then glanced at the calm Chu Mo, his throat dry, struggling to swallow. 7-colored radiance. This has never happened before. Lin Wujie's face drained of color in an instant. His voice trembled. No, this is impossible. This absolutely cannot be. This stone must be defective. Yes, it has to be defective. Let me try. He rushed forward, taking Chu Mo's place, and slammed his palm down on the assessment stone. However, the assessment stone merely flickered slightly. A feeble white light, far dimmer than the brilliant light from Chu Mo's test, weakly shone. Compared to Chu Mo's dazzling seven-colored light, it was like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. Lin Wujie's expression instantly shifted from madness to dazed, and then from dazed to ashen. Senior brother Zhang swallowed with difficulty, his gaze flickering uneasily between Chu Mo and the detection stone, which still radiated a faint lingering glow. The other newly initiated disciples in the hall now regarded Chu Mo not with initial skepticism, but with profound shock and incredulous awe. Lin Wujie's face turned ashen, his fists clenched so tightly that his fingernails nearly pierced his palms. He could not bear the truth his vaunted talent, his very pride, had been utterly eclipsed by an obscure youth in a manner both absolute and humiliating. This is impossible. His voice cracked raw with disbelief and fury. The detection stone must be flawed. Senior brother Zhang, I refuse to accept this. The result is certainly erroneous. Zhang's senior brother wore an expression of deep discomfort. He knew beyond doubt that the detection stone never erred. Luo Zhiyin's cool, incisive gaze swept over Lin Wujie. As she spoke, her tone serene, yet unyielding. The facts stand plainly before us. What then is there to dispute? She paused briefly before turning to Zhang's senior brother, her voice remaining calm, but now laced with quiet, irrefutable authority. Senior brother Zhang, given Chu Mo's extraordinary aptitude, precedent, and sect regulations dictate he be directly recommended to the inner sect. Please submit this result without delay. Do not let protocol hinder what is just. At her words, fine beads of cold sweat broke out across Zhang, senior brother's brow. Before him stood two formidable forces, on one side a prodigious novice, and Luo senior sister resolute and unrelenting. On the other, Lin Wujie, scion of immense influence and entrenched lineage. A calculating glint flashed in Zhang's eyes, and he forced a strained apologetic smile. Senior sister Luo speaks truly. Brother Chu's talent is indeed nothing short of celestial. He hesitated, then added carefully, yet direct recommendation to the inner sect lies far beyond the purview of a mere assessment officer such as myself. My duty is solely to record the test results and forward the documentation to the sect's designated personnel. He paused again, his tone measured. Whether he enters the inner sect outright remains subject to final review and approval by the Elders' Council of the Disciplinary Hall. By standard procedure, all new disciples must first report to the outer sect, to acclimate to the sect's environment and await further instruction. Thus I respectfully urge senior sister Luo and brother Chu to exercise patience. His words were flawlessly diplomatic, neither offending Luo Zhiyin nor assuming responsibility. A subtle furrow appeared between Luo Zhiyin's brows. She had heard the evasion in his tone, but his reasoning, though evasive, remained technically sound within sect protocol. She said nothing more. She cast one long penetrating glance at Chu Mo. I shall return to the inner sect. Should you need me, send word. With that she turned, and in a flash of silvery swordlight vanished into the sky. Chu Mo watched her retreating silhouette without attempt to detain her, then glanced briefly at Lin Wujie's storm-darkened face, and at Zhang's senior brother's ingratiating smile. Finally, he followed the other novices summoned by an outer sect guide out of the administrative hall. Once Chu Mo and the others had departed, only Lin Wujie and Zhang's senior brother remained inside. Lin Wujie had deliberately stayed behind, an irregularity, yet Zhang dared not question it. He merely wrung his hands nervously, eyes fixed on Lin Wujie with anxious deference. The arrogance and resentment on Lin Wujie's face slowly dissolved, replaced by a chilling, predatory stillness. He advanced step by deliberate step toward Zhang's senior brother, his voice glacial. Senior brother Zhang, how do you intend to resolve what transpired just now? Zhang's smile stiffened. He bowed low. At once, junior brother Lin may rest assured. I will report your talents faithfully, without omission or distortion. Faithfully report. Lin Wujie let out a cold, mirthless laugh, his eyes flashing with icy menace. I am the one who should have ignited the stone's seven-colored radiance. You understand that, don't you? A chill ran down Zhang's spine, sweat glistened on his forehead. He understood perfectly what Lin Wujie implied. But if the matter is investigated thoroughly from above, should it be Lin Wujie cut in voice like sharpened ice, I guarantee your safety. Do you doubt the power of the Lin clan? Zhang hesitated still, his silence heavy with dread. Seeing his hesitation, Lin Wujie withdrew a jade slip from his storage pouch and tossed it onto the floor before Zhang. Within this slip lies a middle-rank profound sword art, bestowed upon me by my father. Its value is considerable. Senior brother Zhang is no fool. You know precisely what must be done. Threat and inducement wielded in equal measure. Zhang stared at the jade slip, glowing faintly with spiritual light, then up into Lin Wujie's frigid, unblinking eyes. His soul warred within him. Elder Lin Zheng held tremendous sway within the sect. To refuse Lin Wujie today would be tantamount to provoking him directly. His already precarious existence would grow infinitely more perilous. As but an ordinary disciple, he had no real... In the end, hesitation receded from Zhang's gaze, replaced by a feverish, covetous gleam fixed upon the jade slip. With barely perceptible tremors, he bent his spine and picked it up, his voice parched and hollow. Junior brother Lin, you are absolutely correct. This elder brother was indeed foolish. The detection stone long neglected malfunctioned today. Though brother Chu possesses genuine talent, true transcendent brilliance belongs only to you, junior brother Lin. Only then did Lin Wujie allow a sly venomous smile to curl his lips. He clapped Zhang on the shoulder. Excellent. Senior brother Zhang proves as always wise in discerning the currents of power. What use is peerless talent without backing? Without authority, resources will never flow to the unconnected. He must begin, as all others do, at the lowest rung, grinding through hardship and obscurity. Moments later, Zhang's senior brother delivered the falsified assessment records personally to the inner sect's administrative hall. According to the documents, Chu Mo's time to achieve chi absorption was recorded as 1 day, while Lin Wujie's was listed as 2 hours. Since precise timing of chi absorption is rarely recalled with certainty, sect regulations stipulate that for cases completed within 1-day intervals are measured in 2-hour increments. Examples include 10 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, and so forth. For absorption occurring in under 2 hours, no verified precedent exists. Such cases cannot be meaningfully quantified and are typically re-verified only after formal initiation. Within the inner sect's administrative hall, one officer, Elder Lin Zhang's most trusted confidant, received the dossier. He skimmed the pages, hastily frowned, and immediately took the materials to seek Elder Lin Zhang, daring not render judgment himself. Within an inner sect cave residence suffused with spiritual energy, Elder Lin Zhang sat clad in a serene azure Taoist robe, his refined features bearing quiet, commanding dignity. His eyes, when open, held the weight of unspoken authority. Listening to the officer's report, a faint knowing smile touched his lips. Oh, you say young Wujie achieved chi absorption within 2 hours. He sipped a cup of spirit-infused tea, his tone placid. The officer handed over the dossier, bowing deeply, reporting to Elder Lin. The official record states precisely that. Heh! A soft chuckle escaped him, his gaze sharpening with quiet comprehension. Having observed his son closely, how could he not know Lin Wujie's true cultivation level? Clearly the boy had usurped another's achievement, and the only candidate matching the criteria was the newly initiated disciple Chu Mo. The officer ventured cautiously, Elder Lin, how shall we proceed with this matter? Lin Zhang waved his hand, his tone indifferent. That's settled. The direct referral quota for inner disciples was always intended for Wujie. As for whose talent it is, it doesn't matter. Yes, Elder Lin. The steward bowed in acknowledgement. Then, struck by another thought, he hesitated before speaking. If that disciple whose result was swapped stirs up trouble over it. Lin Zhang lightly blew on his tea, chuckling. There have been such people before. They never stir up any real waves. A lesson will teach them to behave. His exceptional talent gave him the illusion he could act recklessly, oblivious to the fact that the allocation of resources was already predetermined. By the time he struggles out of the inner sect with those meager resources, Wujie, backed by ample resources, may already be at the golden core or even nascent soul stage. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chu Mo, along with several other new disciples, was being guided through the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect by an outer sect steward. In the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect, disciples were simply divided into ordinary members and stewards, each with their own duties. The steward leading them, appearing to be around 30, treated them with the utmost indifference. See that place? It's the Affairs Bureau. If you ever want to earn extra spirit stones or pills, go there to pick up tasks and complete them. Tasks include everything from serving tea to elders to repairing caves and so on. Over there is the healing hall. If you're injured, pay spirit stones to get treated. If you have no stones, you're on your own. The steward gestured dismissively, his tone laden with impatience. From now on, I'll be in charge of you in the outer sect, but unless it's urgent, don't come looking for me. Though resentment simmered within them, the group dared not voice their objections. Someone suddenly asked, Senior Steward, how is Lin Wujie? Senior brother doing now? The steward addressed them, that Lin Wujie, who came with you. He's exceptionally talented and has been granted direct entry into the inner sect. As for you lot, stay put in the outer sect and start from scratch. Don't fool yourselves with vain hopes. At these words, the disciples' faces flashed with shock, and they turned their gazes toward Chu Mo. Chu Mo's expression remained calm, but inwardly, he shivered, then turned cold, though he had sensed it when Lin Wujie stayed behind. When it actually happened, an uncontrollable dark and frenzied flame still ignited in his chest. In a place unseen by others, his fists clenched tightly. That quota rightfully belonged to him. After a momentary turmoil of emotions, Chu Mo quickly regained his composure. Anger never solved anything. It never had. The steward led the group to the sect's finance bureau, where he collected the newcomer supplies for them. These are the entry supplies issued by the sect: of basic breathing technique manual and 2 low-grade spirit stones. With that, the steward tossed a storage pouch to each of them. Chu Mo caught the pouch, weighed it, and swept his divine sense over it. Target: storage pouch, inferior quality. Cost to peer 10 copper coins. Peering complete. Until the sect actually issues 10 low-grade spirit stones to each new disciple. Your steward has embezzled 8 of them. The other disciples opened their pouches and found only 2 paltry spirit stones, sparking a chorus of complaints. How is this so little? This is a total ripoff. The steward waved his hand dismissively. Take it or leave it. Be grateful you're getting anything at all. Quit being so picky. With that he strode off. The group could only watch his arrogant retreat, resigned to their... Chu Mo tightened his grip on the storage pouch, narrowing his eyes. This Qingshi Sword Sect, though a grand immortal sect, from top to bottom, somehow felt strangely familiar. Little did they know I excel at such games. Rest assured, soon enough I'll trample them, step on their heads, crush and torment them. Not only will I reclaim my rightful quota, but those embezzled spirit stones will be paid back with interest. 100-fold return. That night the moon was bright and the stars sparse. Chu Mo sat cross-legged in his assigned cave dwelling, damp, dark, and crude, and began circulating the spirit attraction art. He cultivated with astonishing speed whirlpools of energy surging around him. But as a result, the 2 low-grade spirit stones were consumed in no time, barely a drop in the bucket. Just then a graceful icy figure silently appeared at the entrance of Chu Mo's cave. It was Luo Zhiyin. She looked at Chu Mo, her cold phoenix eyes flickering with mockery and schadenfreude. The great genius Chu, who could sense chi in half an incense stick's time. How did you end up in such a doghouse? Having been humiliated by him many times, she couldn't resist taunting him when she saw him in such a sorry state. Chu Mo opened his eyes and gave her a flat glance. Senior Sister Luo, it seems you've forgotten your current position. Luo Zhiyin's expression stiffened. An incense stick later, Chu Mo asked, can Senior Sister Luo help me seek justice and reclaim what's rightfully mine? Luo Zhiyin gritted her teeth in humiliation. Help you? What help can I offer? She let out a self-mocking laugh. My master is perpetually in seclusion. Though I hold high status in the outer sect, I have no power in the inner sect. On the contrary, behind Lin Wujia stands Elder Lin Zheng, who wields immense power in the inner sect. Even if you had irrefutable proof that Lin Wujia stole your quota and your achievements, he can manipulate the truth and hide it all. All your efforts will be in vain, and with a single flick of his finger he can send you to an early grave. Chu Mo frowned in thought. The reason they dared to treat you so blatantly was because they had no fear of your resistance. To confront them heathen would be like throwing an egg against a rock. The most effective method, Chu Mo's eyes glimmered, was to find a political enemy of equal or even higher standing than theirs. Only such a person would possess both the ability and the motive to bring them down. Borrow strength to strike, borrow a blade to kill. Senior Sister Luo. Chu Mo suddenly spoke. Is there anyone within the sect who is at odds with Elder Lin Zheng? Luo Zhiyin paused, shot him a penetrating look, and slowly answered, there is. Elder Jiang Shiguang has long been at odds with Lin Zheng. Their open and covert conflicts have raged for years, and they are notorious enemies throughout the sect. Elder Jiang Shiguang is it? Excellent. Chu Mo knew what to do. The next day, under the introduction of Luo Zhiyin, Chu Mo set off to meet an intersect steward named Zhao Qing. Going directly to find Elder Jiang Shiguang would be akin to dreaming. There was no reason for them to pay attention to a newly admitted outer sect disciple. Thus it was essential to find a suitable intermediary for the introduction. Someone who held a certain degree of influence within Jiang Shiguang's faction and could be easily controlled by himself. Zhao Qing was, according to Luo Zhiyin, a candidate that met these conditions. Although Zhao Qing was notorious for being sycophantic, greedy, and lecherous, it could not be denied that he was a relatively active and influential figure within Elder Jiang Shiguang's faction. In the inner sect, in a relatively secluded guest cottage, Zhao Qing sat in the main seat, idly tapping his fingers on the table. He was in his early 30s, slightly stocky, wearing the attire of an intersect steward with a formulaic smile on his face. Yet occasionally a glint of shrewdness and calculation flashed in his small eyes. When he saw Luo Zhiyin walking in with Chu Mo, a look of surprise initially crossed Zhao Qing's face, followed by a more eager smile. Sister Luo's presence truly brings glory to this brother here. He stood up to greet her, his gaze unabashedly lingering on Luo Zhiyin's curvaceous figure. Luo Zhiyin endured her discomfort, her expression cold, as she nodded slightly. Brother Zhao. She then turned to introduce. This is junior brother Chu Mo, who has something he'd like to ask for your assistance with, brother Zhao. Only then did Zhao Qing shift his gaze to Chu Mo, sizing him up. Noting that he was merely at the early stage of chi refinement, dressed in outer sect disciple attire, his enthusiasm immediately waned. Oh, may I ask what brings junior brother Chu to me? He sat back down, picked up his teacup, and spoke casually. Chu Mo replied calmly. I have heard that brother Zhao is a favored disciple of Elder Jiang, and I would like to ask for your help in introducing me to Elder Jiang. I have information regarding Elder Lin Zheng's misconduct that I would like to report to Elder Jiang. Zhao Qing put down his teacup, raised an eyebrow, and revealed a hint of amusement on his face. Elder Lin Zheng oversees the sect's evaluations. His misconduct is quite common, but due to its lesser severity and Lin Zheng's significant power, even the sect master turns a blind eye. He glanced at Chu Mo with a touch of disdain. Elder Zhang may indeed disapprove of Elder Lin Zheng, but so far he has not caught him in a serious wrongdoing. Junior Brother Chu, as an outer sect disciple, what substantial evidence can you provide? Brother Zhao, the situation is like this. Chu Mo tried to explain. Enough, enough. Zhao Qing waved his hand impatiently. Such trivial matters do not need to be brought to me. Elder Zhang is exceedingly busy. How could he have time to deal with the small issues faced by new disciples? He paused, his gaze shifting back to Luo Zhiyin, his smile taking on a more meaningful tone. However, in light of Sister Luo's standing, I could make an exception. Zhao Qing rubbed his hands, his eyes lewdly glinting. Sister Luo is a designated true disciple of Master Xihua, and her status is prestigious. If Sister is willing to come to my residence tonight for a few drinks, we could have a more in-depth exchange. I promise to do my utmost to assist Junior Brother Chu in getting this matter sorted out. Although Zhao Qing looked down on Chu Mo, he could tell that this outer sect junior brother seemed significant to Luo Zhiyin. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made a special trip to ask him for help. Luo Zhiyin was one of the most beautiful fairies in the entire sect, well known among many. More importantly, her cold and proud demeanor evoked a strong desire for conquest. If he could seize this opportunity to enjoy her beauty, it would be splendid. As soon as Zhao Qing's words fell, the air became tense. Luo Zhiyin's delicate face paled slightly, her body trembled, and an icy killing intent and deep humiliation burst from her eyes. This bastard! How dare he brazenly tease her! A tempest of rage surged within her, wishing she could immediately draw her sword and shred Zhao Qing into pieces. But simultaneously a deeper fear gripped her. Chu Mo. What would this demon choose? Would he really sacrifice her to achieve his goals? Luo Zhiyin did not dare to think further, feeling dizzy, her resentment toward Chu Mo and her disdain for Zhao Qing intertwining, almost overwhelming her. At this moment, Chu Mo's calm voice broke the suffocating silence. Brother Zhao, do you know Jiang Ping Tiao? Zhao Qing's heart tightened, but his face only showed a simple frown. He pretended to say casually, Elder Jiang's direct disciple, who doesn't know him? What do you bring him up for? Chu Mo's attitude showed some change, which puzzled Zhao Qing. If until now Chu Mo had been somewhat sincere, now he seemed indifferent, devoid of awe. Deep in his unfeeling gaze there lurked a chilling sense of dread. Chu Mo's lips curled into a cold smile as he continued slowly. I've heard that Brother Jiang has been out on missions for a long time and his partner is left alone in the sect. I wonder, isn't she very lonely? Zhao Qing's expression instantly froze, his pupils constricting sharply. You? What nonsense are you spouting? His voice carried a hint of barely concealed panic. Chu Mo appeared oblivious to his disarray, continuing, to my knowledge someone has not just once gone to comfort his lonely partner while Brother Jiang was away. Tsk tisk, if Brother Jiang were to find out, what do you think? Would Elder Jiang protect the person who put a green hat on his direct disciple, or would he personally crush him? Brother Zhao. Boom. Chu Mo's words struck Zhao Qing's mind like a thunderclap. His face turned as pale as paper, cold sweat pouring down his forehead, his body uncontrollably trembling. How could he know? This secret he believed he had kept flawlessly, and no one but the parties involved could Who was this outer sect brat at the early stage of chi refinement? In an instant, a fierce, killing intent surged in Zhao Qing's heart. He must kill him to silence him. However, when his gaze fell upon Luo Zhiyin, whose face was as cold as water and exuded a chilling sword intent, that killing intent was doused like cold water, extinguishing most of it instantly. Luo Zhiyin heard it too. He had no confidence in being able to silence both people in front of the sword genius Luo Zhiyin. It was possible that before he could even harm Chu Mo, he would be slain by Luo Zhiyin. Weighing the pros and cons, Zhao Qing's killing intent was replaced by fear and frustration. He glared at Chu Mo, his teeth grinding, and finally, like a deflated balloon, he sat back down despondently, his voice dry and hoarse. You. What do you want? Very simple. Chu Mo stepped forward, looking down at him. Introduce me to Elder Jiang. All right. Zhao Qing nodded with difficulty at this moment, only hoping that Chu Mo would not let this matter leak out. But that is not enough. Chu Mo's voice remained flat. Zhao Qing suddenly looked up. What else do you want? Kneel down as an apology. Chu Mo pointed to the ground and spat out these two words. You. Zhao Qing trembled with anger, his eyes turning red. To have him, an inner sect steward, kneel before an outer sect disciple in his own place. This was an utter humiliation. However, with the evidence in the opponent's hands and a watchful Luo Zhiyin nearby, in the end, rationality and the desire to survive overcame his rage. Zhao Qing gritted his teeth, his knees giving way, and with a loud thud, he knelt heavily before Chu Mo, the hard tiles echoing with a dull sound. Chu Mo stepped forward, his face devoid of expression, lifting his foot and gently placing the slightly dusty sole on Zhao Qing's back. With his early stage chi refinement cultivation, the strength was negligible to Zhao Qing. But this symbolic action was heavier than a 1,000-pound boulder ruthlessly crushing Zhao Qing's dignity. Chu Mo applied slight pressure, forcing Zhao Qing's upper body down his cheek, pressed tightly against the cold ground. See, this is much better. Chu Mo's voice carried a hint of playfulness. If you had just obeyed from the start, there wouldn't have been so much trouble, would there? Zhao Qing clenched his fists tightly, his nails digging deep into his palms, drawing blood. A surge of hatred and killing intent churned within him, but he could only suppress it fiercely. He could feel Luo Zhiyin's icy gaze piercing into him like a sword. Moreover, Chu Mo's voice rang out again. Just now you had ulterior motives toward my sister Luo. Slap yourself and apologize to her. Zhao Qing trembled, all over his eyes flashing with disbelief, shame, and anger. But facing Chu Mo's emotionless gaze, he ultimately raised his trembling hand. Smack, smack, smack. The crisp sound of slaps echoed within the quiet cottage. Zhao Qing slapped his own face fiercely while awkwardly apologizing towards Luo Zhiyin. Sister Luo. Sister Luo. I'm sorry. It was my fault. Watching this absurd scene unfold before her, Luo Zhiyin felt a tumult of emotions rising uncontrollably in her heart. She stared blankly at the Zhao Qing who was being trampled underfoot by Chu Mo in a pitiful state, slapping himself. Then she glanced at Chu Mo, whose expression was calm, as if he was merely performing an inconsequential task. A complex feeling quietly spread in her heart. He would actually go to such lengths for her. In the inner sect where scheming and mutual distrust prevailed, she had never felt even a hint of warmth. Brothers and sisters coveted her designated true disciple position, and countless people wanted her dead, both openly and covertly. Yet now this demon who controlled her life and had once humiliatingly enslaved her was at the moment of her humiliation standing up for her in such a domineering manner. This made her feel utterly absurd, but there was also a faint sense of something different, something she had never experienced. A sense of security. No. Luo Zhiyin shook her head, vigorously banishing this terrifying thought. He was probably just preserving his own face. To him, she was merely a tool that could be toyed with. She must not be deceived by his tactics. She bit her lip hard, her gaze turning cold and resolute once more. Luo Zhiyin, have you forgotten the humiliation you endured at his hands? Just last night he had used you as a chair, humiliating you even. Recalling the tears that fell and mingled with other substances staining the ground dark. As shame, humiliation, anger, and hatred surged again, Luo Zhiyin's resolve strengthened once more. She must break free from him. She must kill him. Zhao Qing had slapped himself over a dozen times, his cheeks swollen, blood oozing from the corners of his mouth. Only then did Chu Mo lift his foot, saying lightly enough, "Tomorrow arrange for me to meet Elder Jiang." Yes. Yes. Zhao Qing, as if granted a pardon, scrambled up from the ground, his head bowed, not daring to look at Chu Mo and Luo Zhiyin, his voice still trembling with fear and humiliation. He'll arrange it first thing tomorrow morning. Finally, Zhao Qing respectfully saw off Chu Mo and Luo Zhiyin as they left his guest cottage. After leaving Zhao Qing's guest cottage, only Chu Mo and Luo Zhiyin remained on the road, walking side by side. Luo Zhiyin looked at Chu Mo, finally unable to hold back her voice carrying a hint of complex emotion. Why did you do this? Chu Mo turned to look at her still cold, but slightly wavering, beautiful face, his lips curling into a mechanical smile. His tone was flat, yet seemed to carry a hint of dominance. Because you are mine. Only I can bully you. Upon hearing this, Luo Zhiyin's delicate figure quivered ever so slightly. An inexplicable emotion surged within her, causing her to feel flustered. But the next moment, a strong sense of shame completely drowned out that odd feeling. She turned her head away, snorting coldly, but her determination to resist grew even stronger. This demon. He was too good at manipulating hearts. She absolutely could not yield. She must find a way to rebel and return all the humiliation she had endured today with interest. At this moment, Luo Zhiyin was still unaware. The intensity of her thoughts was not as strong as the night she had just been enslaved by Chu Mo. The next, as the day just began to brighten, Zhao Qing, dressed in a clean steward's attire, appeared on time outside the outer sect, Chu Mo's cave residence. Zhao Qing's attitude was as different as night and day from yesterday, his face full of humble and ingratiating smiles, his eyes filled with deep apprehension as he looked at Chu Mo. Junior brother Chu. Elder Jiang has been arranged for you. He is willing to meet you. Zhao Qing bowed, gesturing for Chu Mo to proceed. This way, please, junior brother Chu. Chu Mo's expression was calm as he nodded and stepped out of the cave. Under Zhao Qing's guidance, it wasn't long before Chu Mo entered the inner sect, arriving in front of Elder Jiang Shiguang's courtyard. Jiang Shiguang's courtyard was starkly different from Zhao Qing's gaudy guest house. It was serene and elegant, infused with a rich aura of spiritual energy. The rockery and flowing water exuded a charm of profound simplicity. As Chu Mo followed Zhao Qing through the courtyard gate, he immediately sensed an invisible pressure bearing down upon him. This was not a deliberately released aura, but rather a powerful presence that naturally emanated from a life form that had reached a certain level of existence. Nascent soul stage. Chu Mo silently assessed in his heart. This power was 100, or even 1,000 times more terrifying than Luo Zhiyin's late foundation establishment stage. He could feel the faint spiritual power within him trembling under this pressure like a candle flickering in the wind ready to extinguish at any moment. This was a glimpse of the pinnacle combat power in the cultivation world. Suppressing the ambitions that surged within him, Chu Mo maintained a calm demeanor as he followed Zhao Qing into a grand hall. In the hall sat an elderly man with a thin face and a long beard calmly perched on a cushion twisting a string of dark beads while meditating. Dressed in a simple gray Taoist robe, he appeared unremarkable, yet emanated an unfathomable oppressive aura. This was Elder Jiang Shiguang. Elder, I have brought the person here. Zhao Qing bowed respectfully. Jiang Shiguang slowly opened his eyes, his deep gaze seemingly capable of piercing through one's heart. His gaze fell upon Chu Mo, merely glancing at him before retracting. You are Chu Mo? His voice was not loud, yet carried an undeniable authority. Disciple Chu Mo pays respects to Elder Jiang. Chu Mo replied, neither servile nor overbearing, performing a respectful bow. If there is something to say, please speak directly to save time. Jiang Shiguang said casually. Chu Mo nodded yes. During the entrance assessment, I encountered injustice. He recounted the incident of the altered assessment results in detail. As Jiang Shiguang listened, he continued to twist the beads in his hand, showing little concern. Such petty tricks in entrance assessments were something he had long grown accustomed to. That smiling tiger Lin Zheng, the old fox, was not new to this kind of behavior, especially when the innate talents of the new disciples were not too far apart. Character and background could serve as additional criteria for judgment. There was a large discretionary area here. Even with favoritism and corruption, it was difficult to catch anyone red-handed. So, Jiang Shiguang's tone remained calm. He planned to dismiss Chu Mo after hearing his request. This outer disciple could not serve as a weapon against Lin Zheng. He wondered how much Zhao Qing had taken to bring Chu Mo to see him. Disciple hopes Elder Jiang can ensure justice because the time it took for me to draw the qi into my body. Chu Mo paused and clearly stated those 4 words was half an incense stick. Jiang Shiguang's hand, twisting the beads, abruptly halted. His deep-set eyes suddenly shot out 2 beams of light, fixating intensely on Chu Mo. What did you say? Jiang Shiguang's voice grew slightly heavy, laced with disbelief. Chu Mo repeated, half an incense stick. Jiang Shiguang's hand trembled. The dark beads were instantly crushed into powder, scattering on the ground. A look of shock finally appeared on his otherwise calm face. Half an incense stick. He muttered to himself, his eyes shining with an extraordinary light. Shock and suspicion. He abruptly rose quickly, walking to Chu Mo's side, extending his hand to grasp Chu Mo's wrist. A surge of immense spiritual power rushed into Chu Mo's body, rapidly coursing through his meridians. Jiang Shiguang's expression grew more astonished as he examined Chu Mo. Good, good, good. He exclaimed 3 goods in a row, his voice tinged with uncontrollable excitement. Your meridians? Your spiritual energy operation. This is simply a naturally gifted cultivation body. He released Chu Mo's hand, his eyes bursting with ecstatic light. Zhao Qing. Jiang Shiguang suddenly turned to Zhao Qing. Go fetch the testing stone. Zhao Qing complied and quickly ran out. After a moment, a testing stone was brought in. Chu Mo, place your hand on it. Jiang Shiguang urged eagerly. Chu Mo complied and placed his hand on the testing stone. Buzz. The testing stone instantly erupted with dazzling, resplendent, multicolored light, shooting a pillar of light that pierced the roof of the grand hall, soaring into the clouds. Rich and pure waves of spiritual energy swept out like a tsunami, causing the entire courtyard to tremble slightly. Jiang Shiguang gazed at the soaring multicolored pillar, trembling with excitement, his old face flushed. He stammered with excitement. It really is true that one can draw qi into the body in half an incense stick. This is simply a ancient millennium genius. His gaze towards Chu Mo was no longer mere surprise, but as if he had seen a rare treasure capable of vanquishing his enemies. Lin Zheng, oh Lin Zheng, you truly are blind. Jiang Shiguang laughed wildly in his heart. Lin Zheng dared to indulge in such favoritism for his son, burying such a peerless genius. This was a major leverage. With this, he was confident he could heavily reprimand Lin Zheng before the sect master, leaving him unable to escape. This Chu Mo was a gift from heaven, a weapon to bring down Lin Zheng. Good, very good. Jiang Shiguang looked at Chu Mo with increasing satisfaction. Chu Mo, rest assured, I will definitely ensure justice for the unfair treatment you received. Chu Mo emerged from Jiang Shiguang's courtyard. As he stepped out of the courtyard, he saw a figure approaching. It was a young cultivator, handsome in appearance with an air of heroism about him.
Target Jiang Ping Tian cost to probe silver, 1,000 inferior spirit stones, 100 lower grade spirit stones, 1 middle grade spirit stone. Would you like to probe? Chu Mo discovered that the cost of probing a character increased tenfold with each major realm ascension. The foundation establishment Luo Zhiyin cost him 10,000 silver, while just now the nascent soul Jiang Shiguang cost 100,000 silver. From this, he could deduce that Jiang Ping Tian was at the Golden Core stage. He also knew the identity of the other party. He was Jiang Shiguang's direct disciple. He and Zhao Qing were fellow travelers. Looking at Jiang Ping Tian, Chu Mo's eyes held a trace of pity. Jiang Ping Tian, sensing Chu Mo's gaze, looked puzzled and frowned at this unfamiliar outer disciple. Junior brother, is there something you need? Jiang Ping Tian asked. Chu Mo smiled faintly and shook his head. Nothing. Senior brother, please go ahead. He sidestepped him and continued forward. Jiang Ping Tian did not think much of it. His master was still waiting for him to report on the task, so he quickly walked into Jiang Shiguang's courtyard. Jiang Ping Tian reported to Jiang Shiguang that while he was out on a mission to eliminate demonic cultivators, he had inadvertently discovered that a demonic cultivator had infiltrated the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect. This infiltrator was a female disciple. Jiang Shiguang frowned slightly after hearing Jiang Ping Tian's report. A demonic infiltrator, infiltrating the outer sect. He pondered for a moment. Master, should I immediately take people to thoroughly investigate the outer sect and root out that demonic infiltrator? Jiang Ping Tian inquired. Not in a hurry. Jiang Shiguang waved his hand. A cold smile appeared on his face. Here's what we'll do. First, quietly identify that demonic cultivator's identity, then closely monitor her movements. When she causes a certain level of damage to the sect, arousing panic and anger among the sect members eager to find the identity of the culprit, we will strike decisively, capturing her all at once. Only then can we showcase the strength and significance of our lineage. By the way, there is another matter. Jiang Shiguang's gaze flickered and he said to Jiang Ping Tian, you should immediately take people to thoroughly investigate the recent entrance assessment. Lin Zheng, that old fox, has been engaging in favoritism. I want you to root out those involved and gather evidence. Yes, master. Jiang Ping Tian accepted the order and left. Jiang Shiguang returned to his cushion, picking up the shattered beads on the ground, a smug smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Lin Zheng, your good days have come to an end. A few days later, Qingshi Sword Sect, the main hall. The atmosphere was solemn and austere. Except for a few elders in closed-door meditation, the sect master and all the inner sect elders were present for a high-level meeting. They were the core of the sect's power, managing various fields within the sect. The sect master appeared to be a stern, middle-aged man. He sat at the head seat listening to the reports from various elders about the sect's recent conditions. After everyone finished reporting, Jiang Shiguang slowly stood up. Sect master, fellow disciples, he spoke loudly with a sense of righteousness. I have a matter regarding Elder Lin Zheng's favoritism and corruption that I need to report to the sect. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the hall was momentarily taken aback. Lin Zheng, who originally appeared kind and gentle, had his expression change slightly, a flicker of displeasure and coldness flashing in his eyes. Elder Jiang, please speak directly, the sect master said calmly. Jiang Shiguang sneered and fixed his gaze on Lin Zheng. Elder Lin Zheng is in charge of the entrance assessments and should act fairly to select talents for the sect. However, he has abused his power, engaging in favoritism by burying disciples with exceptional talent in the outer sect, while placing his son Lin Wujie in the inner sect. He waved his hand and jade slips flew out from his storage ring, presenting pieces of evidence before everyone. This is the testimony of Zhang Zhengji, the disciple responsible for the entrance assessments. He admitted to accepting bribes from Lin Wujie and altering the assessment results. This is the assessment record of the buried disciple Chu Mo. According to the altered record by Zhang Zhengji, his time to draw qi into the body was 1 day, while Lin Wujie's was 2 hours. However, Jiang Shiguang's tone suddenly rose, his eyes gleaming. The truth is, Lin Wujie's time to draw qi into the body was actually 1 day, while this disciple Chu Mo, his time to draw qi into the body was half an incense stick. Boom. Jiang Shiguang's words exploded like thunder in the main hall. All the elders, including the sect master, changed their expressions, dramatically revealing looks of incredulity. Half an incense stick to draw qi into the body. How could this be possible? The main hall instantly fell into a frenzy. They were all exceptionally gifted individuals with varying times to draw qi into the body, the slowest being no more than a day. But half an incense stick. This was simply beyond their comprehension. It was like everyone was proud of just crossing 10 centimeters, when suddenly someone came along and pulled out over 30 centimeters. An unprecedented shock seized everyone's hearts. They stared intensely at the record in Jiang Shiguang's hand. Lin Zheng's expression fluctuated between dark and light. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead, and he could no longer maintain his composure. He originally thought that Chu Mo would just be a few hours at most to draw qi into the body.
Such a level of talent existed within the sect, with even several elders present possessing similar capabilities. Losing him would not be a big deal, but he never expected. Chu Mo's talent was half an incense stick. This was no ordinary genius. This was a prodigy. He had personally buried a Ansinama. This sin was too great. An immense pressure weighed down on Lin Zheng like a mountain, making it hard for him to breathe. Lin Zheng, what do you have to say? The sect master's voice was stern. Lin Zheng swallowed hard, his expression extremely grim. He knew that denying it now was pointless. The evidence was conclusive, and there was also Zhang Zhengzi's testimony. He had to find a way to extricate himself and Wu Jie from this matter. Sect master, fellow brothers and sisters, Lin Zheng took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down, his voice filled with regret. This matter is indeed my dereliction of duty. But I was completely unaware of it beforehand. I am in charge of the entrance assessments and was negligent in supervising my subordinates, which allowed Zhang Jingji to audaciously alter the assessment results. If not for this, my unambitious son would not have taken advantage of it. He did not admit to being the one orchestrating the favoritism, but instead shifted the blame to his subordinates, the system, and his own son. I am willing to take responsibility, and will severely discipline my son. He paused before continuing. Moreover, there are indeed loopholes in the entrance assessment process lacking sufficient oversight, which allowed people like Zhang Jingji to exploit it. In the future, I will strengthen the supervision of the entrance assessments to prevent similar incidents from happening again. Lin Zheng's words were flawless, exonerating himself and deflecting suspicions of knowledge or orchestration. The elders present all understood that as the supervising elder, Lin Zheng could not possibly be unaware of such matters. However, he left no direct evidence, and given his significant influence within the sect, probing too deeply could cause internal upheaval. Ultimately, the sect master and the elders weighed the pros and cons, choosing a compromise approach. Elder Lin Zheng, the sect master, spoke. You cannot escape the responsibility for your dereliction of duty. From today onward, you will no longer oversee the sect's entrance assessments, and the authority will be transferred to Elder Jiang. Additionally, you will forfeit your elder salary for 1 year as a warning. Furthermore, regarding your son Lin Wujie, the sect will not provide any cultivation resources for him in the next 3 years. Lin Zheng's expression was grim, but he bowed and accepted. A glimmer of satisfaction flashed in Jiang Shiguang's eyes. Although he could not completely cast Lin Zheng into the abyss, he had successfully weakened his power and expanded his own influence. As for the outer sect disciple Zhang Jingji, the sect master continued, he engaged in favoritism and was audacious. His crimes are deserving of death. Effective immediately, he shall be executed to rectify our sect's conduct. Lastly, regarding the outer sect disciple Chu Mo, the sect master's gaze swept over everyone in the hall. He is extraordinarily gifted, but was buried due to favoritism. The sect owes him a debt. What do you think should be done to compensate and handle Chu Mo? At these words, the elders within the main hall fell collectively silent, as if their throats had been seized. The atmosphere, intangible as it was, grew subtle and tense. Chu Mo's talent made him more than qualified to become a personal disciple in the future. But each elder could only have one personal disciple. That old scoundrel Lin Zheng would naturally never take Chu Mo under his wing. That would be akin to slapping his own face. And which of these elders did not have a cherished protege they had painstakingly cultivated? Those personal disciples were entangled in a web of complex relationships. Not one of them came from a humble background, who all had been lavished with copious resources. If Chu Mo were forced in as well, how would the already allocated limited resources be redivided? Even if Chu Mo were merely admitted as a nominal disciple, problems would arise. On one hand, given his extraordinary talent, yet lack of commensurate treatment, resentment would inevitably fester. The chance of him nursing a grudge in the future was far greater than the chance of gratitude. On the other hand, with a peerless genius like Chu Mo in their midst, their own branch would surely become the target of suppression by the others to prevent its rise. Therefore, Chu Mo was undoubtedly a hot potato. Once he was allowed direct access to intersect resources given the talent he had displayed, it would likely take only a few years before he trampled these old veterans who had been steeped in the sect for decades. But at that point, would all the spheres of influence and the fat share of benefits they had painstakingly carved out be completely overturned by this sudden rising star? Devote the entire sect's resources to nurture a peerless genius. Qingshi Sword Sect, by virtue of its founding patriarch's illustrious renown, had long sat securely as the orthodox leader. There was simply no need for any dazzlingly brilliant figure to upset the existing balance. What they needed were obedient tools that could bring the sect a steady stream of stable profits. The sect master observed these cunning old foxes beneath the hall, each with their own agenda. His mind was clear, yet he too remained silent. Finally, an elder broke the suffocating silence and stepped forward to mediate. Sect master, since the die is cast, perhaps we should handle it this way. For the time being, let the boy Chu Mo continue cultivating in the outer sect. However, the sect may grant him special permission to enter the inner sect scripture pavilion, select one manual to copy, and take it away for study. This could be considered a gesture of goodwill and compensation from the sect. On the surface, this proposal sounded high-sounding, as if it were for Chu Mo's benefit. In reality, it was but a moon in the water, a flower in the mirror, illusory and hollow. An outer disciple, even if fortunate enough to obtain an advanced inner sect manual, without sufficient cultivation resources to support him, and without the meticulous guidance of a master, how much of a stir could he possibly cause? Agreed. The sect master spoke in a deep voice, finalizing the decision. The assembly disbanded. Jiang Shiguang and Lin Zheng walked out of the main hall side by side, a subtle distance between them. Elder Lin. A meaningful sardonic smile hung on Jiang Shiguang's face. His voice was low but clearly reached Lin Zheng's ears. That child Chu Mo is truly a rough jade waiting to be polished. If he hadn't voluntarily informed me of your corrupt and nefarious deeds, such a monstrous scandal would likely have been suppressed by you for a long time, never seeing the light of day. His words light as they were struck like a poisoned soft dagger, precisely piercing Lin Zheng's sore spot. Deliberately pushing Chu Mo to the forefront, his intention was as clear as day, to provoke Lin Zheng into harboring resentment toward Chu Mo and secretly striking at him. As long as Lin Zheng dared to act, he could follow the thread to uncover more leverage. Lin Zheng's step faltered slightly, and the depths of his eyes instantly darkened, as if they could drip water. To be so ruthlessly outmaneuvered by an outer disciple he regarded as an ant, and to suffer great losses and injuries as a result. How could he easily swallow this bitter wrath? But after all, he was a veteran who had weathered countless storms. He knew well that to be blinded by rage at this moment would only play into Jiang Shiguang's hands. Elder Jiang is truly overthinking. Lin Zheng squeezed out a few words through clenched teeth, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes, then flicked his sleeves and left. Returning to his spirit-rich cave dwelling, Lin Zheng met Lin Wujia. He recounted the verdict of the assembly in full detail. After hearing it, Lin Wujia stood frozen, as if all strength had been drained from him. Anger, resentment, humiliation, a torrent of negative emotions flooded his heart. In the end, these tangled feelings coalesced into a towering hatred for the one who had started it all, Chu Mo. It's all that Chu Mo. It's all because of him. Lin Wujia clenched his fists, his teeth grinding audibly. His face twisted in extreme fury. Father, I will make him pay. A barely perceptible glint of coldness flashed in Lin Zheng's eyes, but his voice remained calm and gentle. Wujia, remember this. That sly old fox Jiang Shiguang is now watching us father and son like a hawk. If anything happens to Chu Mo, we will be handing him a handle. The control of the punishment hall is still clutched tightly in Jiang Shiguang's hands. Father, rest assured. A savage grin spread across Lin Wujia's face, his voice venomous. I won't let any accident befall him, but I will make his life worse than death. I will slowly torment him, let him know what it truly means to offend me, Lin Wujia, and our Lin family. Meanwhile, deep within the Qingshi Sword Sect's dungeon, a place that never saw sunlight, damp and dark, the outer sect steward Zhang Jingji, senior brother Zhang, curled up in a cold corner, listened to the footsteps approaching from afar. In his murky eyes, a faint flicker of hope involuntarily emerged. Is Elder Lin coming to rescue me? He gripped the iron bars, his voice hoarse and trembling with barely concealed anxiety, as he asked cautiously. With a clatter, the heavy, icy iron lock was opened. An expressionless jailer walked in, not answering, holding a short blade that gleamed with cold light. By order of the sect, the criminal Zhang Jingji, guilty of bending the law for personal gain, acting with audacious impudence, and committing heinous crimes, is hereby sentenced to immediate execution. The cold verdict struck Zhang Zhengzi's heart like a thunderbolt from the highest heavens. It shattered the illusions he had held until just moments ago into pieces. He slumped helplessly onto the cold ground. His mind involuntarily conjured the image of his long-deceased father. The cultivation resources ordinary disciples received were utterly insufficient to reach foundation establishment and enter the inner sect, and even those were embezzled. The only way was to become a steward. He recalled how his father had exhausted all the family's savings, groveled and begged everywhere, just to secure this seemingly glorious outer steward position for him. He remembered how he had walked on eggshells all these years, cautious and fearful of making a single misstep, betraying his father's fervent hopes before his death. Zhang Jingji, righteous and upright. How could one be righteous in this godforsaken place? But in the end, what was he? Merely a pawn in the hands of those lofty, exalted figures, to be manipulated and discarded at will. When they needed you, they would coerce and bribe you, bending your spine, forcing you to wade in the same muddy waters. Once the scheme was exposed, they would make you the scapegoat, pushing you out without hesitation to bear the blame. Fairness. Human rights. From the very first day he had stepped into this cultivation world, those things had nothing to do with him. Ha ha ha. Zhang Jingji suddenly burst into frenzied laughter, his eyes bloodshot, the sound bitter and despairing. Lin Wujia. Qingshi Sword Sect. You hypocritical sanctimonious bastards. Zhang Jingji will never forgive you even as a ghost. But his curses and condemnation only drew the jailer's short blade, cold and merciless, across his throat. A gash, blood splattered, the head rolled. Chu Mo sat cross-legged within the crude cave dwelling assigned to him as an outer disciple where spiritual energy was so thin as to be almost negligible. A disciple clad in the attire of an inner sect steward approached with a hint of arrogance conveying the sect's final decision. Junior Brother Chu. The sect, recognizing your decent talent, grants you permission to enter the inner sect's technique pavilion to select one technique and make a copy as compensation. Fair and just. From now on remain in the outer sect and work hard. The steward disciple's tone carried undisguised condescension and arrogance. The quota remained Lin Wuji's. He was still nothing but an insignificant outer disciple. Chu Mo's face showed no extra expression, he merely uttered a calm word of thanks. After the steward disciple left with his head held high, silence once again filled the cave dwelling. Deep within Chu Mo's profound eyes a dark flame burned enough to incinerate everything. What a fine Qingshi Sword Sect. What fairness and justice. He slowly clenched his fist, his sharp nails digging deep into his palm, bringing a sharp sting. In this world where the strong prey on the weak and human life is as cheap as grass, absolute power is the only unyielding truth. Those lofty ones who casually trampled his dignity. Just wait. One day I will crush each and every one of you underfoot. Let you taste the flavor of being toyed with. However, being allowed to enter the inner sect's technique pavilion to choose a technique was indeed an opportunity. With the universal information system, perhaps he could really unearth something unexpectedly good from those dusty corners. Chu Mo moved his mind and contacted Luo Zhiyin through the soul contract. Soon Luo Zhiyin's cold and aloof figure appeared silently at the entrance of the cave dwelling. What is it? Her voice remained icy as frost laced with impatience. I need quite a few spirit stones. Senior Sister Luo, as an inner disciple, you should have plenty. Please lend me some. Chu Mo said. Luo Zhiyin's delicate brows furrowed almost imperceptibly, but she still took a heavy cloth pouch from her storage ring and tossed it casually to Chu Mo. The pouch contained a full 100 low-grade spirit stones. Use them sparingly. She coldly dropped the words. Chu Mo took the stones and weighed them casually in his hand. Luo Zhiyin sneered inwardly. An outer disciple carrying so many spirit stones was nothing but a fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Unlike a storage ring, a storage pouch could not conceal the spiritual energy fluctuations emitted by the stones themselves. She could almost foresee the miserable scene of Chu Mo being coveted and bullied. She wished Chu Mo would die soon in such sordid troubles, so she naturally wouldn't kindly warn him. Not enough, Chu Mo said at that moment. Luo Zhiyin was stunned. Chu Mo added, give me all the spirit stones you have. What do you need so many spirit stones for? Luo Zhiyin ground her teeth, extremely unwilling. All the pleasure from her earlier thoughts vanished. But Chu Mo just stared at her, his eyes devoid of warmth. Luo Zhiyin felt unnerved by his gaze. Remembering the terrible consequences of disobedience, she could only take out the remaining spirit stones from her storage ring and angrily hand them all over to Chu Mo. This is all my spirit stones for this month. Thanks to you, I won't have any cultivation resources for the next few days. Thank you, Senior Sister. Chu Mo's faint, almost imperceptible smile filled Luo Zhiyin with even more resentment. He really was a demon. I must find a way to get rid of him, to kill him. After parting with Luo Zhiyin, Chu Mo headed straight for the inner sect's technique pavilion. The spirit stones he had asked from Luo Zhiyin were the funds to investigate techniques using the system. The inner sect's technique pavilion was a majestic building with an imposing and solemn aura. After verifying his identity, a core steward disciple in charge of guarding the pavilion looked him up and down with a mixture of scrutiny and disdain before leading him inside. Inside the pavilion, rows of tall bookshelves stood filled with countless jade slips emitting faint spiritual light. Chu Mo moved between the shelves, carefully scanning each jade slip. He did not rush to use the universal information system, as each formal inquiry consumed a considerable number of spirit stones. The techniques in the pavilion were classified into Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow grades. Techniques above Earth grade were only accessible to core disciples, personal disciples, and elders. However, this time, he was also granted permission to view techniques above Earth grade. After examining the Earth grade ones, Chu Mo arrived at the Heaven grade shelf where techniques at Heaven grade and above were stored. He noticed that while these techniques were domineering and powerful, most were incomplete or extremely difficult to cultivate. But that wasn't a problem. By consuming spirit stones, the system could help him complete the subsequent technique information. Scanning around, the cost to probe each technique ranged around several hundred low-grade spirit stones. Chu Mo planned to first find the most valuable technique, then use information probing on it, and complete it. After some time, Chu Mo discovered an inconspicuous wooden slip in a forgotten corner covered in thick dust and appearing incomplete and unremarkable. It wasn't even made of jade, but its texture was quite ancient. The characters on the slip were unfamiliar to him, possibly from an ancient era. Interesting. Chu Mo picked it up and looked. Target homing Yutian Ju incomplete probe cost 10 high-grade spirit stones, so expensive. Chu Mo's brows shot up sharply. 1 high-grade spirit stone was equivalent to 100 medium-grade spirit stones. And 1 medium-grade spirit stone could probe the information of a golden core stage figure. Its value equaled that of 1,000 golden core cultivators or 100 nascent soul cultivators. The grade of this seemingly ordinary incomplete technique must be extraordinary. Probe. A flash of determination crossed Chu Mo's eyes as he gave the order in his mind without hesitation. Half of the spirit stones he brought vanished instantly, as if swallowed by an invisible maw. Information homing Yutianju, a super-grade technique beyond the existing classification system. Cultivation requires vast resources and grants combat power several times that of the same realm. It grows stronger with each level. This technique has 7 layers, each unlocking a Yutian method. The effect of each layer's Yutian method, if released alone, would stir bloody storms in the cultivation world. Currently, this wooden slip only records the Qi refining chapter, and the first layer's Yutian method is incomplete. Do you want to consume 10 high-grade spirit stones to complete the first layer's Yutian method, or 1 supreme-grade spirit stone, 100 high-grade spirit stones to complete the foundation establishment chapter? Note the second layer's Yutian method corresponds to the golden core stage. Chu Mo's heart raced uncontrollably. This was a heaven-defying technique that any cultivator would covet. As for the drawback, needing vast resources, to him these seemed like no insurmountable problems. After all, he had the universal information system and Luo Zhiyin, a tool for providing spirit stones. The only thing that troubled him was that completing even just the foundation establishment chapter required a full 100 high-grade spirit stones. Fortunately, all the funds he carried just barely covered completing the first layer's Yutian method. He would go for it. Complete. A near-frenzied resolve and fervor flashed in Chu Mo's eyes. He wanted to see just how heaven-defying this Yutian method was. Instantly, all the spirit stones in his storage pouch surged out like a bursting dam and disappeared without a trace. Immediately after, a vast influx of information surged into Chu Mo's mind, completing the first layer of the Hongmeng Yutianju, the Yutian method. Yutian method, first layer, yin-yang modulation method. After digesting the yin-yang modulation method, Chu Mo gained insight. Cultivating alongside a female cultivator of higher realm could enhance combat capabilities within the same realm, even surpassing peers tenfold. Upon cultivation, one's constitution would differ from ordinary cultivators, and breakthroughs would no longer be hindered by bottlenecks. The drawback was the need for massive resources. Yet in the face of such enormous advantages, this flaw seemed negligible. 10 times the combat power of the same rank. What did that mean? At the early Qi refining stage, one could challenge a late Qi refining cultivator. If he reached the late golden core stage, could he directly slay a nascent soul cultivator across realms? Though the resources required to cultivate the yin-yang modulation method were immense, he had Luo Zhiyin as an accessible intersect resource repository along with his own intelligence network, so he need not worry about future resources. As for cultivation speed, he had drawn Qi into his body within half a joss stick's time, so there was no need to worry. As long as resources were sufficient, he could reach the foundation establishment stage in an extremely short period. Yet this was only the effect of the first layer of the Yutian method. There were 6 more such heaven-defying techniques. Chu Mo could hardly suppress his anticipation for the subsequent Yutian methods. How terrifying would it be if all 7 layers were completed? After barely calming his surging heart, the image of Luo Zhiyin's cold and ethereal figure appeared in Chu Mo's mind. Chu Mo did not take away the wooden slip recording the remnants of the Hongmeng Yutianju. After all, even the first layer of the Yutian method was incomplete. The characters inscribed on it were archaic and obscure. Even if someone else happened upon it, they could not understand it. He turned around. On the bookshelf displaying heaven-grade techniques, he selected a lower-tier heaven-grade technique named Shutian Bingpaju. He thought it would suit Luo Zhiyin. The stronger his subordinates, the better. It could also serve as compensation to her. After all, once trust was sufficient, he could remotely access her assets. In case of emergency, he could perform an asset transfer. That was how those wealthy debtors came to be. He arrived at the exit of the technique pavilion. The core disciple steward responsible for copying techniques took the jade slip of Shutian Bingpaju that Chu Mo handed over, a sneer undisguised in his eyes. He knew the Shutian Bingpaju. Cultivating this technique required enormous resources and extremely stringent physical constitutions. Only extremely rare Yin-type constitutions such as the Taiyin Mystic Vein or the Nether Emperorized Soul Body could succeed. Forcing cultivation might temporarily display combat power beyond the same rank. Yet due to the mismatch in constitution, one would never break through to foundation establishment, remaining stuck at Qi refining for life. After all, the higher the grade of a technique, the harder it was to switch later. In the steward's mind, he had already sentenced Chu Mo to death. Chu Mo was merely an outer disciple lacking vast resources and any rare special constitution. Such a heaven-grade technique in his hands was merely a piece of waste paper. What did it matter if he had extraordinary talent? His path was finished. The steward sneered inwardly, but did not bother to warn him swiftly copying the technique. Then he warned, normally this is a technique only inner sect core disciples can consult. You must not privately pass it on, or you will be disciplined by sect rules. Thank you for the reminder, senior brother. Chu Mo took the copied jade slip, thanked him, and turned to leave the technique pavilion. He had no intention of cultivating Shutian Bingpaju himself, but he would not pass it on either. After all, Luo Zhiyin now belonged to him. The steward, seeing Chu Mo leave, waited half an hour before also departing. Elder Lin Zheng and several other elders had bribed him to report the result of Chu Mo's technique selection. He was now going to fulfill that agreement. Inside Lin Zheng's cave dwelling in the inner sect, he chose the Shutian Bingpaju. Lin Zheng, after hearing the report, felt his earlier displeasure from being outmaneuvered by Jiang Shiguang ease considerably. The disciple who delivered the message from the pavilion steward nodded obsequiously. That's what the core steward disciple said. Shutian Bingpaju. Lin Zheng shook his head with a wry smile. Heaven grade lower tier. Sounds impressive. He picked up the spirit tea and gently blew on the steam. This technique has extremely demanding physical requirements. Only the most Yin and cold Xian Yin constitutions can handle it. Forcibly cultivating it, let alone foundation establishment, even reaching qi refining perfection, would be as hard as ascending to heaven. Moreover, the resources it consumes are a bottomless pit. He, an outer disciple, with no foundation, simply cannot fill it or cultivate it. The disciple chimed in, what Elder Lin says is absolutely right. This Chu Mo just stumbled upon good luck with decent talent, yet he doesn't know his place and foolishly tries to leap to heaven overnight. Little does he know that when virtue is lacking, calamity follows. Lin Zheng took a satisfying sip of tea. He's walking right into his own grave. No one else to blame. I thought this kid might cause me some trouble, but it turns out he's just a fool dazzled by the technique's rank. He had overestimated him. Such a nature, no matter how gifted, had limited achievements. He had even considered, aside from the No Calamity faction, secretly using some means to cut off Chu Mo's cultivation path. Now it seemed completely unnecessary. Chu Mo had already blocked his own path. Lin Zheng waved his hand, signaling the disciple to withdraw. All right, I know now. You may leave. Well done. Take these spirit stones as a reward. Thank you, Elder Lin. The disciple took several spirit stones and withdrew with profuse gratitude. Meanwhile, in Jiang Shiguang's courtyard, after hearing his trusted subordinates report, Jiang Shiguang's brows knitted tightly and his face, which had brightened slightly from his earlier victory, darkened. Shutian Bingpaju. He tapped his fingers lightly on the table, producing a clicking sound that betrayed his. The inner sect disciple, reporting, carefully observed Jiang Shiguang's expression and said in a low voice, Yes, Elder. According to our informant at the Technique Pavilion, Chu Mo indeed copied the Shutian Bingpaju. Jiang Shiguang fell silent. He had held great expectations for Chu Mo. With the peerless talent of drawing qi into his body in half an incense stick, if used properly, he could become a powerful ally against Lin Zheng and even in controlling the sect. But he never expected Chu Mo to choose the Shutian Bingpaju. This kid. Jiang Shiguang sighed, disappointment undisguised in his tone. In the end, he is young and inexperienced, blinded by the technique's rank while ignoring whether he can handle it. He had earlier thought Chu Mo was a cunning, situation-aware talent. Now it seemed he was merely a reckless youth with talent, but lacking foresight and self-knowledge. Elder, then. Should we continue to monitor him? The disciple probed. Jiang Shiguang waved his hand dissent. No need. Since he chose this path himself, let him be. He has no further value. He would have to find another way to completely overthrow Lin Zheng. Or perhaps pin his hopes on Jiang Pingtian, making him quickly find the demonic cultivator mole, thereby gaining merit and elevating his prestige and influence within the sect. Returning to the outer sect's sparse spiritual energy cave dwelling, Chu Mo immediately sat cross-legged and began to circulate the Hongmeng Yutianju. As soon as the technique was activated, Chu Mo felt a spiritual energy far purer and mightier than the Yinling Ju surging like a great river within his body. With mere breathing, he could clearly perceive his spiritual power growing at a visible rate. His meridians seemed to be tempered and widened by an invisible, formidable force. How domineering! Chu Mo marveled inwardly. He could unmistakably feel that his current self at the first layer of qi refining could easily handle 3 or 4 of his former self from yesterday, who practiced the Yinling Ju. This was merely the bonus from the technique itself. Add the first layer of the Yutian method, yin-yang modulation, the combat boost. Chu Mo forcibly suppressed his surging excitement and took out another item from his storage pouch, the spider silk of the nether prison spider. Over these days, he had already refined it into a highly effective weapon. 10 fine, yet immensely strong strands of silk were attached to specially made rings on each of his 10 fingers. With a mere thought, he could wield them like extensions of his body, killing invisibly. Chu Mo casually waved. A silver trail, almost invisible to the naked eye, flashed through the void. Not far away, a half-man-high greenstone silently split in two. The cut surface was smooth as a mirror, as if cleaved by a divine weapon. "They'll call you Celestial Silk," Chu Mo said with a slight curve of his lips. Though he didn't know exactly what level his current strength had reached, he was certain it was overwhelmingly dominant among the... As for what to do next, Chu Mo stroked his chin. Cultivating the Hongmeng Yutianju required a vast amount of resources. It was satisfying to fleece Luo Zhiyin, but he couldn't shear one sheep too much. If he ruined her progress to the Golden Core stage, the loss would outweigh the gain. After all, a Golden Core Luo Zhiyin could acquire more intersect resources, providing even more and better. Killing the goose for the egg was not his style. Chu Mo decided to first go to the Outer Sect Finance Hall to exchange the remaining gold, silver, and jewels looted from the bandits for spirit stones. These mortal coins took up too much space in his storage pouch. He was now using his own storage pouch. Though Luo Zhiyin had once given him the pouch she used as an outer disciple, he decided not to use it anymore. Two pouches hanging at his waist were too conspicuous. Pouches could not be nested inside each other due to spatial repulsion. After exchanging spirit stones at the finance hall, Chu Mo went to the Outer Sect Weapon Pavilion and selected a plain, refined steel longsword. The Celestial Silk was his trump card, not to be easily revealed in battle. Only thus could it achieve surprise and fell the enemy in one strike. Having done this, Chu Mo headed toward the General Affairs Hall. He intended to look for suitable tasks to earn spirit stones for his cultivation and use. But just after walking a short distance, thanks to the keen perception granted by the Hongmeng Yutianju, Chu Mo sensed several malicious gazes, like clinging parasites, trailing behind him. His brows twitched almost imperceptibly as he quickened his steady pace. When he reached the fork leading to the affairs office, he found the path ahead deliberately blocked by a few idle outer disciples. Chu Mo's heart sank. This was indeed meant for him. Without hesitation, he turned and dashed toward another path leading into the dense forest behind the mountain. Those disciples smirked with mockery and gave chase at a leisurely pace. Chu Mo weaved swiftly through the woods, his pursuers relentless behind him. During his flight, Chu Mo remained composed, his fingers twitching imperceptibly as he released faint, invisible silver threads. Soon he was cornered in a dead end surrounded by cliffs on three sides. "Hey kid, running. Why stop?" 7 or 8 cultivators in outer disciple attire encircled him with malicious grins. Chu Mo focused his mind, locking his gaze on the leader. Target Wang Liang, cost to pry 1,000 silver taels, 10 low-grade spirit stones. Proceed. Yes. Intel Chi refining level 6. Instigated by Lin Wujia, gathered several outer disciples to regularly bully and rob you, cut off your cultivation resources, ensure you never rise, and ultimately perish in the outer sect. Bullying among outer disciples, as long as no lives are lost, is often overlooked by the law enforcement hall, with light punishment rarely enough to root it out. Just as I thought. Lin Wujia was behind this. Kid, if you know what's good for you, hand over everything in your storage pouch. Wang Liang brandished his longsword, his tone arrogant and domineering. Otherwise today you'll learn what it means to wish you were dead. The others joined in with malicious laughter, looking at Chu Mo as if he were a lamb to the slaughter, their eyes full of mockery and cruelty. Their cultivation levels were all at mid-Chi refining, roughly level 4 to 6. They were confident they could easily crush Chu Mo, who was only at Chi refining level 1. Without hesitation or resistance, Chu Mo readily untied his storage pouch and offered it. "Senior brothers, here you go." Wang Liang snatched the pouch, probing it with his divine sense, a greedy smile spreading across his face. He took out the spirit stones and the fine steel longsword, pocketing them into his own storage pouch. Then, like discarding trash, he hurled the empty pouch contemptuously at Chu Mo's feet. "Haha, what a coward." Wang Liang sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "But this little bit isn't even enough to fill our teeth. Kid'll keep looking after you. Every month on the 1st and 15th, you'll bring all your cultivation resources, or else every time I see you, I'll beat you." Another disciple joined in, spittle nearly landing on Chu Mo's face. "You hear that, you waste?" Chu Mo lowered his head. "Huh, what a spineless fool. Scram, you worthless trash." The crowd jeered, belittling him mercilessly, their words full of insult and derision. They seemed to envision Chu Mo's pathetic future, barely surviving in the outer sect until he met a miserable end. Having vented their superiority, Wang Liang and his gang turned away smugly. But as they walked a few steps, Chu Mo's downturned eyes suddenly snapped up, a cold light flashing. He raised his arms crosswise and jerked his 10 fingers backward. Swish, swish, swish. Invisible silver threads instantly tautened in the air. The sound of a blade slicing through tofu resounded. The smiles on Wang Liang's crew froze instantly. They felt a slight cold sting across various parts of their bodies. Then, several heads tumbled to the ground in unison, their faces frozen in terror and disbelief, utterly devoid of the earlier arrogance. Only 2 remained alive. One was cut in half at the waist by the heavenly silk, his upper body crashing to the ground in a shriek of agony. Aya! The other, his right leg severed at the root, writhed and howled in pain, clutching the stump. That man was Wang Liang. While fleeing earlier, Chu Mo had used the heavenly silk to set up a killing formation along the path. Only the area around him was safe. Expressionless, Chu Mo picked up the sword that had fallen from Wang Liang. He walked slowly toward the disciple cut in half. The disciple saw Chu Mo approaching like a vengeful demon, his eyes filled with boundless fear and despair. He reached out a bloody hand, as if to beg for mercy. Thud! Chu Mo swung his sword cleanly, severing the man's head. Warm blood splattered across Chu Mo. He paid it no mind, turning to face Wang Liang, who was trying to crawl away on his remaining limb. Wang Liang heard the steady footsteps behind him, terrified out of his wits. He scrambled forward on all fours, dragging a long blood trail across the cold ground. He crawled to a protruding rock, gasping for breath. Chu Mo stepped on his back, pinning him down. Then, grabbing Wang Liang by the hair, he pressed his head against the rock's sharp edge. The stone ridge caught exactly between his teeth. Chu Mo lifted his foot and slammed it down on the back of Wang Liang's head. Crack! A nauseating sound of bone breaking echoed clearly. Wang Liang's teeth shattered completely, mixed with blood and saliva spewing out like mud. Aya! After recovering from the pain. Spare me. He whimpered incoherently, his eyes filled with extreme pain and fear mixed with lingering shock. He never imagined Chu Mo could possess such terrifying methods capable of slaughtering them all despite being only a chi refining level 1. Demon. Thud. The cold sword pierced through his body. Ugh. Wang Liang looked down in disbelief at the blade protruding from his chest, despair and reluctance in his eyes. Chu Mo withdrew the sword. Wang Liang fell a cold corpse. Then, Chu Mo looted everything from their storage pouches, including the spirit stones Wang Liang had taken along with their own savings, and stashed them into his own pouch. As long as the items bore no special sect marks, no one could prove their original owner. Without the pouches as evidence, and with Wang Liang silenced, everything naturally belonged to him. Gazing at the scattered limbs and corpses, Chu Mo's eyes were indifferent. Lin Wujie. Today is only, I will grow stronger. Break through to the Foundation Establishment stage, and enter the inner sect where only Foundation Establishment disciples belong. Then it'll make you taste this feeling of being bullied and stripped of all dignity. Chu Mo hoisted his newly replenished storage pouch, changed into clean robes, and set off toward his cave residence. After leaving the woods, he soon arrived at the broad main road where outer sect disciples gathered. Chu Mo keenly sensed that the gazes darting toward him now carried a sharper edge, greedier, more hostile, like those of starving wolves fixated upon their prey. Puzzled, he glanced down at his storage pouch, and instantly understood. The pouch at his waist swelled faintly with the weight of spirit stones, its surface shimmering with barely contained spiritual energy. He realized the standard issue storage pouches granted to outer sect disciples were woefully inadequate, tolerable when holding only a few spirit stones, yet utterly incapable of masking the dense spiritual aura radiating from larger quantities. It was no different than pasting a sign upon one's forehead: gullible. Wealthy. Attack me now. A textbook case of inviting calamity by bearing treasure openly. Still, so far every disciple he had encountered cultivated only at the early chi refinement stage, and none had formed gangs or alliances. Moreover, this was a major thoroughfare occasionally patrolled by disciples of the disciplinary hall. Thus no one dared strike openly yet. But further along the road, that was uncertain. To avoid escalating danger, Chu Mo veered off the main road and took a secluded path instead. After circling wide, he finally returned to his cave residence. Several hours later, deep in the rear mountain forest, several outer sect disciples from the disciplinary hall discovered the corpses of Wang Liang and his companions. 7 or 8 bodies lay crisscrossed across the ground, each slain in grotesque, soul-chilling fashion. Some had their throats slit nearly clean through, heads lolling lifelessly. Others were severed cleanly at the waist, their heads cleaved away entirely. Crimson blood saturated the forest floor, pooling into small, reeking puddles that assaulted the senses. Even these disciplinary hall disciples, accustomed to wielding authority and instilling fear, felt their stomachs churn violently at the carnage. Hurry! Report this to the senior disciplinarian at once. The Qingshi Sword Sect's disciplinary hall was divided into outer and inner branches. Cases beyond the outer hall's jurisdiction were escalated to the inner hall. Overseeing the entire disciplinary hall was Elder Jiang Shiguang, and his influence extended deeply into the punishment hall as well. As news ascended through the ranks, it swiftly reached the inner sect and Elder Jiang Shiguang's ears. Within his cave residence, Jiang Pingtian had just concluded his report on an external assignment when Jiang Shiguang broached the matter, his expression grave. 7 or 8 outer sect disciples, cultivating at the mid-chi refinement stage, dead. No signs of struggle at the scene.
All killed in single decisive strikes, clean, precise, ruthless. Jiang Shiguang stroked his chin, eyes glinting with sharp intelligence. Pingtian, what is your assessment? Who could have done this? Jiang Pingtian paused in thought before replying, to eliminate so many mid-chi refinement disciples so swiftly and silently. The perpetrator must cultivate at least at the peak of chi refinement, or perhaps even stand at the threshold of foundation establishment. Their methods are merciless, no survivors left behind. Based on my deduction, this massacre was almost certainly committed by the demonic cultivator operating undercover within our sect, using some formidable arcane demonic art. Jiang Shiguang nodded slowly, his face darkening. News of the demonic infiltrator has somehow leaked recently. The sect elders are already aware. With this atrocity added to the tally, a formal directive will surely follow commanding us to root out the infiltrator without delay. He fixed Jiang Pingtian with a searching gaze. Pingtian, do you have any leads on the infiltrator's identity? Jiang Pingtian wore a pained expression as he clasped his fists in salute. Respected master, the demonic infiltrator operates with extraordinary secrecy. My agents have conducted covert inquiries for days, yet we remain unable to pinpoint their true identity. All we know for certain is that the infiltrator is a female disciple. And now with this case spreading like wildfire among the outer sect, panic is mounting. Any further investigation risks alarming them. Plans rarely survive first contact with reality. Jiang Shiguang sighed, rubbing his temples wearily. He had originally intended to conceal the incident, quietly identify the infiltrator first, and then seize them publicly during their next act of sabotage, claiming full credit. That plan was now impossible. He still had no idea how word of the demonic infiltrator had leaked into the outer sect. Perhaps he would need to conduct a thorough investigation among his own disciples. Jiang Shiguang waved his hand dismissively. Enough. Dispatch additional agents immediately. Uncover every detail about this infiltrator and do so as swiftly as possible. Publicly attribute the massacre to the demonic infiltrator. This will suffice as an interim explanation for the sect elders. As for the unrest it stirs among the outer sect, that lies beyond our concern. Yes, master. Jiang Pingtian bowed and departed. En route to the inner sect disciplinary hall, he reflected idly. He felt a flicker of curiosity. How exactly had word of the demonic infiltrator leaked? Within the sect he had confided only in his most trusted and intimate Dao companion. Surely she would never betray such confidence. Could it have been someone close to Master Jiang? Meanwhile, within Lin Wujia's cave residence, the rumor had already. He learned swiftly that Wang Liang and his men, sent to eliminate Chu Mo, had all been slaughtered in the rear mountain forest. Officially, the deed was attributed to the mysterious demonic infiltrator. Lin Wujia was stunned. Damn it, all dead. Why did they all die? He could scarcely believe it. 7 or 8 seasoned mid-chi refinement cultivators gone in an instant. How had that accursed Chu Mo managed to evade death by sheer luck? Rage and bitter resentment roiled within his chest. Yet almost immediately his father Lin Zhang's recent words echoed in his mind. That fool Chu Mo actually chose the Void Spirit art, a cultivation technique demanding impossibly stringent conditions. Given the meager resources accessible to outer sect disciples, Chu Mo would spend his entire life stagnating, doomed to fade into oblivion. Humph, a worthless wretch destined for nothingness. This time fortune had favored him, but given the chance, Lin Wujia would savor his slow, meticulous ruin. At that very moment, deep within a hidden cave residence of the Qingshi Sword Sect's outer sect, a woman of breathtaking allure stood trembling with fury, her ample bosom rising and falling rapidly, her teeth clenched tight. Her long raven black hair tumbled freely over her shoulders, a few playful strands fluttered beside her cheeks with each ragged breath. Those bewitching peach blossom eyes, normally enchanting, now blazed with incandescent wrath. Damned, damned, damned. Inwardly, she cursed the unknown slanderer with blistering vitriol. I've lain low, quiet, and obedient. What harm have I done to anyone? Now I'm saddled with this monster. Now the entire sect is hunting like rabid hounds. Every rustle sets my nerves on edge. Even my clandestine demonic cultivation feels perilous. I must have exhausted 8 lifetimes worth of ill fortune. If I ever discover who orchestrated this treachery, I'll rip out your soul, refine it in agony, and leave you begging for death you'll never be granted. Night fell. At Chu Mo's cave residence, Luo Zhiyin arrived soundlessly. Senior Sister Luo, these outer sect storage pouches seem rather unreliable. Chu Mo twirled the pouch idly in his fingers, his meaning unmistakable. Luo Zhiyin's heart skipped, but her expression remained perfectly composed. Outer sect storage pouches are low-grade artifacts. They cannot fully suppress the spiritual resonance emanating from large quantities of spirit stones. Only the storage rings reserved for inner sect disciples possess the refinement necessary to completely seal all internal and external auras. Oh, Chu Mo arched a brow. I see.
Then why, senior sister, did you neglect to mention this when you generously bestowed so many spirit stones upon me? Luo Zhiyin's breath caught. She had done it deliberately, eager for this demon to draw the lethal attention of desperate outer sect thugs, hoping he'd meet a gruesome, untraceable end, so she might finally break free of his control. It seems, senior sister Luo, you're still failing to fulfill your duties as a proper servant. Chu Mo's voice was calm, yet icy dread surged up Luo Zhiyin's spine, freezing her to the marrow. From his storage pouch he withdrew a pitch-black whip, its surface gleaming with a sinister obsidian luster, the spoils taken from Wang Liang's party. Years of cultivation had long rendered Luo Zhiyin impervious to ordinary pain. Yet the profound shame and humiliation Chu Mo inflicted brought tears streaming down her cheeks once more. Eventually she couldn't suppress her cries. When the chastisement ended, Chu Mo coiled the whip away. Do you understand your mistake? Under his oppressive dominance, she had no choice but to submit. Tears blurred her vision as she gritted her teeth. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Her lower lip trembled fiercely between her teeth. She knew resistance against Chu Mo was futile, a mere provocation for even more devastating. I will be more careful from now on. Her voice dwindled to a fragile whisper, while inwardly venomous fury screamed unchecked. Chu Mo, you demon. I will kill you. I swear it. I will. Contrasting Luo Zhiyin's public image, aloof, elegant, untouchable, with her current state, tear-streaked, humbled, kneeling submissively, filled Chu Mo with a deep, intoxicating sense of absolute dominion. Enough, senior sister Luo. Truth be told, I summoned you tonight for something far more important. A knowing smile curved Chu Mo's lips as he crouched beside her and gently lifted a strand of her silken hair. I've recently acquired an intriguing dual cultivation technique, one that requires your assistance to practice. Dual cultivation. Luo Zhiyin jerked her head up, her tear-dampened phoenix eyes wide with shock and fierce refusal. No, absolutely not. Her voice cracked with panic. You know, I must preserve my primordial Yin essence until I reach the golden core stage. Otherwise my cultivation foundation will collapse irreversibly. She attempted to gather spiritual energy to resist, but the soul-deep binding restraint flared instantly, constricting her like razor-sharp thorn chains, sending searing agony tearing through her being. She shrieked, clutching her head and writhing on the cold stone floor, the soul-rending torment threatening to plunge her into unconsciousness. Please. Crumpled on the frigid floor, she crawled forward and prostrated herself before Chu Mo, her voice choked with sobs and residual agony. Utterly broken, stripped of every trace of celestial grace or serene dignity. Don't take my primordial Yin. Anything else, I'll do anything you ask. Chu Mo gazed down upon her, his satisfaction swelling. Richer, deeper, more absolute. Rest easy. Though I find your maidenly Yin essence intriguing, I am not so reckless as to jeopardize what truly matters. The next morning at dawn, Luo Zhiyin frowned slightly, waking to a tearing pain as she opened her eyes. As consciousness returned, the absurdity and humiliation of the previous night were vividly before her. Just recalling it, clear tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. She resented Chu Mo, but even more she hated herself. Unable to resist, unable to control her own base body. A sense of venomous yet sorrowful emotion grew in her heart. Awake! Chu Mo's voice suddenly sounded beside her, his tone inscrutable. Luo Zhiyin turned her head and saw Chu Mo fully dressed. Instinctively she lowered her gaze, masking all emotions, leaving only humble submission. Wrapping herself in the bedsheet, she curled up on the sleeping couch, her voice cool and low as she replied, Chu Mo took a jade slip from his storage pouch and tossed it to her casually. Here, take a look at this. Luo Zhiyin caught the jade slip and probed it with her divine sense. Her delicate body trembled violently. The Void Sky Eye Soul Art. A heaven-grade lower-rank cultivation technique. This was a supreme technique perfectly attuned to her Taiyin mystic vein. If she could switch to practicing this method, her strength would surely advance by leaps and bounds. Her future potential would be boundless. In an instant, the venom in Luo Zhiyin's heart seemed to be swept away by an invisible hand, dissipating by half. Replacing it was an indescribably complex emotion. She knew that Chu Mo had visited the Inner Sect's technique pavilion. That meant he had voluntarily given up a precious opportunity, not choosing a technique for himself, but bringing this one for her. Compensation. Coercion. What exactly was this demon trying to do? Do you want it? Chu Mo's voice sounded again, tinged with amusement. Luo Zhiyin raised her head. Her usually cold phoenix eyes were now slightly moist, making her appear less sharp and icy, and instead, pitifully endearing. She looked at Chu Mo, biting her lower lip, her voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. I do. If you want it, you must act like it. Chu Mo paced before her, looking down from on high, his face bearing an inorganic smile. Think about it. What identity should you assume to beg me for this technique? Luo Zhiyin's body stiffened, her pupils contracting sharply. She understood what Chu Mo wanted. Her pride fiercely resisted. But the temptation of the Void Sky Eye Soul art was simply too great. It was the opportunity she had dreamed of, her only hope to escape her current predicament and even strike back at Chu Mo in the future. Vigorous struggle flickered across her face. In the end, the resistance within turned into helplessness, issuing a mournful cry. Luo Zhiyin slowly lowered her once proud head. Chu Mo savored the sight of Luo Zhiyin's forbearing humiliation, yet forced obedience. Though through his intelligence network he knew she had not yet submitted from the depths of her heart. But a slap followed by a sweet date. As long as she complied and lowered her posture, she would receive a reward. Once this mindset was deeply etched into her heart, he could gradually tame her, making her completely his possession. Both body and soul. He was no kind-hearted anime protagonist to go through the motions of winning her over. This method was the fastest and most satisfying, wasn't it? After seeing Luo Zhiyin off, Chu Mo sat cross-legged and took out all the spirit stones he had plundered from Wang Liang and others. He activated the primordial sovereign heaven art, and the surrounding spiritual energy surged into his body like finding an outlet. Soon Chu Mo shattered the barrier of Qi refining layer 1 and directly reached Qi refining layer 2. The advancement didn't stop, it rushed all the way to the peak of Qi refining layer 2. Such terrifying cultivation speed was due in part to his talent of drawing Qi into his body in half an incense stick's time. On the other hand, it was the domineering nature of the primordial sovereign heaven art. If not for the depletion of spirit stones, breaking through to Qi refining layer 3 would have been no problem. Ceasing the technique and opening his eyes, Chu Mo saw that it was already the morning of the next day. Thanks to the yin-yang harmonization method, his meridians had become exceptionally tough and wide under the refinement of pure vast spiritual power. Now his combat power at the same cultivation level had more than doubled. If he engaged in dual cultivation multiple times, this multiplier could increase further. And it was likely far from the current limit of this realm. The only immediate problem was that his spirit stones were exhausted, forcing him to consider how to earn more cultivation resources. With that in mind, Chu Mo rose and left his cave dwelling, heading toward the Outer Sect Affairs office. On the way, he heard many Outer Sect disciples discussing in whispers. "Did you hear? Some disciples in the back mountain were killed by a demon cultivator spy, died horribly." "Exactly, I heard they were beheaded or dismembered, and one had all his teeth smashed in. The methods were brutal. Now the enforcement hall has turned the Outer Sect upside down, searching for that demon woman. No one knows where she's hiding. Panic everywhere. I'm never going alone again anytime soon." What a coincidence, a demon cultivator spy. Taking the blame for me saves me a lot of trouble. Good people. Chu Mo felt a surge of gratitude in his heart, and he decided to let them take more blame in the future. Arriving at the affairs office, Chu Mo scanned the various tasks posted on the wall. Most were errand jobs with pitifully low spirit stone rewards. Just as he was about to give up, one task caught his attention. Task: cook for the inner disciples gathering, preparing several tables of spirit cuisine. Requirement: excellent culinary skills. Reward: 50 low-grade spirit stones. 50 low-grade spirit stones. For an outer disciple, this was a considerable income. Moreover, Chu Mo had considerable confidence in his own culinary skills. He had at his disposal the spices and seasonings he had developed in this world. Against a realm with little to no industry, this was a crushing advantage. He immediately accepted the task. Arriving at the Outer Sect's dedicated kitchen, the steward in charge, a plump middle-aged cultivator, looked at Chu Mo's youth with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. "Can you do it? This is for the Inner Sect senior brothers and sisters. If you mess up and waste the spirit herbs and meat, you'll be skinned alive." Chu Mo said nothing, only cooked. Chopping vegetables, mixing ingredients, controlling the fire, tossing the wok. His movements were fluid and seamless, accomplished in one breath. Soon a rich aroma wafted from the kitchen, making the steward drool. When several dishes of spirit cuisine, perfect in color, aroma, and taste, were served, the steward took a bite, and his eyes lit up. Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! The overwhelming deliciousness robbed him of speech. He could only stare at Chu Mo in disbelief. Afterwards, several outer disciples carefully delivered the prepared spirit cuisine to the Inner Sect, their task being courier. In a courtyard with beautiful scenery, a group of inner disciples sat together, toasting and chatting. When the spirit cuisine was placed on the table, no one paid much attention at first. After all, as cultivators who had long since transcended the need for food, they had little regard for culinary pleasures. However, the moment the first bite of spirit cuisine entered their mouths, everyone froze. The indescribably exquisite flavor exploded on their taste buds, whetting their appetites immensely. In no time, the dishes were devoured, leaving only messy plates. This is a celestial feast. So delicious. What were the previous cooks making? Compared to this, it's pig feed. Quick, ask the delivery person who this chef is. From now on, for our gatherings, we'll hire only him. Price is negotiable. An inner disciple urgently grabbed the outer disciple delivering the food and inquired. The outer disciple was also bewildered, scratching his head too. To answer senior brother, the kitchen steward said today's chef was a newly arrived outer disciple hired temporarily just for this time. No way. The inner disciple paced anxiously, then pointed at him. Then do this. Tell the affairs steward to keep an eye out for that chef. If he appears again, make sure he takes the cooking job. Spirit stones are not a problem. Yes, senior brother. Chu Mo received the 50 low-grade spirit stones, yet felt little joy in his heart. These few stones were but a drop in the bucket against the terrifying consumption of the Hongmeng Yutian art. Moreover, it took considerable time, making it far too inefficient. It seemed he needed another way to earn spirit stones. He had never been an honest man. If forced to choose between hard work and opportunism, he would unhesitatingly pick the latter. As Chu Mo stepped out of the affairs office, he collided with an acquaintance, his current direct superior in the outer sect, the steward in charge of him, and several other disciples. His surname was Wang. Steward Wang looked at Chu Mo. Come with me. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow, noticing several other disciples besides Steward Wang, including some who had taken the entrance exam with him. He followed Steward Wang and the other outer disciples to the steward's small courtyard. Everyone's here. Steward Wang cleared his throat, scanning them with undisguised arrogance. The outer sect has been unsettled lately. A demon cultivator killing people. I'm sure you've heard. To ensure your safety, and for me to better look after you from today onward, each of you must hand over 70% of your monthly spirit stone earnings to me. Of course, if you pay this fee, if anyone bullies you in the outer sect, come to me, and I'll have your back. But if you don't pay, Steward Wang sneered, you have no choice. These words caused an uproar in the courtyard. What? 70%? One disciple couldn't help exclaiming, Steward Wang, that's too much. We work hard on tasks, but most of it goes to you. How can we cultivate? Steward Wang's face darkened, a cold glint in his eyes. He flickered and appeared before that disciple in an instant, delivering a vicious slap. Slap. The disciple screamed, sent flying blood spraying from his mouth, and a few teeth knocked out. With his cultivation at the 7th layer of Qi refining, Steward Wang was overwhelmingly powerful against these disciples who were mostly at the 1st or 2nd layer. How dare you? Steward Wang spat. My word is the rule. Anyone dares to defy. The other disciples trembled in silence, too afraid to speak. The beaten disciple struggled to rise, his face full of fear. He humbly took out spirit stones from his storage pouch and handed over 70%. The others followed suit one by one, dejectedly handing over the spirit stones they had worked so hard to earn. Soon it was Chu Mo's turn. Steward Wang extended his hand, shaking it impatiently. Chu Mo, you're up. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Chu Mo's face showed no expression. He only looked calmly at Steward Wang. I want pay. Those 3 simple words exploded like thunder in the courtyard. Everyone froze, staring at Chu Mo in disbelief. Was this kid crazy? Hadn't he seen what happened to the previous one? Steward Wang was also stunned, then flew into a rage. What did you say? Say it again if you dare. I said I want pay. Chu Mo's tone remained calm. You're asking for death. Steward Wang roared, his spiritual energy surging as he threw a punch straight at Chu Mo's face. In his eyes, Chu Mo was merely at the 2nd layer of Qi refining. This punch would cripple him. Yet facing the powerful blow, Chu Mo neither dodged nor avoided. Just as the fist wind was about to strike, striking after the enemy, but arriving first, Chu Mo threw a punch of his own, seemingly ordinary, but carrying an invincible, domineering momentum. Bang! The fists collided with a dull, heavy sound. Crack! The sound of bone breaking was clearly audible. The next moment, Steward Wang let out a miserable shriek, flying backward like a kite, with a broken string crashing heavily into the courtyard wall, smashing a large hole in the already dilapidated earth wall. His right arm twisted at a grotesque angle, clearly ruined. Blood gushed from his mouth, staining his robe. Dead silence fell over the entire courtyard. All the disciples stood dumbfounded, their minds blank. Steward Wang had been nearly crippled by Chu Mo with a single punch. How? How is this possible? By his aura, Chu Mo was clearly only at the 2nd layer of Qi refining. Manager Wang collapsed to the ground like a heap of mud, clutching his grotesquely twisted right arm. Sweat poured down his forehead like a waterfall, and the look he cast at Chu Mo was filled with terror and disbelief. He was at the 7th level of Qi refining. This kid clearly only at the 2nd level of Qi refining. How could he? The other outer disciples in the courtyard didn't even dare to breathe heavily. Their gazes toward Chu Mo were as if they were looking at a monster. Chu Mo stepped forward, looking down at Manager Wang from above. His expression was no longer calm, but instead wore that signature inorganic smile. Manager Wang, now can we have a proper talk? Manager Wang's throat was dry, and he swallowed hard. His voice trembled violently from pain and fear. What exactly do you want? Chu Mo lifted his foot and gently stepped on the side of Manager Wang's face, pressing down slightly. Return all the spirit stones you confiscated just now. Manager Wang's eyes flashed with intense humiliation and unwillingness. But feeling the terrifying pressure on his face and the bone-chilling coldness in Chu Mo's eyes, he ultimately chose to submit. Grinding his teeth, he took out the spirit stones he had just confiscated from his own storage pouch one by one and piled them at Chu Mo's feet. Also, Chu Mo's voice rang out again. Bring out those you embezzled yourself as well. Don't tell me you didn't embezzle any you. I don't like hearing nonsense. Chu Mo had originally thought he would soon leave the outer sect, so he hadn't bothered about the spirit stones Manager Wang had embezzled from him. But now things were different. He would make Manager Wang spit it all out with interest. Manager Wang shuddered, staring at Chu Mo in disbelief. How did he know? Did this guy have mind-reading skills? Under Chu Mo's emotionless gaze, Manager Wang, feeling utterly despairing, finally took out all the embezzled spirit stones from his storage pouch. Looking at the pile of spirit stones like a small hill on the ground, Chu Mo nodded. He withdrew his foot and said to the other outer disciples, who were already scared stiff, "Divide these spirit stones among yourselves." Those disciples were stunned at first, then ecstasy surged across their faces. They had thought they would suffer a great loss this time, but unexpectedly the situation turned around. Not only did they not lose anything, but they actually gained. Thank you, Senior Brother Chu. Senior Brother Chu is mighty. They scrambled to divide the spirit stones on the ground, completely looking at Chu Mo with reverence and gratitude. One of the disciples, who looked quite clever, even knelt on one knee and cupped his fist, saying, "Senior Brother Chu, I Su Meng know many brothers in the outer sect. From now on, whatever task Senior Brother Chu commands, I will carry it out, even at the cost of my life." He had heard that Chu Mo had caused the test stone to emit a 7-colored light at the examination hall, and had channeled qi into his body within half an incense stick's time. Although afterwards the spot was taken by Lin Wujia. But in his eyes, a figure like Chu Mo was no ordinary pond fish, that he would surely soar to the heavens sooner or later. The fact that he had just defeated Manager Wang across cultivation levels was the most powerful proof. If not now, when would be the time to cling to the coattails of a rising star? Very good. Chu Mo nodded, accepting his allegiance. I will find you if there's any need later. He did need someone in the outer sect to handle miscellaneous tasks for him, and build his own power base. Only then could he gather more resources. Seeing Su Meng's actions, the other disciples quickly imitated him, pledging allegiance to Chu Mo in front of Manager Wang. They even voluntarily offered most of the spirit stones to Chu Mo. Chu Mo accepted everything without hesitation. This was completely different from extorting them. Manager Wang's face turned as ugly as if he had eaten excrement. The disciples under his administration had all abandoned him, sworn loyalty to Chu Mo, and even willingly offered spirit stones. To him, wasn't this a kind of cuckolding? Just like a wife who reluctantly yielded only under coercion when facing her husband's demands, but in front of an outsider like Chu Mo, she exerted all her skills, frighteningly proactive, coquettish, and wanton. At this, Chu Mo's gaze fell upon Manager Wang again, his smile growing more sardonic. Manager Wang, now it's your turn to pay tribute to me. He wanted to reverse bully. Manager Wang's face alternated between expressions, his lips trembling, but in the end, he dared not resist at all. He sat up and took out most of the remaining spirit stones from his storage pouch, offering them up. Chu, Junior Brother Chu, this is all I have. If I give more, I won't have any resources to cultivate myself. Chu Mo took them, weighed them casually, then kicked Manager Wang to the ground again. The steward position is quite lucrative, isn't it? Chu Mo stepped on Manager Wang's chest and asked calmly, I want to be a steward. How do I become one? Manager Wang was almost breathless from being stepped on. Terrified and panicked, he quickly said in fragments that the sect holds regular, or whenever a steward position is vacant. Holds a steward selection competition. Outer disciples, all, can register. The final winner. Winner becomes the new steward. Oh, Chu Mo raised an eyebrow. Sounds easy enough. Manager Wang lamented bitterly in his heart. Easy. Ordinary outer disciples who only cultivate hard have no chance at all. Only those outer disciples who have curried favor with stewards or inner disciples have a backer avoiding embezzlement or bullying, and thus can gather enough resources to cultivate to a level sufficient to participate in the selection. Otherwise, as soon as they step onto the arena, before they can even make a move, they get knocked off like trash. Manager Wang back, then also licked his own steward excessively. Only by pleasing the other party did he avoid embezzlement and bullying. Then with resources, he could cultivate to a level sufficient to participate in the selection. That year's selection happened to have no particularly outstanding outer disciples in the sect. The rest were stewards. He seized this loophole to become a steward like now. When is the next steward assessment? Chu Mo asked. It's in 7 days. 7 days. Enough. Chu Mo withdrew his foot and ignored Manager Wang, striding away surrounded by Su Meng and the others. He would establish his own order in the outer sect. Watching Chu Mo's retreating figure, Manager Wang gnashed his teeth, but was helpless. Regarding this matter, he had no way to appeal to higher authorities, because no ordinary disciple had ever been able to defeat a steward. The outer sect's rule was that stewards handle their own disciples. Unless it reached the point of public murder, the law enforcement hall would not interfere. and stewards were usually at the late or peak Qi refining stage. In contrast, Chu Mo was the only one who had beaten a steward while at the early Qi refining stage. Ordinary disciples had to grovel to stewards or inner disciples to earn the chance to participate in the selection. And Chu Mo, on the other hand, through reverse bullying him the steward, to achieve the same result. During the following 7 days, Chu Mo kept a low profile, spending his time either cultivating the Hongming Imperial Heaven art within his cave dwelling or engaging in dual cultivation with Luo Zhiyin. As their dual cultivation sessions increased, his meridians were further refined, and his spiritual energy grew increasingly profound, reaching the upper limit of his current realm. 7 days later, Chu Mo had reached the peak of the 3rd level of Qi refining. He was now only a single step away from the 4th level. If such terrifying cultivation speed were to spread, it would shake the entire Qingshi Sword Sect. Yet this was merely the result of his cultivation resources failing to keep pace with his speed. On the day of the Outer Sect Steward Selection Assessment, the Outer Sect training ground was packed with people bustling with excitement. Dozens of arenas had already been set up, and many Outer Sect disciples were rubbing their hands together, eager to try. Chu Mo, surrounded by Su Meng and a group of Outer Sect disciples, slowly walked into the training ground, immediately drawing the attention of many. Because he was the only participant whose aura was merely at the 3rd level of Qi refining. The rest were at least at the 6th level. No one had high hopes for him. They regarded him as a joke, a clown, overestimating his abilities. However, as the assessment began, every disciple who faced Chu Mo, regardless of their cultivation level, was defeated almost instantly. His clean and crisp movements and overbearing fist force struck awe into all the watching disciples. Who is this guy? Why have I never heard of him before? So strong. Is he really a disciple at the 3rd level of Qi refining? Could he be hiding his true strength? Judging by the density of his spiritual energy, when he strikes it seems no less than that of a Qi refining peak master. No one believed that Chu Mo, who was dominating the arena, actually had a true cultivation of only the 3rd level of Qi refining. Soon Chu Mo became the top contender for the steward selection with an undefeated record. At the same time, another Outer Sect disciple also emerged as a strong candidate for the steward position. Her name was Su Ro, a woman with an enchanting, seductive figure and a face of captivating beauty. Every smile and glance carried a soul-stealing charm. Many male Outer Sect disciples were completely captivated, willingly falling at her feet and serving her devotedly. Su Rao's strength was not to be underestimated. She swept through all her opponents without a single defeat. The steward selection assessment lasted 2 days. But in reality, the 2nd day had only one match, the final. On the evening of the 1st day after the assessment concluded, the last 2 remaining Outer Sect disciples were Chu Mo and Su Ro. They would compete for the steward position under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Yet on the night before the decisive battle, a group of uninvited guests suddenly appeared outside Chu Mo's cave dwelling. Leading them was a tall, handsome male disciple named Yang Xinghuan, a cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refining and one of Su Rao's most devoted admirers. Chu Mo, senior sister Su Ro, requests your presence. Come with us. Yang Xinghuan's tone was unfriendly, his eyes filled with intense vigilance and hostility. The dozen or so disciples behind him also flashed fierce looks, surrounding Chu Mo's cave dwelling in a tight encirclement. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow slightly, but no trace of fear appeared on his face. He calmly walked out of the cave. Lead the way. Under the escort of Yang Xinghuan and the others, Chu Mo arrived at a courtyard decorated with considerable elegance. His fingers moved subtly and imperceptibly within his sleeves. As he walked deeper into the courtyard, the main figure Su Ro was lazily reclining on a soft couch, idly toying with a crystal wine glass, her seductive eyes like silk. It had to be said, seeing Su Ro up close, she was truly a stunning beauty. Her natural features were top tier, and that flirtatious aura made her all the more mesmerizing. Seeing Chu Mo enter, Su Ro parted her red lips, her voice dripping with enchantment. Junior brother, Chu, you've come. Chu Mo's gaze lingered for a moment on Su Rao's curvaceous figure, then his mind stirred. Target Su Ro peaking, cost 1,000 silver taels, 10 low-grade spirit stones peak. Yes, name Su Ro, identity Outer Sect disciple of Qingshi Sword Sect, demon cultivator mold disciple of demon sect. Main sect cultivation 9th level of Qi refining half-step foundation establishment demon cultivator cultivation method devouring spirit scripture Zuan rank high-grade demon art Qi guidance art intra-level technique of Qingshi Sword Sect physique innate alluring bones rare key intelligence. Suspecting that her hometown was massacred by the Qingshi Sword Sect, she became a demon cultivator seeking revenge, infiltrated the Qingshi Sword Sect's Outer Sect, and is waiting for an opportunity to uncover the truth. Recently, due to the incident of an Outer Sect disciple's death, her risk of exposure has greatly increased. She is eager to become an Outer Sect steward to better conceal her identity and leverage her authority to gather more intelligence. Oh, that demon cultivator mole is her A faint, imperceptible smile curled at the corner of Chu Mo's mouth. He decided to change his plan. Su Ro set down the wine glass, slowly rose, and moved with graceful steps to stand before Chu Mo, her breath fragrant and warm. Junior brother Chu, regarding the final match tomorrow. Senior sister hopes you will voluntarily withdraw. She extended her slender jade-like fingers and gently traced them across Chu Mo's chest, her eyes filled with temptation. If junior brother is willing to grant me this favor, I promise that from now on in the outer sect, I will take good care. Spirit stones, elixirs, you'll have whatever you need. And even senior sister herself might not be out of the question. Behind her, Yang Xinghuan and the others held their breath, glaring at Chu Mo, as if ready to strike at the slightest provocation. Using both persuasion and coercion, combining threats with promises. An ordinary disciple might have given in. However, Chu Mo merely curled his lips into a smile and said calmly with a hint of mockery, "Senior sister Su, what a coincidence. I was hoping you would withdraw as well." The seductive smile on Su Rao's face stiffened slightly, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. Just as she was about to say something, Chu Mo continued, "I know the secret you fear most of the sect discovering." A chill ran through Su Rao's heart, and a surge of intense vigilance and panic washed over her. She bit her lip, her gaze shifting uncertainly, and finally said to Yang Xinghuan and the others, "All of you leave. Now, junior brother Chu and I will talk alone." A look of reluctance appeared on Yang Xinghuan's face, but upon meeting Su Rao's uncompromising gaze, he finally led the group out of the courtyard, leaving the space to Chu Mo and Su Ro. After everyone had left, only Chu Mo and Su Ro remained in the courtyard. Su Ro waved her hand to set up a soundproofing formation. "Speak, junior brother Chu. What secret do you mean?" Chu Mo stepped forward, bringing his mouth close to Su Rao's ear, and said in a voice only the two of them could hear, "Senior sister, I know that you are the demon cultivator mole." The color drained from Su Rao's face in an instant, and all the hope she had clung to vanished completely. Chu Mo savored the sight of her beauty, turning pale, then reached out and lifted her fair, seductive chin. "Senior sister Su, you wouldn't want everyone to know that you are the demon cultivator mole, would you?" Su Rao's delicate body trembled lightly as she forced herself to remain calm, her voice already carrying a hint of barely perceptible hoarseness. "Junior brother Chu, you're really good at jesting. What undercover magic cultivator? Senior sister, I don't understand." Chu Mo admired her pale, frightened expression, lightly stroking her smooth chin with his fingertip, the pressure undeniable. "Senior sister, are you pretending not to understand? You say, given how tense the situation is now, if I were to report you to the enforcement hall. You say once they capture you and thoroughly investigate, discovering the power of the main sect's magic within you, what would happen?" Su Rao's breath suddenly halted. The main sect? How could he know to this extent? Su Ro gritted her silver teeth, her charming eyes interlaced with coldness and murderous intent. At this moment, she finally confirmed that Chu Mo was not trying to deceive her, but rather had concrete evidence. Her heart hardened, and a circle of strange pink ripples silently spread from her body, instantly enveloping the entire courtyard. A bewitching melody emerged faintly, carrying an alluring power that surged towards Chu Mo's ears. Su Ro sneered coldly in her heart. One of the attack methods of the devouring nerves was to infiltrate a person's ears with sound waves infused with demonic energy. Once the ears received the sound waves, the demonic energy would invade the sea of consciousness, directly disturbing and even controlling the opponent's mind. At such a close distance, without any defenses, Chu Mo would certainly be unable to evade. Right now his mind must be in disarray. "How do you really think you can control me just with that?" Su Ro believed she had the upper hand, a trace of disdain flashing in her eyes. "So what if you know I'm a magic cultivator? Killing you would solve everything." Saying this, Su Ro abruptly struck towards Chu Mo's chest. Yet before her palm could reach him, Chu Mo's hand had already struck her. Bang! Ugh! Su Ro coughed up a mouthful of blood, flying backward. Su Ro rolled on the ground, her face pale, trembling, and gasping, propping herself up, her expression one of disbelief. "Impossible. How could you? How could you not be affected?" Chu Mo looked at her and snapped his fingers. Snap! Instantly the vortex of spiritual energy gathering at Chu Mo's ear dissipated. This vortex of spiritual energy had created a barrier effect, isolating Su Rao's sound waves. Having already known Su Rao's information in advance, how could he not prepare defenses? The true prey from the very beginning was Su Ro. Seeing this scene, Su Rao's expression darkened to the extreme, her pearly teeth gritting tightly. She did not expect that Chu Mo had grasped her information to such an extent. "There's no way out now." Su Ro stood up, her body transforming into pink mist, becoming countless enchanting shadows that surged towards Chu Mo. She planned to unleash her full power. Even risking the aftermath of the battle destroying the soundproof formation, she aimed to kill Chu Mo. With her real magic cultivation being half a step into foundation establishment, she did not believe she would lose. What had just happened was simply falling victim to Chu Mo's sneak attack. With all her means unleashed in the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect, no one was her opponent. However, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dozens of nearly invisible silver threads like venomous snakes emerging from the void instantly wrapped around Su Ro. Su Ro felt a tightening all around her, the all-pervasive magical sound illusions being ripped apart by an extremely sharp force. Before she could react, she was lifted high into the air. Her limbs and bones were tightly bound by the incredibly resilient silver threads, unable to move. The moment she struggled, the sharp threads would deeply cut into her flesh, bringing excruciating pain. In just an instant, the tide of battle had completely reversed. What kind of treasure is this? Su Rao's face turned pale, both shocked and terrified. Feeling the cold, killing intent emanating from the Tian Luo threads, she had no choice but to mobilize all her spiritual power to protect her body, fearing being directly sliced into pieces by this cursed thing. Chu Mo stepped forward, slowly laughing heartily as he admired the bound Su Ro. Senior Sister Su, now, can we have a good talk? Su Rao's charming face flushed bright red, both embarrassed and fearful. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. This Chu Mo, clearly aware of her identity, did not immediately report her to the enforcement hall, but instead came alone to negotiate, surely harboring ulterior motives. The situation was stronger than the individual. Su Ro could bend and stretch. Junior brother Chu, show mercy. Su Ro forced out a charming smile, her voice softening. Senior sister, I admit defeat. Whatever you want, just say it. As long as Senior Sister can do it, I will definitely not refuse. That's right, Senior Sister Su. Those who know the times are wise. He reached out, gently patting Su Rao's delicate cheek. Then he leaned closer to her ear, his warm breath brushing against her sensitive earlobe, making her face turn even redder. In tomorrow's assessment, you will forfeit. I want the position of manager. And then I want you to cultivate with me to assist my training. Su Ro, upon hearing this, was first taken aback, then a trace of barely perceptible cold laughter flashed in her eyes. As expected, he was a lustful fool. If she were to cultivate with him, she might find an opportunity to control this boy in return. In devouring nerves, there was indeed a secret method for yin-yang complementary cultivation. Giving up the position of manager is no problem. As for cultivating together, if junior brother has such interests, senior sister is naturally willing to accompany you. Su Rao's voice grew increasingly charming, her eyes flowing with allure, attempting to entice Chu Mo's heart. However, Chu Mo's next words made her feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. But before that, I need Senior Sister Su to open her mind and allow me to plant a mental control secret technique. Su Rao's flirtatious smile instantly froze on her face. You. What did you say? I've experienced Senior Sister Su's methods before. Chu Mo maintained his smile. Without some insurance, I can't be at ease. Junior brother Chu. Su Rao's expression turned ugly, forcing a smile. Can we not plant the secret technique? Senior Sister will comply with whatever you say, just trust me. Is that so? Chu Mo narrowed his eyes. Then it seems we cannot come to an agreement. Senior Sister Su, I believe you wouldn't want to taste the tea of the enforcement hall, would you? If I were to leave now, those people outside would not be able to stop me. Su Rao's heart trembled. With the strength Chu Mo had just displayed along with this strange thread treasure, her subordinates were simply no match. Once captured by the enforcement hall, her fate was self-evident. Despair and fear washed over her like a tide. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, her eyes were a lifeless gray. I agree to your terms. Outside the courtyard, Yang Xinghuan's voice rang out. Are you all right? It's already taken too long. Senior sister, we are coming in. Seeing there was no response for a while, Yang Xinghuan could no longer contain himself and forcefully burst open the courtyard door with a dozen disciples. However, what they saw was Chu Mo walking out of the inner chamber with a refreshed look, while Su Ro stood by the side, her robes slightly disheveled and her cheeks flushed, with her head lowered, afraid to meet their eyes. Chu Mo, what have you done to Senior Sister Su Ro? Yang Xinghuan roared in fury, ready to strike. Stop! Su Ro ordered. Yang Xinghuan, all of you withdraw. Do not be disrespectful to junior brother Chu. Yang Xinghuan was stunned. Could it be that Senior Sister Su was defending Chu Mo like this for his sake? He had never even held Senior Sister Su's hand for so long. Yet Chu Mo had. Senior Sister Su, why didn't you refuse him? Why? Yang Xinghuan's expression gradually turned bitter, a surge of overwhelming grievance swelling in his heart. I will withdraw from tomorrow's steward assessment. Su Ro took a deep breath and announced, Junior brother Chu, you may leave first. Chu Mo cast a faint smile at Su Ro and walked away directly. Yang Xinghuan wanted to press further, but was dismissed coldly by Su Ro. Helpless, the others left, their minds filled with doubt. Su Ro stood alone in the courtyard, the night breeze swept by, bringing waves of chill. She bit her delicate lip, tightly clenching her fists so hard that her nails dug deep into her palms. Yet in her mind, she vividly recalled the command Chu Mo had given before his departure. Come to his cave abode later tomorrow evening. There undisturbed, she would wholeheartedly and formally assist him in cultivation. The next day, the final round of the steward selection assessment was without suspense. Su Ro publicly announced her withdrawal. Chu Mo became the new steward of the outer sect. When the news spread, the outer sect disciples buzzed with discussion. Chu Mo arrived at the steward hall, where he received his steward token as well as the corresponding appointment documents. The assignment he was given was to manage ordinary outer sect disciples similar to what Steward Wang had done previously. As he exchanged greetings with the other stewards, the steward from the affairs office recognized Chu Mo at once and enthusiastically approached him. The steward was somewhat stout. "Ah, Steward Chu. Congratulations," the plump steward beamed. "Speaking of which, the last batch of spirit cuisine you prepared was highly praised by the intersect senior brothers and sisters. They specially instructed me that if you ever take up the ladle, they would be willing to issue cooking tasks exclusively for you through the affairs office every day. Steward Chu, if you have the chance, would you deign to cook for a while and set an example for the disciples below?" Chu Mo's heart stirred at these words. This might be a business opportunity. Thank you for the advice. Chu Mo cupped his hands. I will think it over. Returning to his newly assigned steward courtyard, a dwelling far superior to his previous dilapidated cave abode, Chu Mo immediately summoned Su Mang. Su Mang, go recruit a batch of trustworthy outer sect disciples, especially those who are quick and sharp-minded. Also summon the disciples currently under my jurisdiction as well. Yes, Steward Chu. Su Mang was now completely devoted to Chu Mo. Before long, several dozen outer sect disciples gathered in Chu Mo's courtyard. Chu Mo looked at them. From today onward, if you work under me, I guarantee each of you will have a lucrative position. He outlined the idea of launching a spirit cuisine delivery service and analyzed its feasibility with practical examples. The listeners' eyes sparkled with excitement. If this succeeded, spirit stones would flow in like a river. Even after deducting the affairs office's cut, and Chu Mo's personal share, what remained would still be a sizable amount of spirit stones for them. A single order would earn them as many spirit stones as several days' worth of regular tasks from the affairs office. Most importantly, this wasn't an unstable gig, the frequency was guaranteed. Soon Chu Mo had a crowd of followers. All the outer sect disciples gathered there agreed to join. Next, Chu Mo began teaching a portion of them techniques for cooking spirit cuisine using his exclusive seasonings. Of course, he kept the method of making his exclusive seasonings to himself. Thus, even if others wanted a piece of the pie, they couldn't produce a competing product. During the cooking instruction, Chu Mo was pleasantly surprised to discover that a disciple under his jurisdiction named Zhou Wei had an exceptionally high culinary talent. Upon inquiry, he learned that before Zhou Wei was recommended to enter the sect by an intersect disciple, his family had owned a restaurant and he himself was the young master of that establishment, renowned for his culinary skills throughout the city. His father had gone to great lengths to get him into the immortal sect, currying favor with that intersect disciple to secure this chance. Chu Mo immediately decided to appoint Zhou Wei as the chief culinary steward responsible for overseeing the cooking instruction and ensuring the quality of the dishes. He handed over his revolutionary exclusive seasonings to Zhou Wei. As for Su Mang, Chu Mo tasked him with recruitment, training, and management of the delivery team. Additionally, Chu Mo named the Spirit Cuisine Delivery Service Jingtuan and designed a logo. The disciples were bewildered when they were asked to wear rabbit-eared helmets and redand yellow uniforms. That same day, Jingtuan Delivery began a trial operation. Chu Mo found Zhao Qing, and using a mix of persuasion and coercion got him to help promote the service among the intersect. The effect was immediate. Many intersect disciples curious to try something new placed orders through the affairs office to Jingtuan. The outer sect kitchen bustled with intense activity. Zhou Wei directed operations as one aromatic dish after another was quickly prepared. Su Mang led a team of delivery disciples dressed in brand new redand yellow uniforms, carrying food boxes, and set off with high spirits. Arriving at the intersect's entrance, Su Mang was stopped by the gatekeeping disciples. Halt! Outer sect disciples are not allowed to trespass into the inner sect. Unflustered, Su Mang presented the task document issued by the affairs office. Senior brothers, we are the Jingtuan delivery disciples sent by the affairs office to deliver meals to the intersect senior brothers and sisters. The gatekeeping disciples took the document, carefully verified it, and confirmed its authenticity. Su Mang quietly slipped them a few decent quality low-grade spirit stones. Senior brothers, a small token of appreciation. Please look kindly on our Jingtuan in the future. Seeing that Su Mang was so tactful, the gatekeeping disciples smiled and accepted the spirit stones. No problem, no problem. As long as it's within the rules, we'll make an accommodation. The first batch of Jingtuan deliveries successfully reached the intersect, arriving directly at the cave abodes of the ordering intersect disciples. Those intersect disciples who tasted the spirit cuisine were utterly captivated by the exquisite flavor and heaped praise upon it. The name, Jingtuan, gradually spread throughout the intersect. As night deepened, after a busy day, Chu Mo returned to his spacious and elegant steward courtyard. Pushing open the courtyard gate, he saw a graceful, alluring figure already standing silently in the moonlight waiting. Su Ro. She had changed into a form-fitting black dress that accentuated her figure. The moonlight cascaded over her, outlining a tantalizing silhouette. With her lips bitten and brows knit, she exuded boundless charm. The night breeze was gentle, caressing the flowers and grass in the courtyard. In Su Rao's alluring peach blossom eyes, a complex light flickered. After a day and night of mental preparation, she came to terms with the truth. The man before her was powerful and mysterious, with limitless potential. Yielding not only ensured her survival, but perhaps also allowed her to leverage his influence to achieve her own goals. Moreover, if she could please him, she might even gain a degree of freedom. Su Ro gently parted her red lips, her voice trembling slightly as she endeavored to exude a hint of seduction. Please take pity on Ruer. As Chu Mo approached, she proactively loosened her garments. With her black dress slipping away, her snow-white shoulders resembled the hazy and bright moon emerging from the depths of the night, stirring primal instincts within him. A night passed. As dawn broke, Chu Mo awoke. He felt a surge of spiritual power within him, his meridians broader than the day before. Although Su Rao's cultivation level was inferior to Luo Zhiyin's, the purifying effects were slightly superior. He introspected, estimating his strength. Now his power was roughly approaching 8 times that of a practitioner at the same level. This did not even account for the effects of Tian Luo silk. Below foundation establishment, there should be no rivals. Soon after, Su Ro also awoke. Leaning beside Chu Mo, she bore distinct kiss marks on her neck and collarbone. Her jade-like arm wrapped around his neck, biting her lip. Laden with seductive intention, she breathed gently in his ear. Master Ruer will be yours from now on. Ruer is willing to go through fire and water for you with no second thoughts. Chu Mo gazed at her, understanding that she was putting on an act. The trust level had not met the requirements, as the system information clearly stated. Actually, Ruer did not willingly become a demonic cultivator. Ruer wishes to share her story with you, Master. Are you willing to listen? Su Ro sought to gain Chu Mo's trust. Only this way could she live better and potentially utilize him for revenge. For this, she decided to be honest with Chu Mo. In the absence of other means, sincerity was the best way to gain trust. Feel free to speak. Chu Mo already knew her information well, but he decided to listen. The information provided by the system was more focused on vital intel that could be utilized. Moreover, if Su Ro was sincere with him, accepting her would further enhance her trust in him. Increasing the trust level was always beneficial. In the future, he could place a portion of his assets with her for easy access. There was no need to worry about losing half in a divorce. Su Ro raised her head, her eyes misty, appearing pitiful. Ruer's hometown was destroyed by cultivators. The entire city turned into mummified corpses, and Ruer suspects the culprit is the Qingshi Sword Sect, which, despite appearing righteous, is hypocritical. To uncover the truth and seek revenge, Ruer had no choice but to cultivate. However, the major sect monopolized all cultivation resources, leaving loose cultivators unable to rise. Her voice was laced with suppressed resentment. Ruer has no backing, no connections, unable to enter the sect, and could only join the demonic sect, the Mayyin sect, which does not rely on traditional cultivation resources. The demonic sect is not as vicious as the outside world claims. We are not all malevolent beings seeking to enhance our cultivation through harm. Our Mayyin sect has never committed any heinous acts. Yet those righteous major sects, in their quest to monopolize resources, still seek to eradicate us. Su Ro's emotions became slightly agitated at this point, as if she were truly just an innocent victim. She secretly observed Chu Mo's reaction, attempting to invoke his empathy. Later, the Mayyin sect stronghold was destroyed by those righteous sects, and Ruer, along with a few senior brothers and sisters, was left wandering in fear. She continued. Ruer concealed her identity, even changing her name, hiding her demonic cultivation only to seek safety. Ruer went to a brothel, managing to preserve her integrity, becoming a courtesan who sold her talents, but not her body, hoping to gather information. Later, Ruer was noticed by a disciple of the Qingshi Sword Sect's inner sect, while on a mission. Her voice lowered. To enter the Qingshi Sword Sect and uncover the truth, Ruer had to employ various means to win over that inner sect disciple, getting him to help Ruer redeem herself. Of course, Ruer did not allow him to touch her. That inner sect disciple discovered Ruer had cultivation talent, thus bringing her into the sect. Su Ro looked up at Chu Mo, her eyes filled with pleading. Though Ruer barely preserved her integrity, that inner sect disciple said that once Ruer entered the inner sect, she must become his Tao partner and cultivate together with him. Master, you know Ruer is now yours. Yet that senior brother. Ruer does not know what to do. I ask Master to help Ruer solve this problem. Su Ro bit her lip, lowering her gaze, adopting a very humble posture. She decided to take it step by step, first getting Chu Mo to help her deal with that inner sect senior brother. After gaining more of his trust, she would then use his power to uncover the truth and exact her revenge. Chu Mo pinched her tender chin, curling his lips. That can be arranged. But how do you intend to repay me? It wasn't that he sympathized with Su Ro, even though everything she had said so far was true. It was mainly because he disliked having others covet what belonged to him, let alone letting go of it willingly. Joy flashed in Su Rao's eyes. Disregarding the soreness in her body, she leaned forward and placed a kiss on the corner of Chu Mo's mouth, her eyes alluring. Thank you, master. This humble girl has nothing to offer in return except to pledge myself to you. She was moved, throwing herself into his embrace once more. Days passed by. The delivery service of the Jingtuan flourished, and Chu Mo was making a fortune. During this time he relied on vast resources to advance his cultivation rapidly. In a short period he broke through to the 5th level of Qi refinement, nearing the 6th level. The entire outer sect also underwent changes. Previously the entire Ling Su sword sect's wealth had been completely monopolized by the inner sect factions, leading to barren resources for the outer sect. With the emergence of Jingtuan, wealth began to flow down from the inner sect. The outer sect disciples were no longer as pale and emaciated as before. These disciples, though appearing submissive to the outer sect management and showing great respect towards the inner sect disciples, held genuine loyalty and admiration for Chu Mo. The booming success of Jingtuan naturally attracted the attention of others. Soon several other delivery services imitating Jingtuan appeared in the outer sect. They followed Jingtuan's model, delivering food to the inner sect, and deployed substantial resources for promotion, momentarily overshadowing Jingtuan. One could even see the shadows of the inner sect elders in the background. However, without Chu Mo's epic-making exclusive seasoning, the spiritual food they produced was simply worlds apart from Jingtuan. After trying it once, the inner sect disciples no longer wished to patronize them. Even with these competing products lowering their prices, business remained bleak. Those competing products quickly faced severe losses and could not continue operations. Although this posed no threat to Jingtuan, Chu Mo remained vigilant. Among the inner sect elders who failed in their endeavor to compete with Jingtuan was Lin Zheng. Now, after investigation, Lin Zheng discovered that the person behind Jingtuan was actually Chu Mo, and Chu Mo had even become a steward. In Lin Zheng's courtyard, the tea aroma wafted delicately, yet the atmosphere was as heavy as ice. Father, this cannot be. Lin Wujie cried out in shock, his handsome face contorted by extreme jealousy, his eyes filled with a thick, unyielding venom. Chu Mo was supposed to be an ant struggling in the outer sect, ultimately dying in despair. Yet in less than 2 months since joining the sect, he had transformed into a highly sought-after steward of the outer sect. His influence now even permeated the inner sect. It was common knowledge that stewards were typically in the late Qi refining stage. How could Chu Mo have become a steward in less than 2 months? Lin Wujie himself, with the vast resources heaped upon him by Lin Zheng, had only just reached the 4th layer of Qi refining. How could he accept this? Not far away, Lin Zheng's face was dark enough to drip water. Chu Mo's mindset and methods far exceeded his expectations. In less than 2 months, he had already stirred up turmoil in the outer sect. If allowed to continue, he would surely become a major threat. He had previously believed that Chu Mo's choice of the Void Heavenly Eye Soul art was a path to self-destruction. Now it seemed that Chu Mo was not only not on a path to ruin, but was thriving. That brat, through some unknown means, had actually succeeded in cultivating the Void Heavenly Eye Soul art. Thinking of Chu Mo's terrifying talent in drawing qi into his body within half an instant's stick's time, and the alarming speed at which Jingtuan was now amassing resources. Feeling as though he had been slapped, Lin Zheng, filled with suppressed anger and frustration, felt alarm bells ringing in his heart. If things continued this way, Chu Mo would indeed become a major threat. He must be eliminated before he can grow. A cold glint flashed in Lin Zheng's eyes. He picked up his teacup, let out a cold laugh entirely devoid of his usual amiability. Wujie, watch. He won't be jumping around for much longer. His enterprises should also change owners. Shortly after, the outer sect's chief steward Ma Yong sought out Chu Mo's small courtyard. Ma Yong was slightly plump with a face that always bore a smile like the Maitreya Buddha, but his small eyes gleamed with shrewdness and greed. He was a man of Lin Zheng's faction who for years had wielded his power as chief steward to throw his weight around in the outer sect, long accustomed to ordering others about. Recently, he had learned that the person behind Jingtuan was Chu Mo. Coveting the exorbitant profits of Jingtuan, he came to pressure Chu Mo under the instigation of Lin Zheng behind the scenes. As the chief steward, he had authority over all matters in the outer sect, including other stewards. He was confident he could handle this subordinate. Steward Chu, young and promising indeed. Ma Yong looked at Chu Mo, smiling without sincerity. Chu Mo looked at him calmly. Chief Steward Ma, is there something? Steward Chu, I'll be blunt. Ma Yong said. Elder Lin Zheng is very interested in your Jingtuan. If you hand over Jingtuan, Elder Lin Zheng will graciously increase your monthly stipend. Otherwise, your Jingtuan will have to shut down by tomorrow. So Lin Zheng had noticed too. Taking away my enterprise that earns hundreds of thousands of medium-grade spirit stones a month and in return offering a mere increase on the basic steward's salary of 10 medium-grade spirit stones. What a wonderful idea. Enemies see each other with reddened eyes. Lin Zheng intended to strip him of everything. Chief Steward Ma, if you want to dream, go to bed. Why come here? Chu Mo picked up a teacup, took a light sip, and said nonchalantly, You. Ma Yong pointed at Chu Mo flustered. He snorted coldly and stalked off. The next day, through Ma Yong's manipulation, the affairs office sent down word. All delivery tasks of Jing Tuan were to be blocked and not approved. This was clearly an attempt to cut off Jing Tuan's lifeline. When the news spread, Su Meng and others were frantic like ants on a hot pan. In Chu Mo's courtyard. Steward Chu, what do we do? The affairs office won't approve the documents. Oh, our people can't enter the inner sect. Su Meng was dripping with sweat. But Chu Mo remained calm. When he had painstakingly built the Jing Tuan brand, his strategy was to have inner sect disciples recognize those wearing Jing Tuan attire precisely for such a situation. Don't panic. Inform everyone Jing Tuan operates as usual. Inner sect disciples can place orders directly, no need to go through the affairs office. Oh, is that allowed? Su Meng was dumbfounded. Chu Mo's response was completely Do the inner sect senior brothers and sisters and the gatekeepers recognize Jing Tuan or the affairs office now? Chu Mo asked in return. Su Meng's mind flashed like lightning, and he suddenly understood. Soon Jing Tuan bypassing the affairs office not only suffered no impact on business, but by eliminating the cut taken by the affairs office, enjoyed higher profits. The delivery disciples were making a fortune and became even more motivated. When Ma Yong heard this, he was so enraged that he smashed an entire set of his beloved furniture in his own courtyard. Useless. A bunch of useless fools. He hadn't expected that Chu Mo had already dug a pit for him. This kid was practically infallible. Chu Mo, let's see just how capable you really are. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Ma Yong immediately sent someone to contact Lin Zheng. He asked Lin Zheng for 3 inner sect disciples at the Foundation establishment stage, intending to use force directly attack Chu Mo and force him to hand over his enterprises. Most crucially, the seasoning recipe in Chu Mo's possession. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chu Mo had learned of this through his intelligence network. He had probed Ma Yong's information the moment he first saw him. Now, every move Ma Yong made was under the system's surveillance. With a thought, Chu Mo's consciousness reached out to Luo Zhiyin through the spiritual link established by the soul contract. Within the inner sect Luo Zhiyin's cave dwelling, she sat cross-legged, surrounded by threads of cold aura, as ethereally pure as a moon palace fairy. Through secluded cultivation, she had completed the initial conversion to the void heavenly ice soul art, and her internal spiritual power was now more than twice as robust as before. Both her combat strength and endurance had undergone a qualitative leap. This brought a hint of hard-to-suppress joy to her heart. During this time, that demon Chu Mo had not summoned her for dual cultivation, and she was happy to have peace. Just then a familiar voice suddenly echoed in her mind, "My sound slave, come see me in the outer sect." It was the Moss. Chu Mo. Luo Zhiyin was interrupted, irritation rising within her, a touch of indignation. That demon. What did he? Yet beneath that irritation there was a faint hint of an anticipation she herself was unwilling to admit. She wanted to quash that hint of anticipation, but she found herself unable to do so. She could only repeatedly admonish herself in her heart, she must not sink. She had to find a way to break free from that demon's control. However, this obsession compared to the beginning had weakened terribly over time. Ma Yong, accompanied by several imposing inner sect disciples, stormed into Chu Mo's steward courtyard. "Chu Mo, get out here," Ma Yong barked. The courtyard door creaked open, revealing the scene within. Chu Mo sat calmly in his chair, as if the tense confrontation before him had nothing to do with him. Behind him, a seductive figure knelt on the soft couch, her delicate hands gently kneading his shoulders. It was the most beautiful female disciple in the outer sect. The goddess of countless outer sect disciples' dreams was now like a docile kitten, meekly serving Chu Mo, a hint of allure subtly playing in her eyes. At the sight, Ma Yong's eyes turned red with jealousy. How could this be? He naturally knew Su Ro had long coveted her, and tried every means to curry favor, yet had never even touched her hand. What had Chu Mo, this brat, done to deserve this? Chu Mo, you have colluded with demonic cultivators, a heinous crime. Today I shall act on heaven's behalf and arrest you. Ma Yong pointed at Chu Mo, his voice distorted by extreme jealousy. He had lost all reason. The several inner sect disciples behind him were all at the early foundation establishment stage. They were sent by Elder Lin Zheng to assist Ma Yong, naturally aware that the true purpose was to capture Chu Mo and seize Jing Tuan. As for the charge of colluding with demonic cultivators, it was merely a high-sounding excuse. Yet little did they know there was such a thing in the world as hitting the mark by accident. Senior brothers, I am in your debt. Ma Yong clasped his hands toward the inner sect disciples, his tone in great. The inner sect disciples remained expressionless, merely nodding slightly, their eyes locking onto Chu Mo like hawks as they stepped closer. The air was thick with murderous intent. Suddenly, A flash of cold light appeared from the sky, followed by a delicate flying sword imbued with cold aura deeply embedded in the ground before the disciples, blocking their path. A clear, cool voice rang out, "Who among you dares to touch him? Who dares to touch him?" A voice as cold as jade striking ice rang out, carrying an undeniable authority, suddenly echoing at the entrance of the small courtyard. Ma Yong and the few inner disciples started collectively turning their gaze toward the source. A figure in moon-white robes stood gracefully at the gate, her posture elegant, yet her aura as chilling as tint of sandy-rolled ice, keeping all at a distance. She held a gleaming autumn water longsword, its tip slanting toward the ground. Her phoenix eyes were icy, sweeping over everyone in the courtyard without a trace of emotion. It was none other than Luo Zhiyin. "Luo, senior sister Luo." The inner disciples recognized her, their expressions shifting drastically, fear flickering in their eyes. Luo Zhiyin's reputation in the inner sect was considerable, not only for her peerless beauty, but also for her formidable cultivation at the late foundation establishment stage and her ruthless, decisive style. The few of them were merely at the early foundation establishment. Even together they were no match for Luo Zhiyin. "Senior sister Luo, what is the meaning of this?" The leading inner disciple braced himself and asked cautiously. They could not fathom how Chu Mo, an outer sect steward, could have any connection with an inner sect prodigy like Luo Zhiyin. "I said, who dares to touch him?" Luo Zhiyin's voice remained icy, but the intangible sword intent made the inner disciples feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave, their bodies shivering with cold. "Senior sister Luo, we are acting on Elder Lin Zheng's orders." "Lin Zheng?" Luo Zhiyin curled her lips into a mocking smile. "What does he think he is? And he dares to command me?" At these words, the inner disciples were terrified out of their wits. Even disregarding Elder Lin Zheng, was Luo Zhiyin out of her mind? Or did she have an even greater backing? They dared not speak further, afraid to provoke this fearsome figure, and all began to retreat. "Senior sister Luo, this is a misunderstanding. We're leaving now." The group, as if pardoned, scrambled to flee this place of trouble. Ma Yong, seeing this, panicked and shouted, "Senior brothers, don't go. This Chu Mo is colluding with demonic cultivators. You can't." But the inner disciples dared not linger any longer, running off without a backward glance. For the sake of an outer sect steward offending someone as ruthless as Luo Zhiyin, they weren't that foolish. Ma Yong stared at the now empty gate, his face alternating between pale and flushed, filled with shock and fury. He never imagined Chu Mo had such a trump card as Luo Zhiyin. "Steward Ma." Chu Mo slowly rose from his chair, wearing his signature inorganic smile. "Now it's you? What do you think you're doing?" Ma Yong blustered, his voice fierce, but his heart weak. "I am the chief steward. If you dare touch me, it's insubordination against sect rules." Before he could finish, Chu Mo's figure appeared before him like a ghost. Slap. A sharp slap landed hard on Ma Yong's plump face. Ma Yong shrieked, spinning like a top before crashing to the ground, stars spinning before his eyes. One side of his face visibly swelled, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "Insubordination." Chu Mo looked down at him, his tone flat. "I'm beating you precisely because you're the chief steward." He raised his foot and kicked Ma Yong hard in the chest. Ma Yong struck heavily, spat out a mouthful of blood. His body curled like a shrimp, flying backward out of the small courtyard, landing heavily on the stone path outside with a dull thud. Just then, chaotic footsteps sounded outside the courtyard. "Steward Chu. Steward Chu, are you all right?" Su Meng led a large group of outer disciples charging in aggressively. They had heard that Ma Yong had brought inner disciples to trouble Chu Mo and had come specifically to support him. Seeing Ma Yong on the ground spitting blood and Chu Mo unharmed in the courtyard alongside the cold white-robed woman, everyone was stunned. Steward Ma?" Su Meng asked uncertainly. Ma Yong struggled to his feet. Seeing Su Meng and the other outer disciples, whom he usually bullied at will, he regained some confidence. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he pointed at Chu Mo and barked at Su Meng and the others. "What are you standing there for? This Chu Mo has committed insubordination by beating a chief steward. Seize him. They'll take responsibility if anything happens." But Su Meng and the others remained still, looking at Ma Yong with pity in their eyes. "Steward Ma, have you gone senile?" Su Meng sneered. "Steward Chu has treated us with great kindness. Why would we listen to you?" "Exactly. Steward Ma, you've been skimming our monthly allowances and throwing your weight around. We've long been tired of you. Today Steward Chu stands up for us. We're overjoyed." The outer disciples chimed in, their words filled with resentment toward Ma Yong and support for Chu Mo. Ma Yong trembled with rage, pointing at Su Meng and the others, sputtering without forming a complete sentence. He never expected these outer disciples, whom he regarded as ants, to openly defy his orders. "Everyone," Chu Mo's voice rang out calmly. "Steward Ma's care for you all is well known. Today I give you an opportunity. Beat him to death. He'll take the blame." At these words, the outer disciples' eyes lit up with excitement like wolves seeing fresh meat. "Steward Chu is mighty. Brothers, let's get him." Su Mang led the charge, kicking Ma Yong in the stomach. Then dozens of outer disciples swarmed in fists and feet, raining down on Ma Yong. Ouched! Stop hitting me. I was wrong. I admit it. Ma Yong's screams and pleas rose and fell, but they did nothing to stop the outer disciples from venting their pent-up grievances. Having endured Ma Yong's oppression and exploitation for so long, they now had the chance for revenge, and soon Ma Yong was battered and bruised, covered in wounds, lying on the ground like a dead dog, barely breathing. Enough. Chu Mo waved his hand. The group reluctantly stopped. Several inner disciples carried Ma Yong away like a dead dog. Weakly, Ma Yong glared at Chu Mo, his eyes filled with venom and unwillingness. Chu Mo, just you wait. Elder Linzheng, we'll never let you off. Su Ro, standing behind, Chu Mo watched Ma Yong's miserable end with a trace of worry in her eyes. Master, after all, Ma Yong is Linzheng's man. If they investigate. She feared that if a thorough investigation were conducted, the charges might not be false, because Chu Mo had indeed colluded with her, a demonic cultivator. No matter. Chu Mo waved his hand to reassure her. He turned to Su Mang and the others. Clean this place up. Yes, Steward Chu. Ignoring the commotion outside, Chu Mo turned to Luo Zhiyin. Senior Sister Luo, please come inside. Let's catch up. A flicker of subtle emotion passed through Luo Zhiyin's cold phoenix eyes. She inclined her head slightly and followed Chu Mo into the small courtyard. Su Mang and the others felt even greater admiration for Chu Mo. Even an inner sect prodigy like Luo Zhiyin showed such deference to Steward Chu. His methods were truly unfathomable. Inside the courtyard, Chu Mo closed the gate and set up a soundproofing formation. The Luo Zhiyin, who moments ago had been cold, proud, and imposing outside, now seemed a completely different person. She dropped to her knees before Chu Mo with a thud, her forehead pressed against the cold ground. Her voice trembled slightly, yet was utterly submissive. Slave? Pays respects to master. Chu Mo walked over and looked down at her. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting light on her graceful curves, outlining an alluring silhouette. Rise. Chu Mo's tone was flat. Thank you, master. Luo Zhiyin stood up slowly, still keeping her head low, not daring to meet his eyes. Her meek and humble demeanor was a stark contrast to her earlier attitude outside. Chu Mo was pleased with her obedient behavior. He walked to the table, sat down, poured himself a cup of tea, and asked leisurely, Slave, how is your cultivation of the Void Heaven Ice Soul art progressing? Reporting to Master, Slave has completed the initial conversion to the Void Heaven Ice Soul art, and my realm is now approaching the peak of foundation establishment. Luo Zhiyin's voice was soft, tinged with complex emotions. On one hand, she loathed Chu Mo's control and humiliation. On the other, the Void Heaven Ice Soul art was indeed the supreme technique she had always dreamed of, greatly enhancing her power and competitiveness. This conflicting emotion made her feelings for Chu Mo increasingly difficult to articulate. Oh, peak foundation establishment. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow, a meaningful smile crossing his face. Perfect. I need to assess the results of your cultivation conversion. Luo Zhiyin's delicate body trembled faintly, her white teeth lightly biting her lower lip. She understood perfectly what Chu Mo meant by assessing results. Scenes of humiliation and absurdity flashed through her mind like nightmares. But she dared not resist, could not resist. Bound by the soul contract, she had no choice but to obey. Yes, master. Luo Zhiyin lowered her head, her voice as soft as a mosquito, laced with resignation. Chu Mo nodded with satisfaction, scooped her up horizontally, and strode toward the inner chamber's bed. After a bout of intimacy, Chu Mo felt refreshed, his spiritual energy surging violently within him as if about to burst forth. Luo Zhiyin, after completing the conversion to the Void Heaven Ice Soul art, was indeed extraordinary. The power of her extreme cold Taiyin meridian perfectly complemented the yin-yang harmonization technique of the Hongming heavenly governance art. The effect of dual cultivation was several times stronger than before. At this moment, Chu Mo's cultivation had firmly entered the 6th layer of qi refining. His combat power had soared to 9 times that of cultivators at the same level. An ordinary qi refining peak cultivator would likely not last a single move against him. Even against early foundation establishment cultivators, Chu Mo was confident of standing undefeated. If he also used his trump card, the Heaven Silk Web, he could even contend with mid-foundation establishment cultivators. Excellent, excellent. Chu Mo stroked Luo Zhiyin's jade-smooth back. Others admired Luo Zhiyin superficially, but Chu Mo could penetrate her very core. Luo Zhiyin curled lazily in Chu Mo's arms, her hair disheveled, her pretty face still flushed. Her usually cold phoenix eyes now held a layer of misty intoxication. She could clearly sense that Chu Mo's strength had made another astonishing leap. This man was simply a monster. To be honest, Chu Mo suddenly leaned close to her ear, his warm breath brushing her sensitive earlobe, his voice tinged with mockery. During this time, when I didn't seek you out, did you actually miss me? After all, her body was far more honest. I don't know.
Luo Zhiyin jerked away from Chu Mo's embrace like a cat, with its tail stepped on. She pulled the blanket tightly around herself, her face burning red, but her voice betrayed a hint of panic. In truth, she felt a sense of being finally fulfilled. But she could never admit it, nor could she accept it in her heart. Chu Mo found her reaction amusing. Meanwhile, at Lin Zhang's cave dwelling in the inner sect, Ma Yong, battered and bruised, tearfully recounted the inhuman treatment he had suffered at Chu Mo's hands. Elder Lin, you must seek justice for me. Ma Yong knelt on the ground wailing. That bastard Chu Mo, relying on the backing of a late Foundation establishment inner disciple, not only openly beat me, the chief steward, but also incited the outer disciples to rebel. He has no regard for sect law, utter lawlessness. Listening to Ma Yong's lament, a deep shadow darkened Lin Zhang's eyes, almost dripping with gloom. He never imagined Chu Mo would be so troublesome, not only defusing his attack, but also thoroughly subduing the man he had sent. You say, Lin Zhang spoke softly. You can't even handle an outer disciple. What use are you? Ma Yong trembled with fear and immediately kowtowed. Elder Lin, please calm your anger. Chu Mo is full of tricks, and with Luo Zhiyin protecting him, I really... Enough. Lin Zhang cut him off, speaking slowly. I will find a way to deal with his inner sect support. As for Chu Mo himself, a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. Since he won't take the polite approach, he'll have to suffer the consequences. Lin Zhang began to scheme how to utterly destroy Chu Mo without alerting other elders, and to seize the lucrative Jing Group business. Chu Mo was unaware of Lin Zhang's sinister intentions. At that moment, under Zhao Qing's introduction, he once again arrived at Jiang Shiguang's courtyard. Elder Jiang. Chu Mo cupped his fist in salute, his expression calm. Jiang Shiguang gazed at the Chu Mo before him, a myriad of emotions surging within his heart. He had never imagined that this outer disciple he once regarded as a castaway could stir such monumental waves in the outer sect within so short a time. The sensational success of the Jing Tuan had naturally reached his ears. He had even dispatched his own men to sample its fare. The taste was indeed nothing short of extraordinary. Chu Mo, Jiang Shiguang, said, a smile spreading across his face, his tone far more cordial than before. What brings you to see me this time? Elder Jiang, let us speak plainly. Chu Mo cut straight to the point. I seek your intervention to protect my Jing Tuan from harm. Oh. Jiang Shiguang raised an eyebrow. Elaborate. Elder Lin Zhang dispatched the outer sect's chief steward Ma Yong to coerce me into surrendering the Jing Tuan. I sent him away, Chu Mo stated calmly. Sent him away. A flicker of surprise crossed Jiang Shiguang's eyes, quickly replaced by understanding. For Chu Mo to become an outer sect steward in such a short time, he must have mastered the Void Heaven Ice Soul art. A heaven-grade lower-rank technique was a devastating advantage in the outer sect. Even with Chu Mo's cultivation at only Qi refining layer 6, dealing with Ma Yong was trivial. No wonder he had triggered Qi intake within half a stick of incense, turning the impossible into reality. Chu Mo continued. Elder Lin Zhang is vengeful and will never let this rest. I fear he will resort to even more despicable means next. So you want me to help you counter Lin Zhang? Jiang Shiguang stroked his long beard, a sharp glint in his eyes. Not to counter him. Chu Mo shook his head. I know you and Lin Zhang have long been at odds. What I propose is an alliance to bring him down completely. Bring down Lin Zhang. Jiang Shiguang frowned at the words. He took a long, hard look at Chu Mo. Low in cultivation, yet vast in ambition, and sharp enough to seize upon interests swiftly. Fortunately, he had never antagonized Chu Mo. Otherwise, he would not dare allow him to grow. What value do you think you can offer to make me cooperate? Jiang Shiguang asked gravely. First, the Jing Tuan now generates substantial profits. I am willing to offer you 50,000 lower-grade spirit stones every month as tribute. Chu Mo laid out his chips. 50,000 lower-grade spirit stones. Jiang Shiguang's pupils contracted sharply. That sum exceeded his own monthly income. If such a revenue stream could be sustained monthly, Jiang Shiguang had to admit he was tempted. He gazed at Chu Mo's unruffled face and sighed inwardly. He had truly misjudged this young man. This lad was clearly a latent dragon. Chu Mo continued. Second, I will rally other elders to isolate Lin Zhang. As for the method, Elder Jiang need not worry. I am confident I can accomplish it. Excellent. Jiang Shiguang slammed the table with a hearty laugh. Chu Mo, from this day forth your Jing Tuan affairs are mine. If Lin Zhang dares to lay a hand on you, I will be the first to oppose him. He knew that accepting such a generous offer meant a complete break with Lin Zhang and open confrontation. But for such immense benefits and the chance to topple his old foe, it was a gamble worth taking. Thank you, Elder Jiang. Chu Mo cupped his fist in gratitude, an imperceptible smile tugging at his lips. Forging an alliance with Jiang Shiguang was only the first step of his plan. Next, he would draw even more elders into his camp. He aimed to create a vast community of shared interests, turning the entire Qingshi Sword Sect into shareholders of his Jing Tuan. Leaving Jiang Shiguang's courtyard, Chu Mo wasted no time, and visited several other powerful elders within the sect. These elders, some at odds with Lin Zheng, others neutral, were unanimously covetous of the Jing Tuan lucrative prize. Chu Mo catered to their desires, appealing to reason and emotion while promising substantial rewards. In the end, he successfully recruited them all as invisible shareholders of the Jing Tuan. Of course, the price was giving away a large portion of the Jing Tuan profits. But Chu Mo did not mind. What he sought was not merely spirit stones, but the power and connections these elders represented. With their backing, his position as chairman of the Jing Tuan would be as unshakable as Mount Tai. Meanwhile, he would act as the CEO of this vast commercial empire, wielding true authority. After accomplishing all this, Chu Mo leisurely returned to the outer sect. He knew that a vast net had been quietly cast against Lin Zheng. Now he only needed to wait for the prey to walk in of its own accord. He could sit back and watch the tigers fight, stepping in to clean up the mess afterward. Back in his cave dwelling, Lin Zheng was so furious he swept a set of precious jade teacups off the table, shattering them into pieces. Outrageous! Outrageous! His face contorted, his eyes bloodshot like a ravenous beast, all traces of his usual geniality gone. In recent days, he had mobilized every connection and method within the sect to suppress Chu Mo's Jing Tuan. And what was the result? Obstruction at every turn. Those elders who usually called him brother, or at least maintained a veneer of civility, now seemed to have conspired together, paying him lip service or even stabbing him in the back. He tried to cut off the Jing Tuan food supply at the source, only to have the elder in charge of procurement reject the request on the grounds of market freedom must not be interfered with. He wanted the law enforcement hall to seal the Jing Tuan for disturbing the outer sect order, but that old rogue Jiang Shiguang personally intervened, claiming the Jing Tuan promoted prosperity in the outer sect and should be encouraged. He tried to send men to cause trouble at the Jing Tuan, but before they could get close, a group of inner disciples who got wind of the situation kindly persuaded them to leave. Those inner disciples were all under other elders. Every incident reeked of conspiracy. Lin Zheng was no fool. He sensed an invisible net tightening around him. And Chu Mo was the one weaving that net. Investigate. Lin Zheng growled at a confidant lurking in the shadows. Find out, what sorcery did that little beast Chu Mo use to make so many elders speak for him? Yes, elder. The confidant accepted the order and hurried away. Days later, a detailed investigative report, engraved on a jade slip, lay before Lin Zheng. When he read its contents, his vision went dark, and he nearly spat blood. The report stated clearly Chu Mo, using shares of the Jing Tuan as bait, had successfully won over nearly every powerful elder in the sect, except for Lin Jing's own faction. Jiang Shiguang went without saying. That old rogue was already his mortal enemy. But the others, elders who usually kept to themselves, even some who had once received favors from him, had all been bound to Chu Mo with interests. The terrifying profitability of the Jing Tuan was an irresistible temptation for these elders. That little beast Chu Mo had turned the Jing Tuan into a massive community of shared interests. And Lin Zheng was perfectly isolated. Now whoever dared to touch Chu Mo or the Jing Tuan would be striking at these elders' moneybags. Could they tolerate that? Puffed. Unable to hold back any longer, Lin Zheng spewed a mouthful of blood, staining the ground before him. His eyes were wide and bloodshot, fixed on the report, as his body trembled violently with extreme rage. Chu Mo. Chu Mo. He gritted out the two words, his voice hoarse, filled with endless venom and a faint trace of fear. In just a few months, this existence he had thought of as an ant had grown with such deep cunning and ruthless tactics. Even he, a seasoned fox who had schemed for years within the sect, felt a chill if he allowed Chu Mo to continue developing. Lin Zheng dared not imagine. He knew that between him and Chu Mo it was now almost a fight to the... Meanwhile, in the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect, Chu Mo's days were proceeding smoothly. With the backing of Jiang Shiguang and other inner sect elders, the Jing Tuan business flourished like the midday sun, spirit stones pouring into his storage pouch like flowing water. The entire outer sect had practically become his own domain, which outer steward did not bow and scrape respectfully, calling him Steward Chu upon seeing him. As for the ordinary outer disciples, they revered him like a deity and were utterly loyal. After all, following Steward Chu meant meat on the table, a tangible benefit. The formerly arrogant chief steward Ma Yong had become a mere figurehead. Every day, he walked on eggshells, terrified that Chu Mo might find a reason to depose him. He had tried to seek help from elder Lin Zheng, but Lin Zheng was already struggling to save himself, let alone care for this lackey. Ma Yong was utterly despairing. He knew his power in the outer sect had been thoroughly usurped by Chu Mo. One day in Chu Mo's small courtyard, Su Meng was reporting the Jing Tuan recent revenue with great excitement. Steward Chu, you should see how enthusiastically the inner sect senior brothers and sisters order takeout from our Jing Tuan. Our net profit this month has doubled again. Su Meng's face was full of fawning smiles. Chu Mo nodded in satisfaction and casually rewarded Su Meng
with a few medium-grade spirit stones. Well done. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Boss Chu. Su Meng took the spirit stones, beaming with joy. Just then an outer disciple rushed in. Steward Chu. Steward Chu. Great news. The greatest news. What's all the fuss about? Chu Mo raised an eyebrow. Ma Yong, that old bastard has been dismissed, the disciple said excitedly. I heard it was a joint petition from several elders above, and the sect master himself issued the order. Oh, a flash of understanding crossed Chu Mo's eyes. So Jiang Shiguang and the others were cleansing Lin Zheng's influence in the outer sect to firmly secure the Jing Tuan interests. Ma Yong was merely the first sacrificial lamb. And who is the new chief steward? Chu Mo asked nonchalantly. Not yet appointed, Boss Chu. However, the disciple paused, a meaningful smile on his face. We all believe this position is destined. Su Meng quickly chimed in. Yes, Boss Chu. You are already the uncrowned king of our outer sect. Who else but you deserves the chief steward's seat? Chu Mo leaned back in his chair, tilting his head and propping his cheek with his hand. Chief steward. He had little interest in that position now. After all, everyone knew who truly called the shots in the outer sect. All right, I understand. Chu Mo waved his hand. Focus on the Jing Tuan affairs. As for the chief steward's position, he paused. It's unnecessary for me. His true ambition was not limited to this petty outer sect. He aimed for the entire Qingshi Sword Sect. Even a broader world. Night. In Chu Mo's bedchamber, red candles flickered, the atmosphere steeped in passion. Su Ro clung to Chu Mo like an octopus, her seductive eyes brimming with allure, her breath soft as orchid. Master, you are truly majestic now. Her delicate finger traced idle circles on his firm chest, her voice honeyed and bewitching. Your ruler is so fortunate to have you as her master. Chu Mo pinched her sharp chin. Oh, is that so? Of course. Su Ro offered him a fragrant kiss. Whatever you wish, Master Ruler will obey. She was now completely convinced by Chu Mo. This man's strength was unfathomable and his methods were extraordinary. Following him might indeed allow her to avenge her family. Of course, the prerequisite was earning Chu Mo's true. Su Ro lay languidly in Chu Mo's arms, then suddenly spoke. Master, I've recently uncovered a piece of news. I'm not sure if I should share it. Speak. I heard that a certain elder's personal disciple has recently emerged from seclusion. That elder holds no real power, but is feared throughout the sect due to his formidable strength. That personal disciple is said to be aloof and unfeeling. The elder wishes to temper her character, teach her to interact with others and manage subordinates, so he plans to send her to the outer sect as temporary chief steward. She is at the golden core stage. If she tries to command us, it will be difficult to refuse. Su Rao's eyes glimmered with concern. That elder had not accepted any tribute from Chu Mo. A golden core personal disciple. Chu Mo raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Chu Mo's eyes flickered. He'll see what trick she can pull. He patted Su Rao's curvaceous bottom. Well done. Report any important intelligence to me promptly in the future. Yes, master. Su Ro replied obediently, inwardly delighted. It seemed she had taken another step closer to earning Chu Mo's trust. Several days later, on a secluded mountain path connecting the inner sect to the outer sect of the Qingshi Sword Sect, a figure of breathtaking beauty walked gracefully from the depths of the mist. She wore a simple, elegant pale green Taoist robe devoid of any makeup, yet her appearance was nothing short of breathtaking, a beauty that could topple kingdoms. Her skin was fairer than snow, her brows like distant hills, and her eyes like autumn waters. As she walked, her black hair gently stirred in the breeze, ethereal and otherworldly, like an immortal descending from heaven, untouched by the mundane. This woman was none other than Mu Qingli, the personal disciple of Elder Su Hui, one of the most powerful elders of the inner sect. She had just emerged from a seclusion that lasted several years when she received her master's decree to proceed to the outer sect and temporarily assumed the role of chief steward. To temper her character, learned to interact with others and manage subordinates. Mu Qingli had no objection to her master's arrangement. Since childhood, she had possessed an intense sense of justice, abhorred evil, and vowed to cleanse the world of all filth and uphold the righteous path. In her view, the outer sect was a chaotic mix of good and bad, and it was precisely the kind of place where she could realize her ambitions and rectify the order. As she reached a stone staircase, Mu Qingli's delicate brows furrowed slightly. She noticed a stone lantern by the roadside that had been knocked slightly askew by unknown hands. She stopped, reached out her slender jade hand, carefully straightened the lantern, adjusting it to perfect symmetry with the adjacent one, and then nodded with satisfaction. She continued on her way. A few spirit herbs by the roadside had their leaves covered in dust. Mu Qingli stopped again, letting out a soft sigh. She took out a pristine white silk handkerchief and gently wiped every speck of dust from each leaf until they shone like new. After doing this, a flash of joy passed through her eyes, and she resumed walking. Just then a figure hurriedly approached from ahead. Upon seeing Mu Qingli, his face immediately broke into a broad smile. Senior Sister Mu. Senior Sister Mu, please wait. The newcomer was Lin Wujie. Lin Zheng, having learned of Mu Qingli's emergence from seclusion and her upcoming appointment as chief steward of the outer sect, had sent Lin Wujie to wait here specifically. Both father and son knew this was a golden opportunity not to be missed. You are. Mu Qingli's calm gaze swept over Lin Wujie, her voice indifferent and devoid of emotion. Lin Wujie cupped his hands in salute. I am Lin Wujie, son of Elder Lin Zheng. Upon hearing this, Mu Qingli's eyes showed a hint of understanding. She then asked, is there something? I heard you were going to the outer sect as temporary chief steward, so I came specially to warn you. You may not know, but the outer sect has already fallen into complete chaos. Lin Wujie put on an anguished expression, his voice filled with indignation. Oh, Mu Qingli raised an elegant brow. It's all that Chu Mo's fault. Lin Wujie ground his teeth, exaggerating his accusations that man is deep and scheming, ruthless in his methods. In less than 2 months since entering the sect, he has been throwing his weight around in the outer sect, forming factions and bullying others. First, he assaulted the original steward Wang, a subordinate, attacking a superior, and forcibly seized the steward position. Then he went even further, driving away the diligent chief steward Ma Yong, turning the entire outer sect into his own personal fiefdom. Now the outer sect is corrupt and in turmoil. The disciples know only Chu Mo, not the sect's rules. If this continues, will the righteous reputation of our Qingshi Sword Sect be ruined beyond repair? Lin Wujie spoke with great emotion, as if he were the loyal and righteous one worrying about the sect's future. Mu Qingli listened quietly, and in her beautiful autumn-like eyes a layer of frost gradually formed. She detested those who broke rules and disrupted order above all else. Chu Mo. She remembered that name. Thank you for informing me, junior brother Lin. Mu Qingli nodded slightly. I will handle this matter myself. Seeing this, Lin Wujie rejoiced inwardly, but his face still wore a worried expression. Senior sister Mu sees through everything. You will surely restore a clear and bright atmosphere to the outer sect. Wujie wishes you a triumphant start. Mu Qingli said no more, walked past Lin Wujie, and continued on her way toward the outer sect. Lin Wujie watched her retreating figure, a cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Chu Mo, let's see how you die this time. Qingshi Sword Sect, outer sect. Chu Mo had already received the news, and was now waiting outside the courtyard of the new chief steward, accompanied by Su Meng, Zhou Wei, and other core members of the Jing group, as well as dozens of outer sect disciples. Su Ro was not present. Before long, a figure in green descended like a celestial maiden from the 9 heavens. All the outer sect disciples present were stunned by her peerless beauty and ethereal aura, momentarily forgetting to breathe. So beautiful. Is this the new chief steward? She is even more exquisite than the so-called fairies of the inner sect. Chu Mo's gaze also lingered on Mu Qingli for a moment, and then his mind stirred. Target Mu Qingli. Cost for peeping 1 mid-grade spirit stone, 100 low-grade spirit stones. Golden core stage. Just as Su Ro had said. Peep. Name Mu Qingli. Identity: personal disciple of Qingshi Sword Sect, inner sect chief steward of outer sect temporary. Cultivation: early golden core. Cultivation: art supreme, profound heaven sword art, earth grade superior. Physique: glazed jade body rare. Important info: personal disciple of Elder Su Hui, sent by her master to gain experience in the outer sect and rectify it. Personality: aloof and naive, suffers from severe obsessive compulsive disorder and misophobia, abhors evil, believes that ordinary mortals are ignorant and unenlightened, needing guidance on the righteous path. Mu Qingli has been deceived by Lin Wujie, holds a very poor impression of you, and intends to correct you, restructure the outer sect, and uphold righteousness. After reading the information, Chu Mo's eyes narrowed slightly. No time to dwell. Outer sect steward Chu Mo, together with all outer sect disciples, welcome Chief Steward Mu. Chu Mo stepped forward, cupped his hands in salute, his voice neither servile nor arrogant. Su Meng and the others quickly followed suit. Mu Qingli's gaze fell on Chu Mo, appraising him like an object devoid of any warmth. So you are Chu Mo? Yes. I heard that in the outer sect you are the one who calls the shots. Mu Qingli's tone was flat. Chu Mo's expression remained unchanged. Chief Steward Mu gests. Naturally, the outer sect is under your command. I am merely fulfilling my duties as a steward, seeking a little benefit from my fellow disciples. Seeking benefit. Mu Qingli shook her head. I suspect you are lining your own pockets and corrupting the sect's atmosphere instead. The air was thick with tension. The surrounding outer sect disciples hardly dared to breathe, all lowering their heads. They could sense that this new chief steward harbored intense hostility towards Steward Chu. Chu Mo remained calm. If Chief Steward Mu does not believe me, you may conduct an inspection yourself. Everything I have done in the outer sect can withstand scrutiny. Mu Qingli nodded. Then I shall take a look around. She wanted to see for herself what kind of person this Chu Mo, whom Lin Wujie had painted in such dark colors, really was. If he truly was as Lin Wujie described, she would punish him severely, without mercy, to set an example and restore justice. Mu Qingli moved with lotus-like grace, and wherever she passed the air itself seemed to grow fresher. Chu Mo followed unhurriedly at her side, serving as a guide. Su Mang Zhou Wei and the others trailed far behind, not daring to breathe loudly. General Manager Mu, over here is where our Jing group's delivery disciples prepare to set out. Chu Mo pointed at a row of disciples dressed in yellow uniforms, wearing rabbit ear helmets full of vigor. Mu Qingli's gaze swept over those bizarre outfits, and her brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. Such outlandish attire. What kind of propriety is this? Her voice was as gentle as a breeze, yet brooked no dissent. Those who cultivate immortality should remain pure in heart and mind, devoted solely to the Tao. Such ostentation will only disturb the nature of one's heart. Chu Mo explained. General Manager Mu, these uniforms are designed to help intersect senior brothers and sisters, identify them, preventing any petty characters from sneaking in. As for the design, it's merely a bit of ornamentation, which also helps the disciples feel a little happier while working. Happy. Mu Qingli's tone carried a hint of disapproval. Cultivation is an arduous task that requires perseverance. If one indulges in superficial pleasures, how can one ascend to the great Tao? She then looked at the neatly stacked food containers and the faint aroma of food drifting through the air. Cultivators have long transcended the need for food. Why indulge in the cravings of the mouth? Such mundane habits must be abandoned. What the general manager says is indeed correct. A cold glint flickered deep in Chu Mo's eyes as he shifted the topic. However, intersect senior brothers and sisters are busy with cultivation and occasionally need some diversion. Spirit food not only satisfies the palate, but also replenishes spiritual energy, which is not entirely without benefit to cultivation. Moreover, the operation of the Jing group also provides many outer sect disciples with a way to earn spirit stones, allowing them to have more resources for training rather than wasting time running after a few spirit stones, frittering away their years. Mu Qingli was silent for a moment upon hearing this. She was not an unreasonable person, but her worldview made her instinctively reject such mundane affairs. In her view, a sect should be a pure, tranquil place for cultivation, untainted by the vulgarities of the mortal world. The group arrived at the Jing group's central kitchen. The place was bustling with activity. A Zhou Wei was calmly directing a dozen disciples in handling ingredients and cooking spirit food. All sorts of ingredients were sorted and neatly arranged. The cookware was polished to a shine, and the floor was spotlessly clean. Even the fastidious Mu Qingli could find no flaw in terms of hygiene. Yet she still spoke. Cooking is a greasy, filthy affair. How can it befit a cultivator? The disciples laboring here, tainted by the smoke and fire, will find their cultivation hindered. Zhou Wei and the others all froze at her words, fear showing on their faces. Chu Mo stepped forward, shielding them. General Manager Mu, these disciples are all volunteers. Moreover, they work in shifts and still have ample time for cultivation. Within the sect, everyone has their duties. Someone has to do these tasks. If no one cooks, where will the intersect seniors and sisters get their spirit food? Mu Qingli said no more, but her limpid eyes lingered on Chu Mo for a long time. This Chu Mo, though his words seemed respectful, subtly challenged her every belief. Moreover, the outer sect disciples' trust in him far exceeded her expectations. This only strengthened her resolve to reorganize the outer sect. After the tour, they returned to the small courtyard where Mu Qingli was temporarily staying. Mu Qingli dismissed everyone, leaving only Chu Mo. She sat in the seat of honor, her expression returning to the aloofness and distance of their first meeting. Chu Mo, your disciple is here. Your Jing group, though it has some benefits, also breeds many ills. Mu Qingli spoke slowly, her voice utterly devoid of emotion. Outer sect disciples should take cultivation as their foundation, diligently training and serving the sect. Instead of indulging in mundane affairs and chasing petty gains, corrupting the sect's pure and upright atmosphere. She paused, then continued, from today onward 70% of all Jing group profits must be turned over to the general manager's office for unified distribution to outer sect construction and disciple training subsidies. Second, the uniforms of the Jing group's delivery disciples must be immediately replaced with the sect's standard outer sect disciple attire. No more of those mismatched costumes. Third, you must compile all operational methods, management practices, and exclusive spice recipes of the Jing group into a document, file it with my office, and make it public to all outer sect disciples. No secrets allowed. Fourth, I will personally take over the management authority of the Jing group. You will assist from the sidelines. Each command was like a cold knife stabbing straight at Chu Mo's vital points. This was not a reorganization. It was a total uprooting of the Jing group, an attempt to seize every bit of the foundation Chu Mo had painstakingly built. And if the spice recipes were made public, the Jing group's greatest advantage would vanish. Chu Mo sneered inwardly, yet his face remained calm as still water. The general manager is wise. He bowed slightly. Your disciple humbly obeys the general manager's orders. Mu Qingli nodded, somewhat satisfied with Chu Mo's pragmatism. In her eyes, though Chu Mo might have some cleverness before absolute power and righteousness, he was ultimately not. Go prepare. Within 3 days I expect results. Mu Qingli waved her hand, dismissing Chu Mo. Chu Mo bowed again and turned to leave. But in that moment of turning, a cold glint flashed in his deep eyes, unnoticed by anyone. At Jiang Shiguang's cave dwelling in the inner sect, Jiang Pingtian reported in detail everything that had happened in the outer sect. Master, that Mu Qingli came in with a heavy hand, clearly aiming to strip Chu Mo of his authority. Should we lend Chu Mo a hand? Jiang Pingtian asked. Jiang Shiguang twirled his prayer beads, a sly fox-like smile spreading across his face. Help? Why should we help? He said leisurely. This Mu Qingli is nothing but a green girl with cultivation, but no knowledge of the world's treachery. She thinks that with her status as Elder Su Hu's personal disciple, she can do whatever she pleases in the outer sect. That kid Chu Mo is no pushover. If he were so easily controlled, the Jing group would never have grown to its current scale. Jiang Pingtian pondered. Master, you mean? Wait. A sharp light flickered in Jiang Shiguang's eyes. If that kid Chu Mo can't hold on hell naturally, when that time comes, we'll step in. Not only will we earn a huge favor from him, but as for those dividends from the Jing, we can also raise them a bit. I expect the other elders are thinking the same way. Jiang Pingtian suddenly understood, admiring his master's scheming to the utmost. Master, your brilliance is unparalleled.